After the cold campus, Belle suddenly lost her hearing. She hated it most when people got close to her deaf left ear. Even the male took 5 whole years to barely make her drop her guard. But as the vicious male supporting character, I just didn't buy into that curse. I wanted to break this rule. I leaned in close to Liu Ruyan's left ear and whispered. My action was so sudden, right up against her injured ear. Liu Ruyan was clearly stunned for a moment, and then her eyes turned as cold as ice. She unceremoniously swatted my hand away. A red mark instantly welled up on my wrist. She caught a glimpse of the tears welling up in my eyes. How the hell are you so strong? Liu Ruyan rarely interacted with guys, let alone the guy who caused her injury, the main culprit. Without changing her expression, she spat out 2 words. Serves you right. Is she always this cold? No wonder she's always a loner. I grumbled inwardly. But on the outside, I put on an obedient act. I'm really sorry for getting you hurt, but... My tone suddenly shifted, throwing her own words right back at her, counterattacking without holding back. It serves you right too. With so many people around, why did you have to block me specifically? Liu Ruyan, don't tell me you've got your eyes on me. I don't know if my eyes were playing tricks on me, but the corners of her mouth seemed to twitch up slightly. Before I could get a closer look, Liu Ruyan was already glaring at me coldly. She still had a bruise on the corner of her mouth. I'd rather fall for a stray cat than ever have my eyes on you. That actually hurt a little. I froze on the spot, staring at Liu Ruyan in utter disbelief. My cheeks instantly flushed bright red. The scene outside the classroom flashed through my mind, and an inexplicable surge of anger flared up inside me. In a moment of agitation, I blurted out, "Do you like Shen Jiayan?" Liu Ruyan's eyes remained as indifferent as ever. Think whatever you want, but taking a step back, what does it matter to you who I have in my heart? It matters a whole lot. I bit my lower lip. I had my sights set on her beauty, so Liu Ruyan absolutely had to be mine. This young master has always done whatever he pleases, acting with absolute arrogance. What right does Shen Jiayan have to be compared to me? I felt my pride take a massive hit. I deliberately raised my voice and declared to Liu Ruyan, "You're going to regret this sooner or later." Whether she'd regret it or not, I had no idea. But right now, I just wanted to find a hole to crawl into. No matter how arrogant I usually was, I had never spouted such narcissistic nonsense before. Thinking back on it, it was so damn embarrassing. Returning to my comfortable room, I collapsed limply onto my massive bed, feeling completely drained of energy, not wanting to move an inch. I woke up early the next morning. There was a lot to deal with at school today, which was a real headache. I suddenly started missing the past, those good old days when I could sleep peacefully until I woke up naturally. High schoolers stay up late and wake up early every single day. No wonder they're always dozing off in class. I took the family's luxury car to school, stepping out ostentatiously right at the school gates, drawing a wave of admiring gazes. I let out a lazy yawn, dragging my feet forward half asleep. Suddenly, someone blocked my path. "Hey classmate, why aren't you wearing your uniform?" This guy was half a head shorter than me, wearing a disciplinary committee badge around his neck, sporting a neat short haircut, and speaking in a gentle, polite voice. I narrowed my eyes. Being bullied, he didn't seem to process it yet, which was normal, but my fighting spirit had already ignited. It was time to show off this young master's temper. I slightly raised my gorgeous peach blossom eyes and retorted with a careless attitude. "Is there something wrong with your eyes? If I'm not wearing it, I'm not wearing it." Seeing Shen Jiayan's aggrieved look, less than greater than. Looking just like a fragile, delicate lotus, less than greater than. I felt secretly smug. Less than greater than. Shen Jiayan had probably never met less than greater than anyone as unreasonable as me. He stood dazed for a long time before snapping back to reality, taking a deep breath, trying to suppress his grievance, his tone incredibly firm. Not wearing the uniform means a point deduction. A spoiled young master like me could really drive people crazy sometimes. So what if I'm handsome? It's just a pretty face. I obviously noticed his disgust, and my attitude immediately worsened. "Go ahead and deduct it." "I'm not stopping you," I said as I reached out and snatched the clipboard from his hands. "This young master's name is Mu Chen. Need me to write it down for you? Classmate Mu, please don't go too far." Shen Jiayan flusteredly took a few steps back, looking like he had suffered some massive injustice. Less than greater than. Making me feel like a total villain. Less than greater than. Before my fingers could even touch the clipboard, less than greater than, my wrist was forcefully grabbed by someone. Less than greater than. The grip was freakishly strong. Less than greater than. I couldn't help but cry out in pain. I struggled hard but couldn't break free. I glared angrily at the newcomer. Classmate Liu. I'm fine, just let him go first. A few students had gathered around at some point. Seeing Liu Ruyan step in to help, Shen Jian felt both happy and a little worried. He instinctively reached out to touch Liu Ruyan's hand that was tightly gripping mine. I don't know if it was a coincidence, but before his fingers could even touch Liu Ruyan, she let go of me a second earlier. It hurt so much that tears welled up in my eyes. That practically killed me. What the hell is wrong with this Liu Ruyan? How could her grip be that strong? I seriously thought my hand was going to snap. Shen Jian saw the red mark on my wrist and was startled too. Afraid I'd go looking for trouble with Liu Ruyan, he said, "Classmate Mu, your injury. Let me take you to the infirmary to put some ointment on it." I didn't appreciate his gesture in the slightest. My slightly red eyes widened in a glare as I irritably rejected him. Mind your own damn business. Liu Ruyan stepped sideways to shield Shen Jian, less than greater than, her sharp eyes locking onto my angry face. "I'll take you. Less than greater than. Classmate Liu, you don't have to do this from fine. Less than greater than. Then I want you to support me all the way there. Less than greater than." Liu Ruyan immediately frowned, just about to open her mouth to refuse, but she suddenly caught a glimpse of my slightly red eyes. The tears not even dried yet, and I was already finding ways to torment people. "Are you sure about that?" "Of course." I stubbornly glared back, putting on the full airs of a young master, but feeling a bit anxious inside. "What, you're not willing to carry me? You can hit me that hard for Shen Jian, but taking a trip to the infirmary with me makes you feel that wronged." Liu Ruyan let out a cold scoff, stepped right up to me, ignored Shen Jian trying to persuade her from behind, grabbed my arm and dragged me straight away. I was instantly dumbfounded, dragged several meters before I started struggling. "Liu Ruyan, where the hell are you taking me? Weren't you insisting on going to the infirmary? How does this posture look like we're going to the infirmary? It looks more like you're dragging me off to silence me. But how could this young master chicken out so easily?" I gulped and loudly demanded, "I told you to carry me on your back." Liu Ruyan completely ignored me. "Are you even listening to me?" She still didn't say a word. Now I was really pissed off. "Liu Ruyan, are you deaf or mute?" "I told you to." I was suddenly shoved away by her. Meeting her ice-cold gaze, my face instantly turned pale. My scolding abruptly stopped. Liu Ruyan's expression was terrifyingly dark. Being stared down by her sent chills down my spine. For once I actually felt a twinge of guilt, but I still had to keep up my arrogant facade. "Well, who told you to ignore me? I really didn't mean to bring up her ear. I just wanted to vent my frustration a little. This person flips her mood way too fast. Is she actually going to beat me up?" I glanced around out of the corner of my eye and realized there wasn't a single soul around. I suddenly felt a bit creeped out. Seeing Liu Ruyan start to move, I hastily backed away like I was avoiding a plague. Liu Ruyan didn't even spare me a glance, just dropping a single sentence. "Follow me." I stood there dumbfounded, having no idea what she was plotting. In the 2 seconds I stood there looking like an idiot, Liu Ruyan had already walked quite a distance. I had no choice but to grit my teeth and scurry after her. Arriving at the school infirmary, the school doctor prescribed a tube of anti-swelling ointment. My slow brain finally processed what was happening. "That'll be 120,000 Vietnamese dong. It's nothing serious. Just apply the ointment a few times and the swelling will go down." "Lovers quarrel, huh?" the school doctor said with a gossipy tone, then earnestly advised, "It's fine to argue, but you can't be so heavy-handed. This boy has such delicate skin. How could he handle such force?" Liu Ruyan pulled a few bills out of her pocket, some 10,000s, some 50,000s. Hearing the doctor's words, she furrowed her brows tightly, less than greater than, her face clearly screaming that she wanted nothing to do with me. Less than greater than. Seeing this attitude pissed me off. Less than greater than. I took out my phone and scanned the QR code to pay, covering the cost of the ointment myself. Then I smugly tilted my chin up and mocked. "So slow. If you don't have money in your pocket, stop acting like a big shot." The school doctor, who had just thought I was fragile, instantly looked at me with a very complicated expression. I didn't care what anyone else thought. I was just waiting to see Liu Ruyan humiliated. But she didn't bat an eye or skip a beat. Wearing that cold, aloof expression, she casually stuffed her loose change back into her pocket. Turns out she's thick-skinned too. She's probably secretly celebrating inside for saving that 120,000 Vietnamese dong. That's just way too stingy. But thinking about her ordinary living condition, I suddenly felt a surge of confidence. By the time we got to the classroom, the first period was already more than halfway over. The literature teacher was a kind old man. Seeing the two of us arrive late, he just said a few passing words and let us in. Are teachers all this nice nowadays? Being late for the very first class on the first day of school, I thought for sure would be punished by having to stand. But after thinking about it for a second, I understood. Shen Jian must have put in a good word for us beforehand, less than greater than. Otherwise, how could we have gotten off so easily? Less than greater than. I rolled my eyes hard. Less than greater than. Shen Jian obviously did this for Liu Ruyan. Less than greater than. I was just riding her coattails. Less than greater than. This young master has to see what Liu Ruyan looks like when she actually treats someone well. Less than greater than. What kind of expression would she have? I turned my head to look at the seat by the window. Shen Jian sat on the inside with his slender figure, while Liu Ruyan sat tall and straight, perfectly shielding more than half of his body. I saw Liu Ruyan tilt her head slightly, leaning closer to Shen Jian sitting on the inside. The shadows of the sycamore leaves outside the window swayed gently on the desk with the breeze. The aloof girl slightly bowed her head, next to the delicate boy showing a shy expression. What an eyesore of a scene. Wen Xiaobi lowered his voice and called me several times, but I was in no mood to pay attention. Seeing a teacher lecturing passionately on the podium, Wen Xiaobi leaned in close to gossip with me. You think there's something going on between those two too, right? My eyes flickered, pretending to be clueless. Who? Liu Ruyan and the class rep. Class rep? I deliberately feigned surprise. Shen Jian. I think that's his name. Wen Xiaobi replied, sounding a bit unsure. The literature teacher, who was also our homeroom teacher, had, in just half a class period, already appointed almost all the class officers. Because Shen Jian was on the disciplinary committee and had proactively excused us earlier, the homeroom teacher saw him as enthusiastic and responsible, and directly appointed him as the class representative. Wen Xiaobei changed the subject in a flash, recalling the drama from this morning. I heard you were at the school gates this morning, arguing with the class rep? Why? Wen Xiaobei didn't think. A mild-mannered class rep would dare to provoke this young master. He figured I was the one picking a fight, even though I'm usually a bit hot-tempered, and not that unreasonable. I wasn't wearing my uniform. He kept insisting on writing my name down. I told him I'd write it for him, and then he just randomly got mad. It wasn't even a big deal. I put on an innocent face. Wen Xiaobei's mouth twitched slightly. Young Master Mu, your way of helping others is truly unique. But luckily it's no deep-seated grudge. When Xiaobei secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to change the subject, I suddenly leaned into his ear and whispered a sentence. You're planning to go after Liu Ruyan. When Xiaobei jumped up in shock, his voice so loud the entire class heard it. The moment the words left his mouth, the quiet classroom fell dead silent. Eyes from all directions simultaneously locked onto us. I was speechless and rolled my eyes. Could you be any louder? I tried to ignore the probing gaze coming from the window, reaching out to pull Wen Xiaobei back down. Sir, we're really sorry. Please continue with the lesson. This is outrageous. What do you think this classroom is? A fish market. The teacher's scolding was cut short by the dismissal bell. He grabbed his book, walked to the door, and then paused. Liu Ruyan, come to my office. I need to have a word with you. Wen Xiaobei also realized he had just caused a disaster. Feeling the weird stares from our classmates, he guiltily apologized to me. You know how I am. I can't keep a secret to save my life. I didn't mind at all and waved it off. It's no big deal. Anyway, according to my current plan, I was going to make a huge scene out of pursuing Liu Ruyan. With my and Liu Ruyan's popularity at school, this was going to spread like wildfire sooner or later anyway. Being exposed now or later made no difference. The warning bell for the second period rang, but Liu Ruyan still hadn't returned from the office. As a top seed with hopes of becoming the provincial valedictorian, the homeroom teacher was definitely giving her an earful, saying things like, even though you're all grown up now. It wasn't until the final chime of the class bell rang that Liu Ruyan returned and sat properly in her seat, with the English teacher walking in right on her heels. The teacher's voice on the podium was incredibly soft and soothing, firing off a string of fluent English that was very pleasant to the ear. Liu Ruyan sat up straight, looking at the blackboard, but 10 minutes passed and she hadn't absorbed a single word. Her homeroom teacher's words kept echoing in her head. Liu Ruyan, you have to understand that people are different. Absolutely do not, for a moment of impulse, ruin your own bright future. Some people are born at the finish line, while you can only rely on yourself to fight your way up. The two of you are destined to be parallel lines. Even if you happen to intersect by chance, you will eventually drift apart. She actually understood this logic better than anyone. That's why she had answered without hesitation. I won't. Setting aside the fact that she had absolutely no good feelings toward me, even as she did have some special thoughts, she would never compromise for the sake of feelings. She understood perfectly well that a young master like me, making a grand declaration to pursue her, was probably just chasing a fleeting novelty, having never been rejected to my face before, so it was just my bruised ego acting up, refusing to accept defeat. The last period was PE. I sat lazily on the outdoor bleachers, crunching on the popsicle in my hand. A gentle breeze carrying the scent of the rubber track blew against my face in waves. The captain of the junior girls' basketball team, Shujiaja, kept glancing over in my direction. I smugly raised an eyebrow. This is the undeniable charm of this young master. When Xiaobei came back from the restroom, and as he walked past the junior girls playing basketball, he deliberately slowed his pace, acting incredibly refined and polite. But that basketball captain didn't even spare him a glance, her bright, clear eyes staring straight at me. Wen Xiaobei sat down next to me, his tone dripping with resentment. A handsome face like that, I want one in my next life too. I paused my popsicle biting, turned my head and locked eyes with Su Jiajia, who was peeking at me. Watching her fluster and accidentally throw the ball at her teammate, less than greater than. Then embarrassedly look away, less than greater than. I turned to the dejected Wen Xiaobei and said, less than greater than. This girl looks all right, less than greater than. But her basketball skills are absolute trash. Less than greater than. Being her teammate is pure bad luck. Young master, why do you think she missed that pass? Don't you know? Wen Xiaobei muttered in protest, weakly speaking up to defend the captain. Normally, Su Jiajia looks so cool playing basketball, and she's even won awards in tournaments. Won what awards? First place in peeping at handsome guys? Mu Chen. I covered my mouth, eyes crinkling into a smile, signaling that I'd stopped teasing him. I nudged Wen Xiaobei to bring a bottle of water over there and grab her contact info while he was at it. Wen Xiaobei blushed and waved his hands frantically, repeatedly saying he didn't have the guts for that. I looked at him, frustrated by his lack of spine. What's there to be afraid of? Just sweet talk a little and you'll get it. On the way home from school, Wen Xiaobei asked me how things were going. I told him what happened and sighed about how Liu Ruyan really was different from the rest. Hearing this, Wen Xiaobei's expression turned weird. She's in the class group chat, you know. No way, she doesn't even have a phone, I said as I pulled out my phone. The group admin required real names. I spotted Liu Ruyan with a single glance, my face twisted in pure anger. Seeing me like that and noticing his family's car had just arrived, Wen Xiaobei hurriedly said, Brother Chen, I'm heading back first. See you tomorrow. Leaving me standing there all alone, fuming. After dinner, lying on my massive soft bed, I searched through the class group chat and sent a friend request to Liu Ruyan. And she actually rejected me flat out. I shot up from the bed and stubbornly sent another request. This young master refuses to believe I can't add you. Somewhere else in the city, Liu Ruyan was riding her bike. The young girl's figure was slender and straight, her short hair fluttering gently in the night breeze. Her gaze was cold and deep, giving off a vibe that kept strangers at bay. The narrow alley had no streetlights, looking dark and dead silent. The phone in her pocket buzzed, its screen flashing non-stop. She pursed her lips slightly and pedaled faster. The smell in the alley was far from pleasant, and the soundproofing was terrible. From next door came the sound of a child being scolded, along with a couple arguing. Liu Ruyan's expression remained completely unfazed. She stopped her bike in front of her house, expertly locked and pulled out her keys to open the door. The cramped space came into full view. The furniture looked ancient. No matter how clean it was kept, you could still see the wear and tear. Her phone was still ringing endlessly. Liu Ruyan frowned, taking it out to check. Suddenly, someone knocked loudly on her door, accompanied by a woman's shrill voice. Ruyan, it's your aunt. I need to talk to you about something. Open the door first. The knocking grew louder and louder. A flash of disgust crossed Liu Ruyan's eyes, but she still turned and opened the door. Her tall frame blocked the middle-aged woman, her voice distant but polite. Auntie, what do you need? I called you several times. You kid, why didn't you pick up? The middle-aged woman's face showed obvious cunning. Your cousin is taking the high school entrance exam next year. You know how Chen Qi's grades are. We still need you to help tutor her. I'm busy. Facing her greedy aunt, Liu Ruyan truly had zero goodwill left and flatly refused. Hearing this, the middle-aged woman's expression changed instantly. What do you mean you're busy? Don't you have the weekends off? Liu Ruyan's face remained cold. I work part-time. Listen to me. The woman crossed her arms, dropping the gentle, fawning act from earlier. How about this? It's not like your auntie doesn't care about you. Just tutor your cousin on weekend afternoons, and I'll pay you for the tutoring, all right? Something that should have been again was spoken as if she were making a huge sacrifice. Liu Ruyan stood perfectly straight, stayed silent for a moment, neither agreeing nor refusing. In the woman's eyes, this was a tacit agreement. She turned and walked away, satisfied. The weekend arrived in the blink of an eye. It took me so much effort to track down the address. In the seating area of a milk tea shop, I found the two of them having a tutoring session. Liu Ruyan still had that same cold, arrogant face. Chen Qi sat opposite her, looking completely impatient, chewing on her pen and glaring at the test paper. So Liu Ruyan is tutoring someone. Wasn't she supposed to be a loner with no friends? I felt a bit surprised inwardly. Didn't they say she didn't get along with her aunt's family? I didn't dwell on it too much and walked straight into the milk tea shop, ordering a light fruit tea. I walked up behind Chen Qi, patted her shoulder. "Excuse me, give up your seat for a sec. I want to sit here." Staring intently at the test paper, Chen Qi raised her eyebrows, her face full of bitter resentment, looking fierce and aggressive. But after seeing my dazzlingly handsome face, she swallowed all her curses back down. Less than greater than. Her mind went blank as she stammered, Sure. Less than greater than. I ordered a milk tea. Less than greater than. I arrogantly lifted my chin. Less than greater than. Handed the receipt to Chen Qi and bossed her around. Go wait over there. Bring it to me when it's done. My eyes were fixed on Liu Ruyan the entire time. Her expression remained as indifferent as ever. Chen Qi finally snapped out of it a bit, realizing this handsome guy wasn't here for her, but she still couldn't bear to refuse. She glared at her older cousin, then went to wait for the milk tea, feeling wronged. I pulled the chair right next to her and plopped down. My restless hand snatched her pen away. Liu Ruyan's fingers paused slightly, then she decisively let go, letting me take it. My smile grew a bit wider. Taking a mile when given an inch, I leaned in close to her, our breaths almost mingling. Liu Ruyan suddenly stood up. The chair scraped against the floor with an ear-piercing screech. She strode right out of the milk tea shop. I hurriedly followed her out. We walked to a quiet, secluded corner before she finally stopped. She stared at me condescendingly, her voice completely flat. "I've already told you, I don't like you." I raised an eyebrow, acting like I couldn't care less. "So what? Like I give a damn who you like." "I don't think I've ever said this. Liu Ruyan, this young master has his eyes on you. You have no choice but to be by my side." Liu Ruyan's face turned ice cold. I arrogantly held my head high, putting on the perfect act of a spoiled rich kid, playing the part flawlessly. "Don't be ungrateful. With my looks and my family background, do you know how many people beg for my attention? I don't even spare them a glance. You're the one getting a good deal here." Liu Ruyan forcefully grabbed my wrist and pinned me against the wall. We were about a person's width apart. "Go find whoever's begging you then. I don't care what you look like or how powerful your family is." I couldn't care less. She then flung my hand away and turned back to the shop to pack her things. Chen Ke carefully held the milk tea and, seeing her return, peeked behind her, but didn't see the handsome guy she wanted to see. Just as she was about to ask, she was frightened by Liu Ruyan's gloomy aura. "What's going on? Where's the handsome guy? No way, what am I supposed to do with this milk tea?" Chen Ke was still in a daze. Seeing Liu Ruyan grab her bike to leave, she finally couldn't hold back anymore. "Is he coming to tomorrow's tutoring session too?" It went without saying who he was. Liu Ruyan's eyes were as cold as the dead of winter. "My notebook is tucked inside the textbook. There won't be any more tutoring sessions from now on." "What do you mean?" Chen Qi suddenly grew anxious. "You promised my mom. You even took the tutoring money." Liu Ruyan didn't know how her aunt had embellished the story, and she didn't care in the slightest. "I never agreed. I only came today to give you my notebook. This is the extent of what I can do." Her words sounded like she was drawing a clear line. Chen Qi instantly flared up. "You think a stupid notebook makes up for it? What about the favor of letting you live at our house when you were little? No wonder my mom calls you cold-blooded." Liu Ruyan had been about to leave. Hearing this, she turned to look at her, her gaze cold and calm. "My parents' compensation money. Has your family been enjoying spending it?" It sounded like a casual question, but Chen Qi was so shocked she froze in place. Slender, pale fingers whipped impatiently in front of her face. She finally snapped back to reality, only to find the handsome guy she'd been dreaming of. "Where's Liu Ruyan? I beat her to the punch, looking around in frustration. Chen Qi paused for a moment, her expression shifting rapidly. She left. She's gone. So what if she has long legs? I cursed frantically in my head. Suddenly remembering something, my expression softened a bit as I asked Chen Qi. You're Liu Ruyan's cousin, so you must know her pretty well, right? Chen Qi hesitated, unsure whether to shake her head. I probed further. Then do you know what kind of guys she likes? Or has she ever mentioned anyone to you? Tech, how boring. I didn't hear Shen Jiayan's name and felt a tiny bit disappointed. Well, you must at least know where she lives, right? After getting the address out of Chen Qi, I had a new plan. My WeChat account was blocked, so I switched to another account and kept sending friend requests. Even though the request went through this time, my messages sank like a stone in the ocean. It seemed Liu Ruyan really hated my guts. I gave up on spamming her with messages, filled out her address on delivery forms, and started sending things to Liu Ruyan. Designer watches worth tens of thousands, limited edition sneakers worth thousands, and all sorts of high-end tailored clothes. As long as I thought it suited her, I bought it all, and had someone deliver it straight to her door. A villainous young master's way of showing love. Just reeks of money like this. It's just that simple and unpretentious. Under such an intense pursuit, it only took 3 days for Liu Ruyan to move into the school dorms, returning all the gifts completely untouched. I looked at the unopened packages, cursing her in my head for being so ungrateful. This woman was completely stubborn, with a heart of stone that couldn't be swayed. This young master has always been arrogant, so my pursuit was incredibly flashy and high profile. Within days, the news of the Mu family's young master chasing a poor student had spread throughout the entire school. Shen Jiayan bit his lower lip, absent-mindedly poking his textbook with a pen. Beside him, Liu Ruyan was acting completely normal, seemingly unaffected by it all. The school bell rang crisply. He finally couldn't hold back and spoke up. I heard Mu Chen is pursuing you. Liu Ruyan frowned, her tone flat. No idea. She didn't seem to care about it at all, but Shen Jiayan felt a tight knot in his chest. He wanted to ask if she liked Mu Chen, but felt he had no right to, making him feel even more disappointed. However, thinking about Liu Ruyan moving into the dorms, he felt secretly happy. For dinner, do you want to go to the cafeteria together? His delicate face flushed slightly, as he explained somewhat shyly, I'm a boarding student too. I can recommend some good dishes for you. No need. Liu Ruyan acted as if she didn't even see him, her eyes politely but distantly rejecting him. I took the night off. It wasn't that she was intentionally pushing him away. She genuinely had things to do. Shen Jiayan's expression brightened a bit, and he offered a gentle smile. Okay, let's go together next time then. Seeing me striding over, Liu Ruyan's eyes flickered. The rejection that was on the tip of her tongue was swallowed back down. Sure. We'll go together next time. Her tone was incredibly gentle, completely lacking the coldness she showed when facing me. Before Shen Jiayan could even rejoice, someone slammed their hand hard on the desk, followed immediately by my furious voice. Sure, my ass. Liu Ruyan, are you refusing to be with me because of this broke little punk? It's showtime. After so many days, I finally get to act out the villain bullying the male lead. Such a classic scene. Look at Shen Jiayan's pale little face. If I were a girl, my heart would ache for him too. I really am a major villain. Shen Jiayan's eyes grew slightly red. My gaze was full of contempt and disdain as I shamelessly continued dealing damage. You're Shen Jiayan, right? What right do you have to fight me for her? I was as arrogant as a little peacock, handsome and incredibly noble, yet the words coming out of my mouth were childishly vicious. Are you mute? Liu Ruyan, what exactly did you agree to with him? What exactly is your relationship with him? Why won't you go out when I ask you? But when he asks, you say yes? My endless barrage of questions buzzed in her ear, giving her a headache. The panicked gazes of the people around us zeroed in on us, and the disgust in Liu Ruyan's heart grew even stronger. She coldly shouted, Mu Chen, are you done throwing a tantrum? Caught off guard by her glare, I froze in place. Shen Jiayan bit his lower lip hard, his eyes shimmering with tears, staring at me with feigned resilience. Classmate Mu, when it comes to family background or looks, I can't compare to you. But in terms of character and upbringing, you might not measure up to me. Thinking of Liu Ruyan's defense, Shen Jiayan spoke with more confidence. What relationship she and I have is none of your business, and you don't need to know what we talk about either. A wave of mocking laughter erupted around us, along with sarcastic whispers and gossip. I was so furious my eyes turned red, but I absolutely refused to lose my imposing aura. Liu Ruyan, Is this how you really feel too? Liu Ruyan seemed to pause for a moment. Her voice remained as cold as ever. What if I say yes? Under the gaze of the crowd, I was thoroughly humiliated. Without even asking for leave, I just hopped the wall and ditched school. At a small roadside malatang stall, I plopped down on a small stool and shouted boldly, "Boss, extra numb, extra spicy." "Coming right up," the boss replied cheerfully. I happily popped open a can of cola and took a huge gulp of the ice-cold soda. Skipping class to eat malatang. This feeling is just too damn good. There wasn't a single trace of heartbreak or sadness on my face. Has anyone ever seen a rich young master squatting at a roadside stall eating malatang? I slurped down huge mouthfuls of glass noodles drenched in sesame sauce, so happy my eyes crinkled into crescents. The boss was a really honest guy. He gave me a ton of chili. I ate until tears welled up in my eye and the tip of my nose turned bright red. I looked up to see someone sitting right across from me, which startled me so much I started coughing. Cough, cough, cough. Everyone knows how agonizing it is to choke on spicy food. I coughed until tears streamed down my face. The person across from me hurriedly handed over a bottle of water. She unscrewed the cap and placed it in my hand. The girl's voice couldn't hide her worry. "Are you okay?" "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you." It was the girl who fell in love with me at first sight, the junior, Sujiaja. She said with a face full of guilt, "I saw you eating so intently just now, so I just sat down. I didn't expect you to react so strongly. So it turns out it's my fault for being easily scared." I glared at her fiercely. It's just that my eyes were still brimming with tears, my peach blossom eyes shimmering and wet, so it really didn't carry any threat at all. On the contrary, it made people enjoy being glared at, being stared at by these peach blossom eyes. Sujiaja's heart unconsciously beat faster. Her eyes started to dart around awkwardly. "You shouldn't look at me like that." "Why not? You ruined my rare moment of enjoying good food. Can I even glare to show my dissatisfaction?" I questioned her without any politeness. "Who are you? Do I know you?" Sujiaja finally remembered that she hadn't introduced herself yet. "I'm in class 118. We had PE together last time." She reached out her hand, friendly and gentle. "You might not know me, but I know you. I'm Sujiaja." What does her name have to do with me? I gave a nonchalant, with absolutely no intention of shaking her hand. Sujiaja awkwardly pulled her hand back and tried to strike up a conversation. "Say, little Chen, less than greater than. It's supposed to be class time right now, less than greater than. Why are you out here, less than greater than?" After saying that, she caught my speechless expression, less than greater than, and shyly tacked on another sentence. "Is it okay if I call you that?" "No." Sujiaja didn't get mad at all. Instead, she found my deadpan rejection amusing and incredibly handsome. She asked again with feigned concern, "Why aren't you in class?" Annoyed, I replied, "Aren't you skipping class too?" I asked for a leave of absence. Sujiaja confessed honestly. Actually, she saw me skipping class, so she followed me out here. I couldn't care less about why she was here. My coldness made her a bit flustered, but her social skills were pretty good, and she quickly found a new topic. She was somewhat famous at first high school, knew a lot of people, and had all the latest gossip. I originally didn't plan on talking to her much less than greater than, but she managed to pique my interest. Less than greater than. Lover's Hill? First high school actually has a place like that. Less than greater than. Hasn't the Dean of Discipline shut it down yet? Less than greater than. Of course they try. Less than greater than. To stop early romance, the disciplinary committee goes there right after evening self-study to catch people at Lover's Hill, shining their flashlights everywhere. Seeing that I was interested, Shuja talked even more enthusiastically. She even described every little detail. I teased, "Seems like you're pretty experienced, huh?" "Of course not." Shujaja hurriedly defended herself. "I just heard it from others. Why would I ever go to a place like that?" Seeing my skeptical expression, Shujaja immediately panicked a little, afraid that her gentle upperclassman image would be ruined. She rolled her eyes slightly and suddenly remembered something. Yesterday, my friend even said she saw Liu Ruyan at Lover's Hill. Liu Ruyan. My hand holding the chopsticks paused. It was her. Shujaja's tone turned strange. I heard there was a guy with her who looked pretty decent. Must be her boyfriend. It was pitch black, who could even see a face clearly. Shujaja was making this up, just to piss me off, and make me completely lose hope in Liu Ruyan. But Liu Ruyan going to Lover's Hill was true, so she wasn't exactly lying. Sure enough, my expression instantly changed. I lost my appetite for the malatang and angrily asked, "Was that guy Shen Jiayan? Who's Shen Jiayan?" Su Jiajia had never heard that name before, but seeing me this furious, she knew this definitely wasn't simple. She gave an ambiguous answer. "From what my friend said, I think so." Bam! I slammed the table and stood up, storming out aggressively. By the time Su Jiajia reacted, the seat across from her was already empty. She hurriedly stood up to chase after me, but as soon as she reached the door, the manager stopped her. "You guys haven't paid yet." "Paid for what?" Su Jiajia looked bewildered. The manager looked impatient. "For the food, what else?" "That'll be 150 yuan. Under the manager's suspicious gaze, Su Jiajia blushed bright red from embarrassment. She quickly pulled out her phone to scan the QR code and pay. Just from that slight delay, I was already long gone. Seeing Su Jiajia leave in disappointment, I, who had been hiding in a blind spot, swaggered out. Who told her to bother this young master while he was eating? Spending a little money can be her apology to me. I didn't feel guilty in the slightest. I thought to myself, did she intentionally make those romantic rumors about Liu Ruyan right in front of me? I felt like I had touched upon the truth. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Women and their petty little schemes. I took out my phone, tapped a few times, and found Liu Ruyan's phone number. Logically speaking, knowing she went out with a guy in the middle of the night to Lover's Hill, I definitely had to do something to fit my character setting. Naturally, I hit the call button. It rang a few times on the other end, but no one picked up. I glanced at the time. It was almost midnight. It wasn't class time right now, so Liu Ruyan was absolutely ignoring my call on purpose. A top student definitely wouldn't bring a phone to school, but I knew she worked part-time in a bar. Such a rich nightlife for a top student. Since she wasn't answering, I persistently kept calling. By the fifth call, less than greater than. She finally picked up, less than greater than. But no one said a word. Less than greater than. I was sure the call had connected. Less than greater than. So I loudly demanded, "Liu Ruyan, where were you last night? Does it have anything to do with you?" I pretended not to notice her coldness. "Even if you don't say it, I know it was Shen Jiayan, right? Liu Ruyan, your taste in men is seriously terrible. You reject a rich young master like me and throw yourself at some broke loser." Hearing this, Liu Ruyan probably realized what I was misunderstanding. Such a meaningless, absurd thing that she didn't even bother explaining. I took her silence as a tacit admission. I gritted my teeth and viciously threatened that I wouldn't let him off. The call suddenly disconnected. My final, furious threat seemed to still echo in the air. Liu Ruyan's face darkened. She stayed silent for a long time before slowly standing up. Walking down the rustic antique street, I finished the grilled squid skewer in my hand and casually dusted off my hands. Still haven't reached my destination. I muttered inwardly, why did I suddenly have to go to Shen Jiayan's house? What the hell was I even doing? To play my part, of course. To play my part as the vicious male supporting character. Right now, I was dead set on winning her over, treating Liu Ruyan like she was already in the bag. Shen Jiayan was clearly fighting me for her, fighting for the woman I liked. Naturally, I had to do some male supporting character things. Do the things a male supporting character should do, and conveniently speed up some plot points. From later in the story, while I'm at it. Like accidentally meeting the female supporting character, Su Yuaning, earlier than planned. I stopped in my tracks, slightly stunned, and turned my head to look to the side. A cute calico cat was lounging on the wooden steps, meowing. A young woman walked out from inside the shop. She cleared her throat, feigning anger. "What are you meowing about? Are you trying to start a rebellion?" The calico cat let out a single meow. The young woman looked utterly speechless. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Su Yuaning was Shen Jiayan's older neighbor. In reality, she was the illegitimate daughter of a wealthy family, hiding her talents and laying low in this place. She ended up falling for a kind, good-hearted guy like him. Unfortunately, Shen Jiayan already had someone in his heart. She had no choice but to bitterly back down, shifting to become the guardian of his love instead. To ensure Shen Jiayan's happiness, she returned to her wealthy family and schemed to bankrupt the Mu family, rescuing Liu Ruyan from my forced love. I clapped my hands in sheer admiration. For this grand and selfless view on love, I spoke up with an arrogant tone. "Hey, boss lady, I want to ask about someone." Su Yuaning slightly frowned, holding the calico cat as she turned to look. Against the blue-gray wall, the trumpet vines were in full, vibrant bloom. I stood beneath the trellis with neat, clean-cut short hair. My refined features still carried a hint of youthful innocence, enough to foresee the dazzling handsomeness it'd have in the future. She was only stunned for a moment, before returning to normal. "I'm not too familiar with the people around here. You can go ask someone else." This young master didn't give a damn what she said. Shen Jiayan, do you know him? He lives in this area. The Su Yuaning of this timeline didn't like Shen Jiayan yet. She just saw him as a little brother. Finding out from me that Shen Jiayan was getting close to another girl, a girl named Liu Ruyen. Su Yuaning asked calmly, "Are you his classmate?" I didn't flinch at all. That's right. I know he doesn't live at home during the school term. Just tell me where his house is. It was obvious I came with less than good intentions. Su Yuaning's expression turned cold. Sorry, I can't tell you. Hearing that, I instantly flared up. After all, I was just a 16 or 17-year-old kid. No matter how arrogant and overbearing I was, my pride was still fragile. Fine, don't tell me. Yours isn't the only shop around here. I'll just go ask someone else. I walked into another shop. The owner saw that I was a handsome young man and happily told me right away. He even came to the door to point the way for me. Su Yuaning was still standing on the steps. Before leaving, I smugly raised an eyebrow at her. The meaning was crystal clear. If you won't tell me, someone else will. I tossed my head and walked off. Cutting through a deserted little alley, I stopped in front of a house. This single-story house was quite old. It had a red wooden door with blooming flowers on both sides. You could tell the owner took great care of them and must be someone who really loved life. This wasn't what I had imagined. Just as I was about to knock, the door opened from the inside. A middle-aged woman, not yet 40, who had raised her son all by herself. Her delicate face bore the clear marks of time. Shen Jiayan looked a lot like her. I had just come from school, so I was still wearing my uniform. The school badge on the side was very visible. It was school hour, yet a schoolmate had shown up at their door. The middle-aged woman's face was full of doubt, hiding a hint of nervousness. Are you Jiayan's classmate? Did something happen to my Jiayan at school? I shook my head. No, I was an orphan. I had never felt the love of parents. Because I had never felt it, I didn't really understand it. The worry on the middle-aged woman's face was so obvious. For a moment, a strange emotion flashed in my heart. The harsh words I had prepared couldn't come out. Hearing that nothing had happened to her son, the middle-aged woman breathed a sigh of relief. She asked, puzzled, "Then you?" I blurted out nonsense. I got the wrong house. Got the wrong house, yet came right up to their door. The middle-aged woman's eyes showed suspicion. If I explained any further, it'd ruin my character setting. I gave an awkward smile. I hadn't figured out if I should just turn around and leave. When out of the corner of my eye, at the end of the small path, I saw someone striding over. Liu Ruyen actually came here. This was something I hadn't expected. I followed behind Liu Ruyen. My emotions went from initial surprise to outright irritation. Liu Ruyen was tall, with a cold and aloof aura. Completely ignoring how I felt, she walked briskly. Even jogging, I couldn't keep up with her. I was so mad that I just squatted down right on the spot. I was both anxious and furious. Liu Ruyen, stop right there. Liu Ruyen stopped in her tracks. She turned slightly, her cold gaze falling on me. I didn't show any sign of weakness, stubbornly staring right back into her eyes, glaring until my eyes ached. Only then did Liu Ruyen absent-mindedly walk closer, looking down at me squatting there. Her voice held no emotion whatsoever. Get up. My voice was full of stubbornness. No, pull me up. I unceremoniously reached out my hand, just like my capricious behavior from a few days ago, when I forced Liu Ruyen to help me to the infirmary. Liu Ruyen's lips twitched. Her arms hung by her sides, not moving an inch. She had absolutely no intention of pulling me up. I squatted until my legs went completely numb and had to aggrievedly stand up by myself. The two of us stood facing each other. Liu Ruyen completely ignored me, massaging my numb legs. Has the young master had enough fun? My movements paused slightly. Clearly, she thought I came to find Shen Jiayan today to cause trouble. And the truth was exactly that. Even though I hadn't actually done anything bad yet, she didn't need to know that. No, today was just a warning. I stepped right in front of Liu Ruyen, tilting my head up to stare at her cold face. My heart suddenly felt a little itchy. Liu Ruyen, do you want to protect him? Fine, then be with me. On the outside, I threatened her calmly, but my palms hanging by my sides were drenched in nervous sweat. Liu Ruyen stared at me calmly, her pitch-black eyes looking incredibly deep. Hearing such a coercive demand, her face didn't show the slightest hint of distress. I suddenly felt uneasy, forcing myself to look straight into her eyes. Even I didn't realize that a look of eager anticipation had surfaced in my eyes. I repeated it once more. Be with me, and I'll let him off. How utterly unreasonable. Such an arrogant statement. I even wanted to slap myself. You two can just be a pair of star-crossed lovers, I thought to myself with malicious intent. One is a young master with money and power. The other is an orphan with no background. Faced with such a threat, she stayed silent for a long time. I even thought she was going to hit me. The corners of Liu Ruiyan's lips slowly curled up. Fine. I pretended not to see the coldness in her eyes and that bone-chilling intent. Hearing that, I was both thrilled and jealous. I couldn't help but say, didn't expect you to care about him that much. Without waiting for Liu Ruiyan to speak, I had already comforted myself. But that's fine. From today on, you're my girlfriend. From now on, you're not allowed to talk to him, and you're not allowed to defend him anymore. What I wanted was Liu Ruiyan herself. I firmly believe that with my good looks and family background, as long as Liu Ruiyan was a normal woman, she would definitely fall in love with me. This blind confidence had already sealed my fate in this book. A male supporting character will always be a male supporting character, and the female lead's choice will always be the male lead. This is the protagonist's halo. I let out a sigh, just hoping to quickly get through this plotline, so the male and female leads could have their happy ending. The news of me and Liu Ruiyan dating quickly spread throughout the entire school. And just one morning, my phone blew up with messages. All my close friends came running to ask me about it. Among them, Chen Hanlu had called over a dozen times. I was so annoyed I couldn't stand it, so I just blocked her number directly. Wen Xiaobi saw me, not hiding that smug look on my face at all, and sighed for the 8th time today. You can't force love, man. Mu Chen, turn back while you still can. Look at Liu Ruiyan, she's as cold as ice. Look at how cold Liu Ruiyan is. With that aloof, indifferent face, what part of her looks like she likes you? Yet I acted like it had nothing to do with me, and kept throwing myself into this one-sided love. As soon as class ended, I couldn't wait to run over to her seat. I still tried to play it cool. Want to grab food together? That new manhwa restaurant on Jinjiang Road is supposed to be really good. Liu Ruiyan's hand didn't stop writing, and she didn't even bother looking up. No. My refined brows furrowed slightly. Why? I just stood there blankly, stubbornly demanding an answer. Liu Ruiyan finally lifted her eyelids slightly. Less than greater than. Her tone flat. I'm eating at the school cafeteria. Less than greater than. She gave a faint, mocking smile. Less than greater than. If you want to eat at the cafeteria, less than greater than. I don't mind. The food at the school cafeteria isn't exactly terrible, but it's definitely not good. But it does have its perks. It's dirt cheap and fills you up. Anyone with a bit of money would order takeout or go eat outside the school, let alone a young master like me, who probably didn't even know what the cafeteria looked like. Liu Ruiyan was doing this on purpose. She didn't believe I'd lower myself to follow her to the cafeteria. After saying that, she lowered her eyes, put her test paper away, stood up, and walked around me to head out. Shen Jian glanced at me standing rooted to the spot in embarrassment. He had heard from his mother that a classmate had come to his house looking for him. From his mother's description, he was absolutely certain I was the one he was looking for. What ulterior motive could I possibly have for going to his house? Why was Liu Ruiyan with me? Shen Jian was very smart. He couldn't help but jump to a conclusion. His gaze was way too obvious. I couldn't ignore it even if I wanted to. I shot him a fierce glare. What the hell are you looking at? Shen Jian's face turned pale. Relying on that self-imagined answer of his, he gained a bit more confidence. Mu Chen, Liu Ruiyan doesn't like you at all. I didn't feel guilty in the slightest. If she doesn't like me, does she like you? In front of outsiders, I always bared my fangs. Arrogant and overbearing. She's my girlfriend now. There are some things we both understand perfectly well. Shen Jian gritted his teeth. His eyes couldn't hide his disgust for me. In the one who dragged her down. Didn't you use me to threaten her, just to be with her? I raised an eyebrow. Oh, so you even know about that. Liu Ruiyan really tells you everything, huh? I didn't feel a thing inside, but on the outside I still had to pretend to be furious. Pointing at Shen Jian, speechless with rage, I secretly calculated in my head, should I just beat him up right now to teach him a lesson? Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Wen Xiaobei running over. I immediately looked up and pretended to lunge forward. I was about to shove him when Wen Xiaobei grabbed my arm tightly. Mu Chen, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I breathed a sigh of relief. I put on a show, raising my fist a few more times, throwing in a few curses for good measure. Don't you dare stop me. Indefinitely gonna. Wen Xiaobei pulled me back. Okay, I won't stop you. Let's just go eat first. His voice gradually faded away. I was dragged off. Shen Jian still hadn't recovered his senses. By the time he did, a hint of fear set in. His delicate face grew even paler. Once we were far enough from the classroom, Wen Xiaobei finally dared to let go. He felt like a damn babysitter. Wen Xiaobei looked a bit helpless. Young master, what exactly did he say to make you so mad? I turned my head away, saying nothing. I felt so humiliated. Seeing this, Wen Xiaobei sighed again. All right, all right. If you don't want to talk about it, then don't. Let's just go eat first, okay? Speaking of eating, I hesitated for 2 seconds. I wanted to try eating at the cafeteria today. The cafeteria was right at its peak lunch rush. A few girls were whispering to each other, occasionally glancing in one direction. A few minutes later, a guy walked over with his food tray, smiling a bit shyly. Excuse me, can I sit here? The cafeteria is a public area. Liu Ruyan slightly furrowed her brows, barely noticeable. Polite but distant. Suit yourself, the table isn't big. The guy sat down in the seat next to her, but he scooted way too close. Liu Ruyan could smell an unfamiliar cologne. She sped up her eating. I took all of this in. Wen Xiaobei was a very picky eater, so he didn't come to the cafeteria with me. It took me a while to find her. I casually grabbed a meal and walked over. I sat down right across from Liu Ruyan. I slammed my tray onto the table. It made a loud bang. The guy was startled. When he saw clearly who it was, a flash of panic crossed his face. He gave a fake, mocking smile. You still haven't screwed off? Planning to stay and be a third wheel? The guy awkwardly grabbed his tray and fled. My expression softened. Staring at the greasy table, I grumbled to Liu Ruyan. Let's just eat out next time. Before I could even finish my sentence, Liu Ruyan suddenly stood up. Tall and slender, her expression was incredibly cold. I'm done eating. Without waiting for my response, she turned and walked straight off. I didn't even care about eating my fried noodles anymore. I jogged to catch up with her. But I wasn't watching where I was going. My calf slammed hard into a table. A sudden sharp pain shot through me, making my face turn pale. It hurt so much I had to bend over and clutch my ankle. The area quickly swelled and turned red right before my eyes. My skin was naturally pale, so the red mark was even more glaring. Liu Ruyan's gaze shifted my ankle and then up to my teary eyes. Noticing her looking, I sniffled, feeling wronged, and rubbed my swollen, red ankle. It was already red, but rubbing it only made the swelling worse. I cursed her in my head. You really are a dense block of wood. Under my expectant gaze, Liu Ruyan turned and walked away, leaving me behind with an injured ankle, my peach blossom eyes drooping, looking incredibly pitiful. All after the image of that swollen red ankle kept flashing by. The last class ended, and the students filed out one after another. Liu Ruyan helped the teacher turn in the assignments and returned to the classroom, only to find that I still hadn't left. The classroom windows were open, and the ceiling fan was whirring. I was asleep face down on the desk, the hair on my forehead blown about by the light breeze swaying gently. Liu Ruyan withdrew her gaze, but out of the corner of her eye she looked at my ankle. The redness hadn't faded at all. Instead, it had turned a bruised purplish blue. It stood out starkly against my pale skin. No medicine had been applied to it whatsoever. In the few seconds she was distracted, I woke up. I shrank back, tears welling up in my eyes. Liu Ruyan had stopped in her tracks at some point. Why are you following me? I blurted out to go on a date, obviously. As soon as I said it, I felt embarrassed. I had to quickly cover for myself. People in a relationship are supposed to go on dates. Liu Ruyan's voice was unreadable. You sure know a lot, don't you? My competitive streak suddenly flared up. Of course I do. I told you a long time ago. There are plenty of people who like this young master. Liu Ruyan suddenly let out a scoff. Heh, real cute. Don't think I can't hear. That sarcastic tone of yours. Liu Ruyan stood next to the bus stop sign. I was too exhausted to stand, so I squatted down, glancing up at her from the corner of my eye. I curled myself up into a tiny ball. Her fingertips, holding her phone, paused. A moment later, she unlocked her phone for a few minutes. A taxi pulled up by the curb. I cast a jealous glance at it. If only this car was here to pick me up. Liu Ruyan was already poor, and she was stingy with me on top of that. She probably wouldn't even spare the 7,000 dong for my bus fare. Less than greater than. Let alone call a cab. Less than greater than. I lowered my head resentfully. Less than greater than. Feeling like I was so noble. Less than greater than. Suffering all these grievances for the sake of love. I grumbled internally. The next second, the taxi door opened. Liu Ruyan walked up to the car and held the door open. I was still looking down at the ground. She frowned, her tone impatient. What is the young master still squatting there for? I looked up. Wait, what? Did my dream just come true? I stood up so fast, I almost fell over. After struggling to regain my balance, I quickly got into the car, as if terrified Liu Ruyan would change her mind. Her slightly raised hand quietly dropped back down as she got in after me. Along the way, I muttered a few locations to myself, all places I had just asked my friends about, so-called dating holy grounds. Liu Ruyan kept her eyes closed, not saying a word. When we got out, I finally understood why she was so calm. The taxi's destination had been set in advance. Looking at the familiar place in front of me, my mouth twitched. You brought me here for a date. I honestly couldn't believe it. Liu Ruyan actually brought me to Hongguan. If it were anyone else, I'd definitely think they had an ulterior motive, that they were trying to take advantage of me. But since it was Liu Ruyan, I couldn't rule out that possibility either. Liu Ruyan coldly retorted, "You're the one who tagged along. This isn't a date." I helplessly compromised. Fine, fine, fine. Blame me for being a shameless stalker, happy? So what are you doing here? Liu Ruyan replied calmly, "Working." I instinctively glanced over. The bruise on the corner of her mouth had faded, leaving no trace of her previous injury. Liu Ruyan seemed to sense it, her thumb lightly brushing the corner of her mouth. I suddenly lost my imposing aura. "Then why didn't you say so earlier?" Liu Ruyan shot me a look. Would saying it have made a difference? Her meaning was crystal clear. If I told you, would you have stopped following me? I was instantly speechless. She really had me figured out. Even if Liu Ruyan had told me beforehand, I definitely still would have tagged along. My current persona was exactly that, a shameless, clingy stalker. Liu Ruyan walked in to change her clothes. The female manager of Hongguan Bar walked over, coincidentally holding a report in her hands. Seeing me sitting on the sofa, she jumped in surprise. "Young Master Mu, why are you sitting out here? Let me go check on Miss Chen's private room for you." She thought I was here looking for Chen Hanlu. I glanced toward the break room. No need. I'm not interested. The manager didn't understand what was going on and wanted to ask more. I, who had been sulking just a moment ago, suddenly had my eyes light up, and a smile spread across my face. Liu Ruyan looked over, meeting my gaze. Who else could it be but her, looking aloof and ethereal, having changed into a white dress shirt and black dress pants. Shedding a bit of her youthful innocence, she looked like a tall, straight birch tree. The manager stared at me wide-eyed, then looked at Liu Ruyan, quietly asking what exactly was going on. Liu Ruyan paused slightly while rolling up her sleeves. "It's nothing. Just pretend he doesn't exist." The manager was stunned, speechless. "Pretend he doesn't exist? Do you think he's just some random stray dog or cat?" The manager gritted her teeth and reminded her, "Don't forget how badly you got beaten up a few days ago." She'd worked at the bar for years and had seen countless lovesick fools, but she never expected someone as aloof as Liu Ruyan could be so clueless. Liu Ruyan replied emotionlessly that she hadn't forgotten. The manager didn't want to meddle in other people's business, so she gave a few more instructions and left. During the 2 hours Liu Ruyan worked, I ate 3 fruit platters and ordered takeout to the hotel twice. I was a very picky eater. I ordered a portion of crab roe noodles, but after just 2 bites, I complained it was too rich and pushed it over for Liu Ruyan to eat. Liu Ruyan completely ignored me, so I deliberately threatened to file a complaint. The 3rd time I threatened her, "If you don't eat it, I'll have the manager fire you." Hearing this, Liu Ruyan's face darkened. She picked up her chopsticks, grabbed the slightly cold crab roe noodles, and ate them all without changing her expression. Her movements were mechanical and fast, as if she were just chewing on plain steamed buns. She was just completing a task. With this as a starting point, everything that followed went much smoother. Dry blueberries, fruit, shredded chicken porridge. Whenever I fed her, she ate. Halfway through, I dozed off for a bit. When I woke up, Liu Ruyan was nowhere to be seen. Just as I was about to ask someone less than greater than, I saw her walking in from outside. Less than greater than. She had already changed out of her work uniform, less than greater than, and was carrying a plastic bag in her hand. Less than greater than. Noticing my gaze, Liu Ruyan immediately hid the plastic bag behind her back. "Why didn't you wake me when your shift ended?" I didn't notice her little gesture and couldn't help but complain. Liu Ruyan replied calmly, "I forgot." "How could you forget? Why don't you just forget yourself while you're at it? Does a living, breathing person like me have zero presence to you?" The anger I had been holding in all day finally exploded. I lowered my head and stormed off, not caring whether Liu Ruyan followed me or not. Of course she didn't follow me. She probably just wanted me out of her sight. I felt a bit depressed, feeling both wronged and disappointed. A dry sycamore leaf fell by the side of the road, and I stomped on it hard to vent my frustration. Still not feeling satisfied, I raised my foot to stomp on it again. Suddenly, a familiar cold voice rang out from behind me. "Did that leaf offend you or something?" I turned my face away, ignoring her completely. After a while, there was no movement behind me, Liu Ruyun had never had any patience with me. Did she leave? Anxiously, I turned my head to look back and met her calm gaze. So she hadn't left. A surge of joy suddenly welled up inside me, but I still put on a grumpy face. I know you're tall. What are you showing off for? Liu Ruyan took a step toward me, her tone carrying a hint of sarcasm. Are you jealous? My eyes widened slightly. I couldn't believe she actually said that. She really has thick skin. My height of 1.78 meters wasn't exactly considered outstanding among guys. I even had to look up when glaring at her. I felt like this young master was being insulted, so I kicked some crushed leaves at her feet, hitting her faded, washed-out sneakers. I tossed my head and turned away in a huff. My bangs fluttered in the wind, accidentally brushing against her chin. An indescribable ticklish sensation spread across her chin. She narrowed her eyes slightly, but didn't raise her hand to touch it. After getting home, I was still muttering curses at Liu Ruyun. The way that woman talks could seriously piss someone off to death. After I finished cursing, I realized it was a bit too quiet around me. I thought back carefully. Ever since I made my relationship with Liu Ruyun official, my mind hadn't been wandering with random thoughts anymore. How strange. I casually tossed my backpack down. Reaching into my bag to grab my things, Ed. I felt a plastic bag. Ed, what's this? I pulled it out full of doubt. Ed, a bottle of Yunnan Baiyao. Ed, the spray bottle lay quietly inside the plastic bag. I gripped the bottle tightly, suddenly freezing in place. My ankle suddenly throbbed with an inexplicable pain. I remembered very clearly that I hadn't bought any medicine. So who put it in here? The image of the entrance to Hongguan Bar flashed in my mind, and the plastic bag Liu Ruyan had hidden behind her back. The spray worked really well. The red swelling on my ankle had completely gone down. I don't know what I was thinking, but I didn't go find her to ask about it. It was as if this bottle of medicine had just fallen from the sky. The relationship between her and me remained as cold as ever. As long as I didn't take the initiative to look for her, she absolutely wouldn't say a single word to me. Even when I did look for her, she still wouldn't pay me any mind. After a light drizzle, the city suddenly turned cold overnight. Pedestrians on the street had all bundled up in thick coats. The days passed by peacefully like this. So much time passed that I almost forgot about the past. Today, while I was resting my chin on my hand, bored out of my mind listening to a physics lecture, less than greater than, a thought suddenly popped into my head. Less than greater than. My birthday is coming up. Less than greater than. I immediately sat up straight. Less than greater than. Knowing Liu Ruyan's personality, less than greater than. Should definitely treat me like thin air again. At the library. What kind of cake do you like? I sat across from her, looking at her expectantly. Liu Ruyan didn't open her mouth to speak. She just pulled out a practice test and continued writing. Fruit, chocolate, or yogurt? I snatched her black pen away and pouted as I spoke. Liu Ruyan finally looked up at me, tapped her knuckles against the table, right on the keep quiet sign. I stayed quiet for less than 2 seconds before I couldn't hold it in anymore. Don't you dare buy me a gift. I definitely won't like whatever you buy anyway. What gift? I said to her angrily. The day after tomorrow is my birthday. A flash of surprise crossed Liu Ruyan's eyes, but she quickly returned to her cold demeanor. With just one simple word like that, she managed to piss me off enough to storm out again. Leaving Liu Ruyan sitting there alone, staring at her practice test, who knows what she was thinking. When I went to school the next day, she heard people in the class discussing what kind of gift they should get me. Some people even came straight to ask me. I deliberately glanced toward a certain corner and purposely raised my voice to answer. There are plenty of things I like. Gifts are mostly about the thought. Money doesn't matter. Just having you guys there is enough. How could we do that? Don't worry, we'll definitely prepare a surprise for young Master Mu. A few classmates around chimed in to tease me. The whole class suddenly became incredibly lively. Shen Jiayan quietly withdrew his gaze, hiding the complex emotions deep in his eyes. But the bitterness in his heart couldn't be suppressed no matter what. He turned to look at the person next to him and asked Liu Ruyan in a low voice, "Are you going to Mu Chen's birthday party?" Liu Ruyan's expression didn't change at all. Not necessarily. Seeing Shen Jiayan's confused look, she blandly added another explanation. "If I have time, I'll go." Shen Jiayan didn't get the answer he wanted, feeling a bit disappointed in his heart. I see. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. My birthday party was fully booked at Jiangnan Shore. The extravagance was absolutely spectacular. I invited the entire class, along with some friends in our circle. Friends brought their friends, and some even brought their significant others. People I knew and didn't know all showed up. It had only been 10 minutes since it started, and I had already received a mountain of gifts. Wen Xiaobei had saved up a whole month's living expenses to buy me a limited edition crystal bracelet. Brother Chen, happy birthday. I smiled absent-mindedly, reaching out to take the gift. Thanks, Xiaobei. What's wrong? It's your birthday. Aren't you happy? Wen Xiaobei looked at me with a puzzled expression. I didn't say anything, but my eyes kept darting toward the door. Wen Xiaobei's gaze swept around the private room and he instantly understood what was going on. Liu Ruyan simply wasn't coming. He furrowed his brows slightly, feeling deeply irritated. Ever since she and I got together, Wen Xiaobei had been fiercely against it. Looking back at everything that had happened, he had seen it all clearly. Liu Ruyan was inherently heartless, and his brother Chen was just asking for trouble. Now look at this. She calls herself his girlfriend, but doesn't even bother showing up for his birthday. What kind of girlfriend is that? That was what he thought, so he just blurted it out. Liu Ruyan really is something else. Deep down, I completely agree with him. But on the outside, I had to pretend he had struck a nerve. Liu Ruyan didn't show up. I honestly felt incredibly humiliated. Who's waiting for her anyway? She can come or not, whatever. Someone in the room loudly called me over to cut the cake. I took one last look at the door, but still didn't see that familiar figure. If she's not coming, fine. I don't need her here anyway. I let out a deep breath, trying to suppress the frustration in my chest, and turned around to cut the cake. At the Hongguan bar, the female manager transferred Liu Ruyan's salary and casually chatted with her. Why did you ask to get off work early today? Liu Ruyan received the transfer and put her phone in her pocket. I have some things to take care of. If you're busy, hurry up and go. The manager waved her off. Just make up the hours on your day off. Got it. The bicycle rolled along the bustling street. Liu Ruyan glanced down, checked the time, and pedaled faster. The cold wind blew her short hair across her forehead, revealing her delicate, cold eyebrows and eyes. The tips of her ears were flushed red from the freezing wind. The bicycle approached a brightly lit accessory store and slowly came to a stop. Liu Ruyan stared at the jewelry store for a moment, then strode inside. Miss, what are you looking to buy? The sales clerk was a young man. He was stunned by her beauty. A few seconds later, when he snapped out of it, his face was slightly flushed. Liu Ruyan's eyes swept over countless bracelets and moved to the necklace section. Her gaze finally settled on one. Mu Chen, I didn't know what you'd like, but I thought this necklace would suit you perfectly. Happy birthday. Xu Jiajia handed over the carefully wrapped gift. She had specially dressed up and done her makeup today, even styling her hair quite elaborately, making her look much more mature. Actually, I didn't even invite her. But you don't slap a smiling face, especially when they bring a gift. I muttered to myself internally, thanks. Xu Jiajia smiled even more gently. You're welcome, as long as you like it. We were chatting happily over here, a handsome guy and a beautiful girl standing together, but someone nearby couldn't hold back anymore. Chen Hanlu's friend hurriedly pulled her back, advising her in a low voice. Today is Mu Chen's birthday. If you cause a scene at his birthday party, beware that he might just ignore you completely from now on. Chen Hanlu was fuming with anger, watching Xu Jiajia trying so hard to suck up to me. I don't know which nerve in Chen Hanlu's brain snapped for her to suddenly flare up like that. Ever since the day I made my relationship public, she had been on my blacklist. Even up until today, she still hadn't been unblocked. Could this be my new girlfriend? Hey, birthday boy, hurry over here and play a game. Someone over there called out to me loudly. The space in the private room was large enough. Some people were singing in the front, while others were dancing on the side. The empty space in the middle was surrounded by over a dozen people, with an empty liquor bottle placed right in the center. Xu Jiajia didn't miss the chance to get close to me, sticking right by my side as we walked over. What game are we playing? A sarcastic female voice rang out. Truth or dare? Do you dare to play? Her tone carried undisguised hostility. Xu Jiajia turned her head and saw it was someone she didn't know at all. Noticing that this person's gaze was fixed on me, she immediately knew where this hostility came from. I glanced at Xu Jiajia, then looked over at Chen Hanlu beside her. On the surface, I appeared calm, but inside, I couldn't help but want to laugh. This is the charm of this young master. Without having to say a single word, it was enough to make two girls jealous over me. I enjoyed the show and didn't mind making things worse, just letting Xu Jiajia sit next to me. Seeing this, Chen Hanlu wasn't about to be outdone. She deliberately swapped seats with someone else and plopped down on my other side. Just like that, this situation was turning into quite the spectacle. I was sandwiched in the middle, left and right. One side was a gentle and outgoing beauty, less than greater than. The other side was a cool, arrogant beauty, less than greater than. The surroundings suddenly fell silent for a moment, less than greater than, but very quickly became lively again. Less than greater than. Eating up the drama in this Shura field was just too good, especially when it came to truth or dare, this thrilling game. The drama became even more captivating. Come on, let me spin the bottle. When Saobe took the initiative to accept this glorious task, even winking at me, I found it incredibly amusing inside, but outwardly I still had to pretend that because of him, I was putting on a disappointed, absent-minded look. Chen Hanla's luck was truly terrible. The very first round, the bottle pointed right at her. Truth or dare? When Saobe looked at her and asked loudly. Chen Hanlu chose truth. Out of everyone sitting here, is there anyone you like? Chen Hanlu answered very honestly. Yes. Everyone let out a collective ooh. Their eyes unanimously turned to look at me, only to see me staring blankly at my phone, completely ignoring what was happening. Chen Hanlu's face instantly darkened. We continued playing a few more rounds, but the mouth of the bottle never pointed my way. The heater in the private room was turned up high, and I felt a bit stuffy, so I said I was going out for some fresh air. Ignored the others who were busy chatting, stood up and opened the door to the private room. The private room connected to a long hallway outside, and at the end of the hallway was a spacious outdoor balcony. Standing from this angle and looking out, you could take in the night view of a corner of the city. Neon lights flashed incessantly, bustling streets crisscrossed, and the headlights of cars were blindingly bright. I closed my eyes to feel it for a moment, feeling the gusts of cold wind pushing past my cheeks, my inner thoughts calm without a single ripple. Suddenly, footsteps sounded behind me. I slowly opened my eyes, suppressing all my tangled emotions, returning to the usual demeanor of Mu Chen. The person walked over and stood beside me, carrying a faint scent of alcohol. Did Chen Hanlu force you to drink? Su Jiajia nodded, looking pitiful. Yeah, if I didn't drink, your friend wouldn't let me leave. I didn't even offend your friend. Why is she so hostile toward me? She's not my friend. I didn't bother playing along with her script. Su Jiajia still didn't give up. Little Chen, do you know why she's targeting me? I don't want to know. It wasn't that I didn't know, but that I didn't want to know. Su Jiajia was left speechless. Unable to smoothly express her feelings, it gave her a sense that things were slipping out of her control, along with a humiliating sense of defeat. But there was no sadness as one might expect. Instead, her desire to conquer surged. Little Chen, I actually like you quite a bit. Do you want to consider me? Faced with this sudden confession, I didn't look surprised at all. I just glanced at her indifferently. I already have a girlfriend. Lu Ruyan. A flash of disdain crossed Su Jiajia's eyes. I thought you were just playing around with her. The retort I was about to blurt out suddenly halted when I caught a glimpse of a hem of clothing around the corner, forcing me to swallow it back down. I withdrew my gaze from the hem at the corner, shifted it to Su Jiajia's bright, gentle face, and smiled as I replied softly. It is just playing around. That face is exactly my type. Then you. But right now I haven't gotten tired of playing yet. I interrupted her right on time. If you don't mind, you can be my spare tire. Young Master Mu truly lived up to his name. With just one sentence, he insulted both of them right to their faces. Su Jiajia's expression instantly turned ugly. After all, she was still too young, completely unable to hide her thoughts on her face. The forced smile she squeezed out was incredibly stiff. Then when will you get tired of playing? In the corner, the shadow swayed slightly. Very quickly, that hem of clothing disappeared. Su Jiajia was still waiting for a definite answer from me, but I suddenly lost all my patience. What does that have to do with you? With that said, I didn't even care what kind of expression Su Jiajia had, and decisively turned around and walked away. I returned to the lively private room, no longer joining in their games. Sitting on the sofa, I absent-mindedly scooped up bites of cake from my plate. Su Jiajia's pride was hurt, so she didn't come back either. Shen Hanlu immediately became arrogant, running over to hypocritically cozy up to me. After being coldly mocked by me a few times, she also ran off in a huff. Around 9:30 p.m., the rest of the people gradually left. Very soon, only Wen Xiaobei and I were left in the private room. Brother Chen, how about I sleep over at your place tonight? Wen Xiaobei and I grew up together since we were kids. Almost every year on my birthday, he was the one by my side. Because my parents were truly too busy, so busy that they didn't even have time to come home for their son's birthday, only hastily sending the gifts they bought. But this year was a little different. I had a girlfriend. Yet this so-called girlfriend wasn't even by my side. I saw the worry and pity in his eyes and felt incredibly amused inside. No need, your mom has already called you several times. You should hurry home. Wen Xiaobei looked at me, hesitating to speak, but ultimately couldn't withstand his parents' bombardment of calls. He gave me a few more reminders, telling me to call if I needed anything. The night was as cold as water. The streetlights cast a sallow glow. The shadows of the branches printed on the ground, bearing fangs and brandishing claws, like monsters lurking in the dark. Liu Ruyan wasn't walking fast at all. Her eyes were cast down, making it impossible for anyone to see through the emotions in her eyes. The exquisitely wrapped gift box hung on the handlebars. She stared at it for a moment. As she passed by a trash can, she stopped and casually tossed it right in. Liu Ruyan thought to herself something had gone off track, but luckily, there was still a chance to fix it now. Lately, I've been feeling a bit bored. My mind is just completely empty. Liu Ruyan always had that cold demeanor to begin with, but after the birthday party, she treated me even more like I was invisible. Winter break was approaching. The weather was so cold that people simply didn't want to stick their hands out. Some girls in class bought yarn to knit scarves. Wen Xiaobei, of course, was no exception. Just 2 days ago, he got a new girlfriend, an art student from another school. What's the point of making this? Wouldn't it be easier to just buy one? I strongly disagreed with this whole thing. Wen Xiaobei glanced at the teacher lecturing on the podium, his hands not stopping for a second, and lowered his voice to tell me, "What do you know? Handmade gifts are so much warmer and more thoughtful." I looked at the loose, sparse scarf he was knitting, completely failing to see how wearing it would be warm at all. Wen Xiaobei told me I simply didn't understand. Tomorrow is already Christmas Eve. What are you planning to give the top student? After several major exams, Liu Ruyan's grades always led by a wide margin. Her position as the top student was incredibly secure. She was truly too outstanding. By the window, Liu Ruyan was listening attentively to the lecture. Her expression was as calm as water. I withdrew my gaze from her. In my heart, I was truly suffering in silence. We'll talk about it later, during our school days. Holidays like Christmas were very popular. Even though the teachers had warned us beforehand not to celebrate Western holidays, it couldn't stop the enthusiasm of high schoolers. Early in the morning, people were running to other classes, exchanging gifts with friends. Usually, it was beautifully wrapped apples or tangerines and other familiar fruits. The reality was, as time passed, my one-sided willingness and her cold indifference were clearly exposed in front of everyone. The boys who had a crush on Liu Ruyan went from being jealous and envious at first to now mocking and ridiculing me. So what if he's a rich young master? Isn't he still shamelessly tailing after someone who doesn't even like him? He really has no shame. A big surprise. Awesome. Hee hee. Wen Xiaobei's small face was flush red. What did the top student give you? I don't know. I lowered my eye, looking a bit dejected. Wen Xiaobei softly comforted me. It's okay, it's only been half the day. I'm sure the top student is saving a surprise for you tonight. We studied until the last period ended, and the teacher loudly announced class was dismissed. Liu Ruyan still hadn't said a single word to me. Liu Ruyan brought a gift bag to school and left it at the lost and found. I just sat at her desk, silently waiting for her. Bored, I flipped through her books. Liu Ruyan's books were kept very neat, and her handwriting was beautiful too. The notes written in them weren't many, exactly like her personality, concise and cold. Just as I was about to close the book, a sticky note fell out from the pages. 7:30 tonight, Times Square, I'll wait for you. The signature at the bottom read, Shen Jian. I lowered my eye and put the note back exactly as it was. My face showed no unusual expression whatsoever. Liu Ruyan came back to get things from her bag, and the two of us, just like normal, walked out of the school gates one after the other. Seeing her head straight for the bus stop, I hurried after her and reached out to grab her arm. Can you ask for the night off today? Liu Ruyan pulled her sleeve out of my grasp. Why? It's Christmas Eve. I felt a bit shy, my voice as quiet as a mosquito. Liu Ruyan nodded slightly. Just as a glimmer of hope began to shine in my eyes, she leisurely spoke up. Mashla, there are a lot of people going out for Christmas, Mashla. The bar will definitely pay extra. Mashla. I widened my eyes in shock. Mashla, my face full of disbelief. Mashla, are you crazy for money? I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you, okay? I was seriously so mad I could die. I said loudly, go out with me tonight to celebrate. Mashla, I'll pay you double, triple. The atmosphere instantly sank into silence. The surrounding sounds seemed to completely fade away. Only my breath remained, condensing into white mist in the freezing air before quickly being blown away by the cold wind. After a long while, Liu Ruyan suddenly let out a soft chuckle. Young Master Mu is truly generous. The bus pulled into the station right at that moment. Liu Ruyan turned and stepped straight onto the bus without a single ounce of hesitation, leaving me standing there alone, completely stunned. The bus drove far away, and the bus stop suddenly felt incredibly empty. I stood there alone for a long time, my face flushed red from the biting wind. I slightly huddled up, gently blowing hot air onto my freezing, stiff fingers. Something lightly fell onto my face, feeling cold before quickly melting into a drop of water. I looked up, squinting slightly. It's snowing. This is the first snow I've seen since coming to this world. I silently asked myself. No, I don't really like this pure white scenery. It looks too lonely. But even though I clearly dislike it, I still reached out to catch it. Human behavior is inherently bizarre anyway. Thinking that, I didn't bother dwelling on it anymore. In this freezing weather, nothing beats eating hot pot to warm up. I didn't go straight home, but went online to find a nearby hot pot restaurant. By the time I arrived at the entrance, it was already getting dark. I pushed the door open and walked in. An enthusiastic waiter rushed over to greet me. Hello, how many people in your party? The people who came here to eat hot pot were all groups of friends. They sat facing each other, the atmosphere incredibly lively. I took a look around and blurted out, too. After ordering the food and broth less than greater than, I softly said, the other person will be here in a bit. Less than greater than. Just bring the food out first. Less than greater than. No need to wait. Understood. The waiter didn't suspect a thing. I sat in a quiet corner by the window. I ordered a numbing, spicy red oil hot pot. As soon as it was brought to the table, the pungent, spicy aroma hit my nose. I dipped a few pieces of beef tripe into the boiling broth. The snow outside was falling heavier and heavier. The ground was soon covered in a blanket of pure white. The colorful string lights in the square across the street lit up. A giant Christmas tree stood right in the middle of the square, attracting quite a few young men and women to take photos. I stared intently at that familiar figure for a long time. Over an hour ago, she said she had to go to work. The person who coldly rejected my invitation was now showing up at Times Square. Shen Jiayan was wearing a short white puffer jacket today, with a thick woolen scarf wrapped around his neck, revealing only his delicate smiling face. He looked both adorable and gentle. Liu Ruyan was right beside him, wearing a simple, long black puffer coat, giving off a calm, aloof vibe. Between the two main characters, there was a fatal attraction that clearly couldn't be easily changed. I once again deeply engraved this sobering realization into my mind. Times Square was already crowded to begin with the combination of Christmas and the first snow, less than greater than. Even more people came out to have fun, less than greater than. The boy next to her was smiling and talking about something, less than greater than. Liu Ruyan took her phone out of her pocket, tapped it a few times, only to realize it had died. She had actually planned to go to work at Hongguan today, but when she arrived, she found someone waiting right at the main entrance of the bar. It was Shen Jiayan. I knew you hadn't read the note. Shen Jiayan muttered softly. What? Liu Ruyan didn't hear him clearly. Out of basic politeness, she stopped and turned around. Is something wrong? Are you free? Shen Jiayan was so nervous he didn't dare look at her, his eyes slightly red. Liu Ruyan's expression remained unchanged, and she rejected him flat out without a second thought. Sorry. Shen Jiayan suddenly looked up, seeing that she had already walked a few steps away and hurriedly called out loudly, I have something to tell you. It's about Mu Chen. Looking at the bustling young men and women passing by, she slowly began to feel a hint of regret. She shouldn't have come here tonight. Whatever happened to Mu Chen, what did it have to do with her? Liu Ruyan suppressed the inexplicable emotion at the bottom of her heart and held down the power button on her phone. As soon as it turned on, a message popped up. It was from an unsaved number, but one she was incredibly familiar with. When do you get off work? A moment later, another message arrived. This time, it was a photo. Snow falling gently. Under the dim yellow streetlights, it looked like dancing stars. Liu Ruyan. It's snowing. It's snowing. Liu Ruyan stared at her phone screen, freezing for a few seconds. Shen Jiayan called her a few times before she snapped back to reality. It's snowing. Shen Jiayan chuckled softly, his smile incredibly innocent and warm. What are you thinking about? You zoned out. Nothing. Liu Ruyan put her phone back in her pocket. What did you want to talk about? About Mu Chen. Shen Jiayan's thick eyelashes trembled slightly and his slender hands slowly pulled back. He didn't answer her question directly, but asked in return, You're not genuinely with him, are you? Liu Ruyan's expression instantly turned cold. She had never liked discussing her private matters with others. Shen Jiayan was lost in his own thoughts. Her silence, in a way, was a tacit admission. Shen Jiayan took a deep breath, finally making up his mind. Liu Ruyan. I stood quietly not far from the two of them. The rest of Shen Jiayan's words caught in his throat. His entire body froze on the spot. Amidst Liu Ruyan's slight frown, I smiled and walked over to her, flashing a bright smile, and handed her the brown paper bag in my hand. Merry Christmas. I didn't open my mouth to question why she was here or why she suddenly showed up in this place. It was as if I had suddenly gotten amnesia. Who knows what kind of scheme I was plotting now? Liu Ruyan stayed silent for a moment, then reached out and took it. Shen Jiayan felt he couldn't stay there any longer, his eyes burning red. He hastily dropped a line about having something to do at home and awkwardly turned and left. Where's my gift? I held my palm open, reaching it out in front of her. A few snowflakes gently fell onto my hand, quickly melting into water. After waiting for a long time, the person in front of me still didn't make a move. I gradually dropped my smile, my lips pressed tightly into a straight line. Liu Ruyan, we're dating. No gifts, not even a greeting. This relationship has brought me nothing but deceit and half-heartedness. My tone didn't reveal any obvious emotion. I was just calmly stating a fact. You're really boring. I don't know which word struck a nerve. She suddenly turned around, looking straight at me. You can choose to break up. The beginning wasn't exactly glorious, and the motives weren't pure either. Yet you insist on demanding a beautiful process. How is that possible? The two of us ultimately parted on bad terms. Of course, this was just a one-sided Cold War on my part. As for Liu Ruyan, nothing in her life had noticeably changed. Without me around, it was actually a good thing for her. A vicious male supporting character needs his dignity too. This time I was determined. I absolutely couldn't be the first to yield. Throughout the entire winter break, less than greater than, I didn't contact her at all. Less than greater than. Liu Ruyan continued working part-time at the bar as usual, less than greater than, and buried herself in her studies as soon as she got back to her old, run-down house. Because this was a blank period in the plot, I lived my days in absolute bliss, occasionally bullying the male lead verbally, then going on crazy shopping sprees, traveling everywhere to have fun, and feasting on all sorts of delicacies. My high school life was incredibly rich and colorful. The start of the new high school semester marked the beginning of a stressful and high-pressure exam prep period. Responding to the call to care for teenagers' mental health, the school specially invited a female psychology teacher. It was the very person I had briefly met once, Shen Jiayan's older neighbor, Su Yuaning. She was young and highly capable, incredibly beautiful, and spoke very gently. As soon as she arrived, she attracted a massive fan base. She didn't hide her care for Shen Jiayan either. Very quickly, everyone in the class knew that Shen Jiayan and this beautiful young teacher had a rather deep connection. This made Shen Jiayan's popularity in class significantly better. Those who used to fear the Mu family's power and didn't dare pay attention to him now started initiating conversations. For a moment, this young master here became the one left out in the cold. A few friends with family backgrounds similar to mine felt that I must be really upset, so to properly comfort me, they dragged me out to skip class and hit the bar to drown my sorrows. Even though I didn't feel a thing inside, to avoid breaking my character setting, less than greater than, I still had to put on an act and tag along. Less than greater than. These rich kids booked a luxurious private room, less than greater than. Partying it up like crazy, less than greater than. Without a single ounce of urgency for the upcoming college entrance exams. I found it highly amusing, so I grabbed my phone and recorded a video of them. After thinking for a moment, I held up my phone to take a few selfies, capturing the extravagant interior of the bar, along with the backs of the guys in the shot. Then I posted it to my moments. After a few rounds of drinks, it was completely dark outside. I glanced at the time on my phone and took the elevator down to the first-floor lobby. Pretending not to see Liu Ruyan standing at the reception desk, I walked out and then walked back in. I deliberately paced in and out a few times, till Liu Ruyan finally couldn't hold back and spoke up. Did you come to the bar just to take a walk? I was instantly speechless. I walked right up to her, feigning a look of complete surprise. Why are you still working here? Good money. Liu Ruyan replied concisely. This was the first time since I forced her to let me pay her tuition that the two of us had a normal conversation. I frowned slightly. My cheeks were a bit flush from the alcohol. Liu Ruyan gave me a nonchalant glance. How much have you had to drink? I didn't react in time. I didn't drink. I looked up, thinking seriously for a moment. Fruit wine. Liu Ruyan's expression turned a bit cold. Flashing back to the photos she had just seen, she coldly dropped a line. Sit there and wait. Looking as if she found me annoying and couldn't be bothered with me. I pouted, but I was honestly feeling tired now. I didn't want to go back to the private room and listen to that demonic noise torturing my ears either, so I obediently sat down to rest on the sofa to the side. I was already incredibly handsome to begin with, and over the past 2 years my features had grown even sharper. Normally when I spoke, I was always arrogant and domineering, carrying the air of a haughty, sheltered brat. Sitting there quietly and obediently right now, it unconsciously made people feel I was somewhat well-behaved. But it was only a look of being well-behaved, Liu Ruyan thought to herself. Once those young guys started partying, they threw everything else out the window. By the time the guys in the private room realized someone was missing, I had already left with Liu Ruyan. When Xiaobei texted me, scolding me for bros before hoes, less than greater than, a total simp, less than greater than. I looked at the delicate cold side profile of the girl next to me, less than greater than, and texted back, I like it that way, less than greater than. It wasn't until now that I finally realized less than greater than, what Liu Ruyan meant by telling me to wait. Turns out she was planning to take me home. I was so surprised my eyes went wide, feeling a sense of comfort that all my efforts over the years hadn't been in vain. I quietly reached out and grabbed her hand. Liu Ruyan's body visibly stiffened for a beat, but she didn't shake me off or pull away, just letting me hold on tight. A minute later, Liu Ruyan said in a flat voice, "Don't pinch me." I hurriedly pulled back the fingers that were digging into her palm. When I got home that night, I lay on my large, soft bed, spacing out. Tell me, could it be that Liu Ruyan actually likes me a little bit now? I silently answered myself, probably not. Don't overthink it. Hey, I was just asking. In the book, the Mu family goes bankrupt on the eve of the college entrance exams. I carefully calculated the dates, and there was less than half a year left. Time really flies. I remember when I first came to this world, it was a cold season much like this one. I wonder how far Liu Ruyan and Shen Jiayan's relationship has progressed. In the places I can't see, the school gave us a holiday on October 1st, but the study halls and library remain open for the seniors. Quite a few studyaholics had already gone there. As for me, I curled up at home comfortably watching movies. I watched and watched until I fell asleep without even realizing it. By the time I woke up, it was already afternoon. After freshening up a bit, I planned to go out and find somewhere to eat. I was sick and tired of the food around the villa area. The family driver took me to the city center. I pushed the door open and stepped out of the car, heading straight for the mall, and went right up to the food court on the 3rd floor. As soon as I reached the 3rd floor, I heard a fierce argument. This shirt of mine is a designer brand worth thousands of dollars. Tell me, how are you going to pay for this? The woman's tone was incredibly arrogant and unreasonable. It was clearly you who. I couldn't hear the rest of the words clearly. The familiar voice made me stop and look over, and unexpectedly, I saw Shen Jiayan. What's going on here? Shen Jiayan was wearing a waiter's uniform, surrounded by a crowd. His delicate little face was filled with awkwardness and anxiety. As for the short, chubby, middle-aged woman facing him, there was still a wet stain on her shirt. She tilted her chin up, cursing relentlessly, and even tried to reach out and grab him as she spoke. Shen Jiayan hurriedly stepped back, preventing the woman from getting her way. He never expected that taking advantage of the holiday to work part-time would lead to running into such a shrewish, shameless woman. Failing to take advantage of him, she deliberately dirtied her clothes, using it as an excuse to give him a hard time. Quite a few diners around had gathered to watch the drama. Seeing this, the middle-aged woman became even more arrogant. What about me, huh? If you ruin something, you pay for it. Seeing as you're just a kid, I won't make you pay too much. $3,000 will do. $3,000. Shen Jiayan's face went pale, clearly terrified by the number. Seeing that her goal had been achieved, the woman couldn't help but rub her hands together. Just as she was about to lower her voice and say something sleazy, she was suddenly yanked backward by the collar. A lazy male voice rang out from behind, "Hey lady, what era are we in that you're still pulling this kind of stunt? Extortion is illegal, you know." I pulled my hand back in disgust, wiping my fingers with a tissue. The woman's face changed color at my words. After getting a clear look at my face, before she could even flash a lecherous smile, my look of utter disgust left her frozen in embarrassment. The expressions on her face shifted constantly like she was putting on a play. What extortion? I wasn't born yesterday, you know. If you ruin something, you pay for it. That's just how the world works. I didn't hold back and rolled my eyes in contempt. Fine, you want compensation? Sure. Let's pull up the security footage and see who started it. My tone was dripping with disdain. You're asking for $3,000 for a raggedy shirt. Bring out the receipt and I'll pay you. A cheap knockoff from the flea market is barely $15. The middle-aged woman, of course, couldn't produce a single receipt. My aura is extraordinary, and I'm wearing high-end designer clothes. One look and you can tell I come from money. She was already feeling a bit guilty. The moment she heard me demand the security footage and the receipt, she flew into a rage out of humiliation, threw down a "consider yourself unlucky," and hurriedly pushed her way through the crowd to leave. She didn't even dare ask for compensation anymore. Seeing this, the panicked crowd around us also dispersed. Shen Jiayan didn't expect that someone who usually spits venom like me would actually step up to help him. He muttered a quiet "thank you." "Who needs your thanks?" I kept up my usual unforgiving attitude. This young master simply found that old hag an eyesore. I had absolutely no intention of helping him. And another thing, I glared at him maliciously. "Stop thinking about all that romantic nonsense all day long." After warning him, I turned around and walked right off, looking both carefree and incredibly smug. It was baffling. That middle-aged woman picking a fight out of nowhere appeared way too coincidentally. Along with the fact that I chased the trouble away with just a few words, and my final warning before leaving. How could everything be such a coincidence? Shen Jiayan stared intently at my back, his fingers slowly clenching into fists, his delicate face twisted for a brief moment. I had no idea I was being suspected as the mastermind behind this whole thing. If I had known, I definitely would have cried foul to the heavens. Oh please. This young master is walking the path of the vicious male supporting character, not some bored idiot with too much time on his hands. I quickly tossed this little interlude to the back of my mind. I've been incredibly busy these past 2 days, because there are less than 2 days left until Liu Ruyan's birthday. Even though she didn't care about my birthday at all, I'm a very generous person. I won't stoop to her level. After all, the favored one has nothing to fear. Who told me to like that face of hers so much anyway? During her birthday last year, I gave Liu Ruyan a limited edition piece of jewelry. She didn't even bother to touch it. This year, I decided to change my gifting strategy. No more attacking with money. Sincerity is the ultimate killer move. I'm definitely a clumsy guy. I holed up in my room forever just to finish making the gift, only to realize that dusk had already fallen outside. I carefully wrapped the gift, then jogged downstairs and told the driver to hurry up and get the car. During the holiday, the cafe was even busier than usual. During her break, Liu Ruyan hastily scarfed down her dinner. The phone in her pocket chimed. It was a text message from me, asking where she was right now. Liu Ruyan stared at the screen for a moment, then replied that she was at home. The customer's coffee was ready. She put her phone down and brought the coffee over. By the time she finished all her work, 2 hours had passed. Someone came to take over her shift. She packed her things and hurried home. On the way, the female manager of the cafe finalized her wages and transferred the money to her, while also expressing deep regret over her resignation. She even reminded her to study hard for the college entrance exams. Liu Ruyan was very grateful to this manager and quickly texted back a thank you. She rode her bike back to the old alleyway. A few scattered houses on both sides of the road still cast in light. The narrow concrete road was bumpy and full of potholes. Power lines crisscrossed chaotically overhead. The faint, damp scent of osmanthus flowers lingered in the air. The deeper she went, the closer she got to her place. The soundproofing around here was terrible, so Liu Ruyan stopped pedaling. She got off and slowly pushed her bike. A few seconds later, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. The window of the house opposite cast a sickly yellow light, stretching out the shadow of a teenage boy squatting by the wall. The boy had his head down, holding who knows what in his hand. He was just aimlessly scribbling and drawing on the ground out of boredom. The bicycle suddenly let out a squeak, startling the small figure huddled by the wall. Seeing clearly that the person approaching was Liu Ruyan, the boy immediately threw away the object in his hand. When he stood up, his legs were numb, causing him to stumble a bit, lying without even blinking. "Didn't you say you were at home?" His tone carried obvious grievance, pouting loudly. His white shirt had brushed against something unknown, and the corners of his eyes were red. There was a very obvious stain on his shirt, and the white canvas shoes on his feet were also smudged with dirt. Right now, I looked exactly like a white ragdoll cat that had gotten into an accident. Following her gaze, I saw my dirtied shirt and shoes. I flushed bright red with embarrassment. "It's all because of this dump you live in." I pouted my lips high, wiping at it a few times, but the more I wiped, the dirtier it got. I was fuming inside. My little mouth kept rambling non-stop. "All you know is making money every single day. You don't even remember your own birthday. I wasted my effort coming all the way here just to celebrate your birthday. I was so anxious, terrified you'd gone out with someone else." The more I spoke, the quieter my voice became. My head dropped lower and I muttered gloomily, "And in the end, you even lied to me, making me wait for over 3 hours for nothing." Liu Ruyan, you liar. You did it on purpose, didn't you? Liu Ruyan stood over a meter away from me, standing silently in the dark. I couldn't clearly see her expression. I suddenly felt a bit disheartened. Even my hair seemed to droop dejectedly. I mumbled, ignoring me again? It's like this every time. Just how much do you hate me anyway? The aggrieved end of my sentence was blown away by the night wind, making it hard to hear. Liu Ruyan slowly stepped out of the shadows. She decisively propped her bike against the wall and suddenly closed in on me, step by step. The sudden oppressive feeling made me instinctively want to step back. But the very next second, my arm was grabbed tightly. What are you running for? Liu Ruyan stared intently at me. Her grip was incredibly strong. There was a thin layer of calluses on her palm, rough and burning hot. Her 5 fingers pressed deeply into my fair skin. I only felt a painful, burning sensation where she gripped me. My heart pounded wildly. I frantically tried to shake her hand off, but Liu Ruyan immediately grabbed my other restless hand too. My slender wrist completely locked in place. She lowered her head, her eyelashes hiding the complex emotions deep in her eyes. If you couldn't wait, didn't you know how to go home? You knew I lied to you, yet you still squatted here waiting like an idiot. If I hadn't come back all night, were you planning to wait here all night too? Muchen, do you have any sense of safety at all? I was dumbfounded by her scolding. I was already suffering from a massive grievance, and now I was being despised by the culprit herself. I had never felt so suffocated and wronged in my life. Yeah, I'm an idiot. I'm stupid. I have no sense of safety. Tears gradually welled up in my eyes. I glared at her. Whatever I do in your eyes is always dead wrong anyway. Rushing over here to give you a birthday present is just me pressing my hot face against your cold ass. A heart full of sincerity fed to the dogs. Liu Ruyan just stared at me without saying a word. An indescribable silence spread between us. After a long while, she loosened her grip on my wrists. I didn't say that. That's exactly what you meant. I was about to say something else, when a loud grumble suddenly echoed in the quiet space. My body stiffened. Realizing her gaze had fallen on me, my face instantly flushed bright red. I was right in the middle of a passionate rant, so why did my stomach have to start growling now? Liu Ruyan reacted, furrowing her brows tightly. You haven't eaten. Humph. I awkwardly turned my head away. Sitting on the small sofa in Liu Ruyan's house, I was still a bit dazed. I didn't understand why she had dragged me in here. This was my first time stepping into her house. The space was very small and old, but it was kept incredibly clean. That was my first impression of this place. I couldn't sit still for long before I started wandering all over the place. One moment I was complaining that the fridge was too small. The next I was saying the TV needed replacing, and the paint on the walls was peeling off. There was seriously too little furniture in the house. The room was way too cramped, and the soundproofing around here was terrible. After talking until my mouth was sore, I hugged the glass of water she had just poured for me and leaned against the kitchen door. Are you cooking for me? Liu Ruyan had her back to me, her figure slender and straight. The simple outfit of a gray short-sleeved shirt and black pants she wore exuded an air of nobility and coldness. She didn't say anything, but I wasn't annoyed at all. I have a quick temper, but I cool down just as fast. One second I was so mad I was about to cry. The next I was already feeling smug again. Oh right, let's go buy a cake together. How can you have a birthday without a cake? Hey, what do you think of this shop? Liu Ruyan, look at this. Liu Ruyan carried a steaming bowl of noodles, walked past me expressionlessly, and set it on the dining table. She had made egg and vegetable noodles. The eggs had been pan-fried first, 2 golden brown eggs resting on top of the noodles, garnished with a few vibrant green bok choy leaves. A mouth-watering aroma wafted over, and I couldn't help but swallow hard. I suddenly felt my stomach rumbling even more fiercely, less than greater than. My appetite completely awakened. Less than greater than. I completely forgot all about buying a cake. Less than greater than. I lowered my head and slurped down mouthful after mouthful of noodles. Less than greater than. After eating about half, the hunger pangs subsided a bit, and I timidly looked up. The space in front of Liu Ruyan was empty. My face full of confusion, I asked, "You're not eating." I already ate. So this bowl of noodles really was made just for me? I paused mid-bite, glancing up at her sitting across from me. Liu Ruyan had her eyes slightly lowered, looking at a vocabulary notebook she had pulled out from who knows where. The contours of her brows and eyes were cold, her delicate face sharp and defined, her nose tall and straight. When she lowered her eyes, you could see her thick, long eyelashes. Her red lips, neither too thin nor too full, were slightly pursed, carrying an air of indifference, keeping people 1,000 miles away. The gaze from across the table was too burning hot to ignore. She didn't even bother to lift her eyelids. Am I pretty? Staring at someone until I was completely dazed, and then getting caught red-handed by the person herself. My face flushed slightly, but I didn't feel embarrassed at all. Completely naturally, with a clear and pleasant voice. I had never hidden the fact that I liked her. Liu Ruyan, you really are beautiful. But she wasn't happy about the compliment like I imagined she'd be. Instead, her face darkened. You've been looking for 2 years, aren't you tired of it yet? I just like your face, am still not tired of looking at it. My immature yet arrogant voice seemed to still echo in her ears. On Liu Ruyan's face there was absolutely no expression left. She stood up, looking down at me from above. Leave when you're done eating. Not understanding why she suddenly turned hostile, I sped up and polished off the bowl of noodles in 2 or 3 bites. I wiped my mouth haphazardly and declared loudly, I'm not leaving. Do you think this young master is someone you can just invite over and kick out whenever you please? Inviting trouble into your home perfectly described this situation. I sat there as steady as Mount Tai, terrified she might actually throw me out. I sprawled over the table, refusing to budge, my round peach blossom eyes wide open as I peeked at her. We stared at each other in silence for a moment. Liu Ruyan took a deep breath and went to wash the dishes without changing her expression. She's not kicking me out? I rejoiced inwardly, but outwardly pretended to be reluctant. Fine. Calling it was a stretch. It was really just a small partitioned space. I put away the washed dishes and walked out, but she was nowhere to be seen. A sliver of light spilled from the crack in the door of the next room. I pushed the door open and walked in. Liu Ruyan sat with her eyes lowered at a small study desk. The exam paper laid out in front of her was only partially completed. I walked over quietly facing her and with a half-serious demeanor leaned against the desk. I waved a hand in front of her face. Hey, do you really have to study this hard? Let's go out and celebrate your birthday. She glanced at me, then lowered her eyes again. I lifted my foot and gently nudged her leg. I'm talking to you. How can we not go? I went through all the trouble of coming here to celebrate your birthday with you. She stopped writing, picked up the open book, and put it away neatly. Her eyelashes drooped. There aren't any cake shops nearby. My face instantly fell. Suddenly thinking of something, I perked right back up. It's fine. I can just have someone buy one and bring it over. I took out my phone to send a text, but she gently grabbed my wrist. She took my phone and placed it on the desk. Don't go through all that trouble. It's no trouble. I can pay them an errand fee. Seeing my serious expression, she suddenly let out a soft chuckle. I know you have money. Seeing her tuck the exam paper into a book, I immediately asked, You're not doing your homework anymore? She gave a soft and took a few steps. Seeing that I wasn't following, she stopped, turned around and asked, Weren't we going to buy a cake? I finally reacted, smiling brightly like an idiot, just wanting to run over and grab her hand. Yes, let's go. She tilted her head, the corners of her lips curling into a faint smile under the light. In the end, we still couldn't buy a cake. I held the bread she bought from the supermarket, pouting in disappointment and muttered under my breath, Will making a wish on a piece of bread even work? If I had known, I would have brought one with me. Liu Ruyan said softly, This is perfectly fine. How are you supposed to blow out candles and make a wish? Clearly, I was not satisfied with this at all. I had zero enthusiasm. It was obviously her birthday, yet I cared more about the ceremony than she did. She took a lighter out of the drawer, tested it, and it still worked. Under my confused gaze, she turned off the lights. The room instantly plunged into darkness. Only the faint light of the moon pierced through the window, casting hazy streaks of light on the floor. I blankly took the lighter. Her deep, warm voice echoed softly in the dark. Mu Chen, light the candle. Candle? What candle? A large, dry, and warm hand covered the back of mine, guiding me to flick the lighter. The small flame lit up the cramped space. The contours of half her face appeared faintly in the firelight, her long eyelashes casting a soft shadow. The two of us were incredibly close, our breaths seemingly intertwining. It was unclear whose heart was pounding so loudly. In her usually cold eyes, I could clearly see my own reflection. In this moment, it felt like something was about to sprout and break through the ice, but I tried my hardest to suppress it. As she leaned in closer, the small flame was blown out, but she didn't sit back down. She stayed silent for a moment, then hesitated. Mu Chen, I suddenly shouted loudly. That's right. Did you make a wish? You have to make a wish before blowing out the candle for it to work. Otherwise, it's useless. I hurriedly took a few steps back, fumbling in the dark to turn on the room light. The lights flickered on, completely dispelling the indescribably ambiguous atmosphere from just moments ago. Liu Rian closed her eyes, and when she opened them, the indifference in her eyes had returned. I forgot. How could you forget something so important? Do you want some bread? She cut off my rambling. The bread wasn't very big, so we split it in half. She stared at the crumbs on the corner of my mouth for a long time, less than greater than, then looked away. Less than greater than. I'll take you home after we eat. Less than greater than. She took out her phone to check the time. Less than greater than. It really was getting quite late. I'm a guy, so it wouldn't be appropriate for me to stay any longer. I paused mid-bite. This time, I didn't brazenly demand to stay. Okay. Oh, right, I suddenly remembered something and hurriedly walked over to the small sofa. She watched me pull out a craft paper bag from my tote bag. Seeming to sense something, she immediately stood up. I held the craft paper bag out to her with both hands, looking up with a beaming smile. Here, your birthday present. Liu Rian didn't reach out to take it, so I quickly explained. I didn't buy it from a store. I made it myself. She knew very well that she should refuse it, just like she had refused so many expensive gifts I had given her in the past, but she still accepted. Just like the first snow of Christmas that year, she accepted my Christmas gift. Inside was a pair of clumsily knitted gloves, blue, with some loose threads and barely warm at all. I've never given you a gift, she said, referring to my past birthdays. Good that you know. At least you still have a conscience. Chirk. I scoffed twice, a little displeased, a little embarrassed, and said with feigned arrogance, then just make it up to me with gifts in the future. In the future. Her fingers tightened around the craft paper bag, less than greater than. Her voice slightly hoarse. Okay, less than greater than. She hailed a cab to take me home, less than greater than, watching me walk briskly toward the villa area. Less than greater than. Only when my back completely disappeared from sight did she turn around. She walked back slowly. From the gorgeous villa district to her rundown alley was a very long distance. She could walk it, but the distance between her and me wasn't something that could be easily closed just by walking. Liu Ruyan took a glass jar out of her bag. A beautifully colored rose rested inside the glass jar, looking incredibly vibrant and eye-catching. Dried flowers preserved with desiccant, if kept well, could last a very long time in a glass jar. On this exact 18th birthday, she had received a rose that was completely unique in this world, one that would never wither. But flowers always look different on the outside than they do on the inside. She didn't know if she should fall in love or not. The 7-day National Day holiday had passed, and the seniors fell back into the repetitive, tedious grind of studying. The first mock exam was fast approaching. The homeroom teacher constantly nagged us, saying that after the exam, the report cards would be sent directly to every parent. The usual slackers all started getting nervous, cursing while desperately cramming. Having bad grades was fine, not improving was whatever, but being publicly humiliated was out of the question, especially for those rich and powerful parents who valued face above all else. Lately, my life had been pretty miserable. My parents rarely came home to supervise my studies, which forced me to actually sit and listen in class these past few days and seriously do my homework. But what's the point of cramming at the last minute? I thought of Liu Ruyan. She was an all-around top-tier genius. A few days ago, she even won first place in the physics Olympiad, making quite a name for herself. 2 major universities had already secretly sent her invitations. I had just given her a gift, even stepped through her front door, and celebrated an unforgettable birthday with her. Things were going great. I felt our relationship was progressing, less than greater than. Maybe we were actually like a real boyfriend and girlfriend now. Less than greater than. Anyway, she was still my girlfriend right now. Less than greater than. It'd be an idiot not to ask for her help. Less than greater than. So naturally, I wanted her to tutor me. Less than greater than. Just consider it another form of wholesome dating. Taking advantage of the teacher looking away, less than greater than. I tossed a sticky note onto her desk. Less than greater than. On it, I wrote, let's go to the library together after school. Less than greater than. After throwing it, I kept glancing over eagerly. It wasn't until right before class ended that she finally opened it. After reading it, she folded it back up, not even bothering to spare me a single glance. After school, I marched over to her annoyed. Why didn't you reply to my note? I read it. If I read it, why do I need to reply? I could hear the underlying meaning in her words. I was pissed but couldn't vent it. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her anymore. Are you not working part-time this weekend? I can skip the morning, but I still have to go in the afternoon. Half a day was enough to grab lunch together. That was good enough. When it came to her, I was a very easily satisfied person. Maybe because she had rejected me so many times before. So her occasionally going along with me was enough to make me really happy. All right, see you tomorrow then. Yeah. Wen Xiaobei had signed up for outside tutoring class, so he hadn't been walking with me these past few days. My family's driver took a leave of absence, so without a ride, less than greater than. I decided to take a slow walk home. Less than greater than. On the way, I happened to run into two people. Less than greater than. From quite a distance away, less than greater than. I spotted Shen Jiayan and Su Yuaning walking together. I had no intention of going over to bother them, but unfortunately, even if I didn't go looking for trouble, trouble had a way of finding me. Mu Chen, what a coincidence, Shen Jiayan said as she walked over. I still haven't thanked you for what happened last time. If you don't mind, let me treat you to a meal. Treat my ass. Before I could even open my mouth to refuse, Su Yuaning seemed to catch onto something, her delicate brows furrowing slightly. What happened, Jiayan? Did something happen? Shen Jiayan looked a bit embarrassed. It's just that a customer gave me a hard time while I was working part-time. She looked toward me and said with a faint smile, Fortunately, thanks to a few words from classmate Mu Chen, we easily got rid of that customer. No matter how you listened to it, this thank you sounded off. Faced with Shen Jiayan's seemingly grateful thanks, keeping up my persona as the low-IQ evil male sidekick, I had to pretend I didn't catch the sarcasm. Shen Jiayan's expression stiffened, looking a bit awkward. Su Yuaning, of course, couldn't stand watching this anymore. Classmate Mu, less than greater than. Jiayan is thanking you, less than greater than. I acted like I didn't care, less than greater than. Miss Su, I'm not deaf, I heard her. Less than greater than. Thank you. Su Yuaning's less than greater than impression of me grew even worse. But aside from my bad tone, I hadn't actually said anything out of line. She took a deep breath. I'll pay for this meal. I'll treat classmate Mu as thanks for helping Jiayan. No way, Sister Yuaning, how could I let you pay? This is my business. If anyone's treating, it should be me. You call me sister yourself. Your business is my business, so you can't refuse. I really couldn't listen to this anymore. Why don't you two just go eat together? Treat my ass. They didn't even bother asking if I wanted to eat. A meal treated by you two. I wouldn't dare eat it anyway. I pointed at each of them, smiling but not reaching my eyes. Miss Su, we aren't close. Shen Jiayan, we have bad blood. Forcing ourselves to sit at the same table, no one would be comfortable. Goodbye. Don't see me off. With that, I straightened my back and decisively walked right past them. Leaving them behind, even after walking quite a distance, I still felt annoyed. Those two dared to flirt right in front of me, so I was just a tool for them to hit on each other, acting like nobody knows how close they are. Lu Ruyan's genius halo shined wherever she went. Even the people around her benefited from it. After a few tutoring sessions, in the first mock exam, I finally achieved the monstrous rank of 1,644. The joint exam across 5 high schools had over 10,000 students. Breaking into the top 1,000-something was no easy feat, okay? This was truly an outstanding achievement. At the very top of the ranking board, the 3 words Liu Ruyan sat firmly in first place. Perfect score in sciences, perfect score in math. English 148. Only literature dragged her score down a bit, but for a normal student, it was still absolutely insane. An undeniably high score. Was this the protagonist's halo? I stared at it, completely dumbfounded. I knew she was smart, but I didn't expect her to be this smart. Was this a score a normal human could even get? Then what about Shen Jiayan? I looked further down. I saw Shen Jiayan's name somewhere in the 300. Total score over 600. Still a very good result. My rank had skyrocketed this time. A bunch of my friends loudly demanded to celebrate for me. We set up a dinner plan. The moment I heard the location was Jiangnan Bank, I immediately opened my mouth to refuse. Change the place, let's go somewhere else. What's wrong? Didn't you host your birthday at Jiangnan Bank last time? The food there is pretty good. Wen Xiaobi said, his face full of confusion. That was exactly why I was still traumatized. I just felt like Jiangnan Bank was bad luck. But if I told Wen Xiaobi that, if I said that, Wen Xiaobi would definitely think there was something wrong with my brain. Going to the same place all the time is boring as hell. Let's go to Hongquan instead. We rarely go to Hongquan anyway. In the end, everyone agreed to go to Hongquan. The front desk had a different waitress. She wasn't as pretty as Lu Ruyan. She didn't have a figure as nice as Lu Ruyan's, nor was she as tall. Coincidentally, right as our group walked through the door, we caught the female manager of Hongquan Bar giving instructions to the waitress. I didn't pay much mind and walked inside, but suddenly heard something that made me stop in my tracks. What did you just say? Someone was making trouble for Liu Ruyan. What does that mean? My face darkened with tension. Ignoring the others trying to hold me back, I walked straight to the curb and hailed a cab. A light drizzle had started falling at some point. Raindrops hit the car window and slid down. I watched the scenery constantly retreating outside the window, my intense emotions gradually calming down. The female manager's words kept echoing in my ears. That eldest miss of the Shen family comes here often, bringing a bunch of friends and deliberately causes trouble every time. She specifically demands Liu Ruyan to serve their drinks and fruit. I didn't get it. That wasn't even part of Liu Ruyan's job description, less than greater than. So why did she have to serve them just because she was told to? Less than greater than. The manager had awkwardly explained that the eldest Miss Shen had spoken. If Liu Ruyan dared to refuse, she'd better watch her back on her way home. A bunch of rich playboys would block her path and corner her. They'd dare to do anything. It was better to just be smart, serve the tea and pour the water, endure a few sarcastic insults, and let it go. The manager had originally planned to advise Liu Ruyan to endure it a bit longer, but Liu Ruyan took the initiative to quit. No matter how much of a playboy Cheng Hanlu was, less than greater than. He wouldn't just randomly cause trouble for people. Less than greater than. He wouldn't just randomly cause trouble for people. Liu Ruyan was suffering this collateral damage because of me. I didn't bring an umbrella. The thoughtful taxi driver parked right in front of the cafe's door. I stepped out of the car, stood before the transparent glass door, and reached out to push it open. But when my palm touched the cold door handle, I suddenly froze. Liu Ruyan was wearing a simple white hoodie, with a work apron tied around her waist, black with red trim, her back to the door as she carried coffee. Someone was talking to her. She leaned in slightly, lowering her head to listen. Her side profile looked so calm and delicate. My eyes wavered slightly. After a long moment, I slowly pulled my hand back. Inside the cafe, Liu Ruyan's heart suddenly skipped a beat. As if sensing something, she turned to look at the front door. But outside, there was only the endless, drizzling rain. The wind chime hanging by the door swayed gently, letting out a clear, pleasant sound. There wasn't a single soul in sight. Liu Ruyan withdrew her gaze. The rain was getting heavier. A car sped by, splashing water half a meter into the air. With quick reflexes, I pulled out the umbrella I had just bought to shield myself. Damn it, do you have any public decency? Do you know what it means to slow down? I yelled until my throat was hoarse. The car quickly disappeared from sight. What kind of person does that? I rubbed my freezing arms. The rain was pouring down harder now. It was getting cold too. I needed to find somewhere to take shelter. Just as I was thinking that, a strong gust of wind swept by. The umbrella shook violently. I let out a yelp, using all my strength to pull the umbrella down. The next second, a strong hand reached out from behind and grabbed the umbrella handle. The umbrella instantly steadied. Body heat pressed against my side. I felt that entire half of my body go numb and weak. A faint, familiar scent of soap drifted past my nose. In that moment of distraction, Liu Ruyan had taken the umbrella from my hand. Her movements were incredibly natural. She had rushed out here in a hurry, her long hair completely soaked by the rain. She furrowed her brows slightly, less than greater than. Her tone not exactly friendly, less than greater than. It's raining. What are you doing running around outside? Less than greater than. Doing performance art? Less than greater than. Playing the edgy, sentimental guy standing in the rain. I shivered from the cold. You're the one doing performance art. Liu Ruyan didn't bother arguing with me, grabbing my wrist and pulling me toward the bus stop. With rain this heavy, were you just at the cafe? No, I refused to admit it. Liu Ruyan quietly stared at me. 10 seconds later, I surrendered. Fine, I was there. I saw you were busy working, so I didn't want to bother you. She completely rejected that excuse. She didn't believe for a second that I could be that considerate. Just as she was about to ask more, I stood on my tiptoes and pretentiously patted her head. Oh my, you ran all the way out here. Why didn't you bring an umbrella? Were you afraid it'd run away? I blinked, saying mischievously to Liu Ruyan, Admit it, you're falling for me too, aren't you? She froze for a moment. Her eyes wavered imperceptibly. Keeping a straight face, she said, What nonsense are you talking about? In the middle of a crowd, at a large bus stop. Interrupted by me like that, she couldn't ask any more questions. The autumn weather was clear and cool. The school had organized a trip for the 12th graders to visit a university. To visit 2 top-tier universities to experience the college atmosphere and ignite the students' passion for learning. 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, gather at the school's south gate. The homeroom teacher announced the instructions. I woke up very early. By the time I groggily finished brushing my teeth and washing my face, it was already past 6:40 a.m. I didn't even have time for breakfast, before hurriedly telling the driver to take me to school. Arriving at the school gate, I was just in time to catch the last group of students boarding the school bus. I followed right behind them onto the bus. The bus was almost full. With a single glance, I spotted my buddy Wen Xiaobei waving at me. Right after, I saw Liu Ruyan sitting in the back row by the window. The seat next to her was empty. Since I liked her so much, I obviously wasn't going to pass up this opportunity. I decisively ditched Wen Xiaobei and headed straight for the back row. From the moment I rushed onto the bus in a panic, she had already seen me. Out of the corner of her eye, she watched me getting closer and closer, till a light breeze swept by, and I sat down in the seat next to her. Liu Ruyan, did you save this seat for me on purpose? No, she said, her face expressionless. It's just that no one sat here. The girl sitting in front of us couldn't help but turn around. Top student, didn't you say this seat was taken? Liu Ruyan was speechless. Ha ha ha. Are you serious? Liu Ruyan, did you really say that? There's nothing more embarrassing than acting tough and getting exposed right after. Especially with a personality like her, it was truly a critical hit. Open up once, stay traumatized for life. She wasn't quite that extreme, but for the next 2 hours of the bus ride, no matter how much I teased her, whined, or threw a tantrum, she didn't say a single word. I got tired of talking, so I opened a bottle of water to drink. My eyes wandered around the bus a few times, but I didn't see Shen Jian anywhere. The moment I turned my head, I met Shen Jian's bloodshot, hateful glare. It made me almost spit out my water, choking and coughing violently a few times. How long had she been staring at me like that? I coughed until my face turned bright red. Liu Ruyan frowned. I thought I was being too loud and bothering her, so I quickly covered my mouth, turned my face away, and continued coughing. The muffled coughing sounds were incredibly annoying to listen to. She pulled my hand down. Are you trying to suffocate yourself to death? Her tone was very cold, yet it carried a hint of an inexplicable emotion. I was startled. I stopped coughing instantly. I rolled my eyes. It'd be a waste not to do something in this situation. I reached out my hand and pointed straight at Shen Jian in the back. Why are you everywhere? Don't give me that. If you hadn't suddenly stared at me, would I have choked on my water? Wow, he can even shift the blame like that. The gossiping crowd around us all thought the same thing. Shen Jian looked guilty for a split second, but quickly reacted, biting her lip as she said, "You're the one who turned your head." I couldn't help but remind people of the saying, "If you weren't looking at me, how did you know I was looking at you?" She put on a speechless expression, her eyes wide open. It was truly ridiculous. Someone nearby let out a soft chuckle, mocking me for failing to bully someone and getting exposed instead. Young Master Mu, why are you always targeting Jiayan? The male student sitting next to Shen Jiayan spoke up indignantly. He had been holding it in for a long time. Could it be that you're jealous? He was very good friends with Shen Jiayan. Whenever Shen Jiayan was upset, she would tell him a lot about Liu Ruyan. He knew I was a shameless person, a third party who stole someone else's girlfriend. Jiayan didn't want to make things difficult for others, but he wasn't that kind-hearted. Under the questioning gazes of the other classmates, he deliberately spoke ambiguously. There are some things that don't belong to you. No matter what tricks you use, in the end, they still won't be yours. After saying that, he gave me a provocative smile. Did he just call Liu Ruyan a thing? A small group of people who knew the inside story immediately shifted their eyes to the cold Liu Ruyan nearby. Then they quickly looked away. Amidst the whispering of others, she noticed that my eyes had quietly turned red. The slight irritation that had just sparked suddenly vanished without a trace. She only felt incredibly helpless, along with a heartache that she herself hadn't even realized yet. Before she could say anything, the chaperone teacher clapped loudly, signaling for everyone to quiet down. He gave some instructions for the upcoming university tour, including reminders and time requirements. And then we arrived. As soon as the school bus came to a complete stop, I was the first to get off. I kept my head down and walked straight ahead. I walked very fast. Wen Xiaobei chased after me, panting heavily. No way, young master, what's wrong with you now? Did someone piss you off? He had been sitting in the front, wearing headphones and video calling his boyfriend, completely oblivious to what had happened in the back. It's nothing. I kept my head down and continued walking. You go have fun. I want to take a walk by myself. Hearing me say that, Wen Xiaobei didn't insist on tagging along. The university campus was huge. There were even traffic lights on the main roads. Handsome guys and pretty girls were everywhere, exuding a youthful energy completely different from high schoolers. I found a patch of grass, sat down behind a large rock, and opened my backpack. I took out a pack of soda crackers, and happily munched on them, making crunching sounds. Sea salt soda crackers are truly a delicacy of the human world. I accept no arguments, I said with a look of pure bliss. After finishing the crackers, I grabbed a pack of spicy sticks. I huddled up while eating, occasionally glancing around, terrified of being seen by someone. After polishing off the snack and drinking half a bottle of water, I was full. I lay dazed on the yellowing grass. I had deliberately found this secluded spot, shielded by the large rock of the artificial hill, so no one would bother me. I slept late last night and woke up early this morning. Lying there for a while, I ended up falling asleep. When I woke up, it was because my phone was ringing. Groggily, I unlocked my phone and saw over a dozen missed calls. One was from Wen Xiaobei, the rest were from Liu Ruyan. I instantly snapped awake. I bolted upright. Because I sat up too fast, my vision went dark and I felt dizzy. I steadied myself for a moment, slowly recovering from the shock. Disbelieving, I stared at the number several times, confirming that it was really her. She actually reached out to me first. My mind went blank for a moment. When I came back to my senses, my finger hovered over her number, then swiped down and called back. The other end picked up immediately. Mu Chen, where the hell did you run off to? I called you so many times and you didn't pick up. You scared me to death. I thought you got kidnapped or something. Send me your location. I'm coming to find you right now. Don't go running around anymore. Wen Xiaobei waited for a few seconds. You told me to speak, but did you even give me a chance to open my mouth? I sighed weakly and replied, Didn't I have to wait for your highness to finish? Wen Xiaobei, I was just worried about you, and you're giving me attitude. Wen Xiaobei didn't feel guilty at all. Yeah, Xiaobei is the best. I asked him why he called. He said it was almost 12 o'clock and wanted to grab lunch together. He couldn't reach me after several calls and was so anxious he almost went to the teachers. My head throbbed. Please, spare me. From now on, I'll report to you wherever I go. It's not like I am an elementary schooler getting lost on a field trip and needing to tell the teacher, less than greater than, and then having my name called over the loudspeaker. Less than greater than. Just thinking about that scene made my toes curl in embarrassment. Less than greater than. I just wanted to dig a hole and hide in it. Less than greater than. You didn't actually tell the teachers, did you? Less than greater than. He didn't say anything. A bad feeling suddenly welled up inside me. Did you really go to the teachers? He said no, and I breathed a sigh of relief. The next second, I heard him say hesitantly, I went to find your top student. The air fell silent for a few seconds. I recalled those missed calls and finally understood why she had contacted me. After hanging up, I collapsed onto the grass with a blank expression. It's over. I've embarrassed myself again. She's definitely going to think I'm a retard. After sending my location, I just stood there waiting. Out of a desire to save face, I decided not to call her back. Instead, I just sent a text saying that I wasn't lost and definitely not kidnapped. She still didn't reply to my message. I let out a sigh. It seemed she was only showing compassion for humanitarian reasons and didn't actually care whether I lived or died. Meanwhile, Wen Xiaobei looked at his hung-up phone and guiltily glanced at the expressionless top student beside him. Sorry about that, top student. Mu Chen is probably fine. Sorry for wasting your time. Wen Xiaobei said awkwardly, It's fine. Liu Ruyan's face was cold. Wen Xiaobei couldn't tell if she was angry or not. After all, the whole school knew she didn't like their brother Chen. Thinking this, Wen Xiaobei quickly added a few more apologies for bothering her. For some reason, he felt the top student's expression grow even colder. There was also an indescribable gloominess to it, just like earlier when she saw brother Chen calling him back. Of course, I didn't know that when I called Wen Xiaobei back, she was right next to him. I was still debating whether I should call her back. If I called, I was afraid she'd mock me. If I didn't, it wouldn't fit my usual clingy persona. While I was hesitating, Wen Xiaobei arrived. What are you doing lying there? Aren't you cold? He was speechless at my sprawling posture. Get up, let's go eat. I followed his movement, letting him pull me up like a boneless noodle and lean right onto him, making him stumble under my weight. I really bow down to you, young master. Don't fall in love with me. I'm just a legend, I said profoundly. Wen Xiaobei rolled his eyes. That's because I'm tolerant of you. The taste of college students. The food in the university cafeteria was very diverse, even featuring regional specialty snacks. There were 3 cafeterias in total. He and I went to the nearest one to eat omurice. The taste was average, but the portions were huge, and the dining area was clean and hygienic. It was very crowded at noon. The two of us struggled to find two empty seats. A dining table had 4 seats and 2 people were already sitting there. When I saw clearly who those 2 were, I really wanted to look up at the sky and scream. Did it have to be such a coincidence? How could we bump into them like this? Those 2 were none other than Liu Ruyan and Shen Jiayan. Right now, I was in no mood to go over there and put on an act. I was just about to look for another spot, but Wen Xiaobei had already spotted them too. Why is it these 2? We're doomed. Can't hide now. Gotta keep up the character persona again, I thought to myself as Wen Xiaobei turned to look at me worriedly. I had already adjusted my expression, glaring furiously, my face full of murderous intent. Wen Xiaobei comforted me. Brother Chen, don't be mad. It's just sharing a meal. It's not worth getting worked up over. Hey, Brother Chen, slow down, wait for me. I didn't even listen. Right now, my mind was troubled because my screen time had suddenly increased. What should I say when I go over there? Scold Shen Jiayan. Criticize Liu Ruyan. Doing this over and over, even I found it annoying. Arriving in front of them, I first slammed my food tray down, making a loud noise. As expected, I saw Shen Jiayan jump in fright. Then Liu Ruyan frowned to defend Shen Jiayan. Less than greater than. Wait, what's going on? Less than greater than. Liu Ruyan's flustered gaze. Less than greater than. Completely caught me off guard. Less than greater than. Even the lines I had prepared got stuck in my throat. Less than greater than. Completely unable to come out. The two of us stared at each other blankly. A magical atmosphere formed a barrier around us. Shen Jiayan's heart skipped a beat, and she hurriedly spoke up. Mu Chen, you're here to eat too. There happen to be seats here. Come sit down. Her gentle and considerate words broke this inexplicable atmosphere. My eyes flashed as I looked towards Shen Jiayan. I frowned and looked up, and not blind. Of course I see them. Do I need you to tell me there are seats? Do I need you to tell me there are seats? Shen Jiayan's face became awkward. Wen Xiaobei tugged at me, winking to signal me. He meant for me not to act so arrogant in front of Liu Ruyan. No one likes that. The unreasonable and arrogant me reluctantly sat down. Liu Ruyan's gaze slowly withdrew from my handsome face. It seems she didn't realize she was the cause of this situation. But this meal was incredibly awkward. During it, I occasionally targeted Shen Jiayan, dropping a few sarcastic remarks. Even the most thick-skinned person wouldn't be able to stand it, let alone someone with high self-esteem like her. Shen Jiayan casually found an excuse, saying she had something to do and hurriedly left with red eyes. She walked away in a panic with her head down and accidentally bumped into someone walking in the opposite direction. I'm sorry, she said, her voice full of grievance, startling Su Yuaning. Su Yuaning held Shen Jiayan's shoulders and told her to look up. A delicate face, streaming with tears, was thus exposed before her eyes. What's wrong? Su Yuaning clumsily helped wipe her tears. Seeing it was her, Shen Jiayan cried even harder, sobbing and looking incredibly pitiful. No, it's nothing. I'm fine. You're crying like this and you say you're fine. Jiayan, do you think Sister Su is an idiot? No, it's not that, Shen Jiayan hurriedly explained. She pretended to casually glance in a certain direction, less than greater than, then bit her lip. It's really nothing. Less than greater than. Su Yuaning followed her gaze, less than greater than, and happened to see a handsome face looking up. It was me, talking to a female student. At this point, what was there not to understand? She had volunteered to be a chaperone teacher and followed the group on the university tour, precisely to take care of Jiayan. She didn't expect that right under her nose, Jiayan would still get bullied. Counting the first time I went to Jiayan's house, this was already the 3rd time. Su Yuaning's face darkened, less than greater than, already forming a plan in her mind. Less than greater than. Meanwhile, Liu Ruyan and I had already, less than greater than, run out of the cafeteria. Less than greater than. Wen Xiaobei, being a true best bro, less than greater than, had tactfully walked ahead, not wanting to be a third wheel, leaving the two of us alone. Her gaze from earlier flashed through my mind again, making me suddenly feel self-conscious. I'm going to the restroom for a bit. There happened to be a restroom nearby. I walked over quickly. The water this season felt a bit cold against the skin. I splashed water on my face, keeping my head down and letting the drops fall. I stared blankly at the faucet. Mu Chen likes Liu Ruyan, but I don't. So why should an ill-timed look from her make my heart all messed up? They just played a pair of 3s, and I'm already throwing down a 4 of a kind. That makes no sense. Having figured it out, I adjusted my clothes and walked out. Seeing the tall figure waiting not far away, I only paused for a second, then smiled and walked over. I scoffed lightly. I thought you would have left. Why would I leave? Liu Ruyan looked down at me. I humphed twice and didn't say anything else. But Liu Ruyan didn't drop the subject. She repeated it again. Why did you think I would leave? Isn't that how you always treat me? My voice was as quiet as a mosquito, carrying a hint of unconcealed grievance. You're always impatient with me, less than greater than. You don't like me, and you don't treat me like a boyfriend. Less than greater than. At least I know my place. Less than greater than. Liu Ruyan recalled those missed calls, less than greater than. The call back to Wen Xiaobi first, and that perfunctory text message. An inexplicable anger suddenly flared up in her heart. Under my affectionate gaze, her face suddenly turned cold. You're no different. What? My teary eyes flashed with confusion. What do you mean, no different? But Liu Ruyan didn't say anything else. This tight-lipped jerk, would it kill her to say a few more words? In my mind, I was already rolling my eyes to the heavens. Look at her. When we first met, she had that flustered look on her face, and now she's putting on this grumpy face again. I really gave her too much face. I pretended to just remember something and said in a questioning tone, Why were you with Shen Jian again? I told you I don't like seeing you with her. I'm your boyfriend. You need to stay away from other guys. I looked full of possessiveness. Now you know. Liu Ruyan dropped a cryptic sentence. I didn't hear clearly. What? Liu Ruyan lowered her eyes and glanced at me, then looked away. I didn't make plans with her. It was about something. About what? I pressed on. Liu Ruyan was silent for a moment, her gaze shifting to my face. After taking in enough of my tense and anxious expression, she finally spoke unhurriedly.
She asked me which university I want to apply to. Why would she ask that? Anyone with normal intelligence could guess. Shen Jian wanted to apply to the same university as Liu Ruyan. I was resentful and indignant. How could she even get in? Mu Chen, don't always judge others, Liu Ruyan said with a frown. Liu Ruyan felt that how others were or what school they wanted to apply to had nothing to do with her. She didn't like her affairs involving other people, and she especially didn't like the fact that I always drag unrelated people between the two of us. In her heart, no matter where the relationship between her and me went, it was only a matter between the two of us and had nothing to do with anyone else. Everyone got on the school bus to head back. The whole way back, everyone was still loud and lively. Even though they had played all day, they didn't feel tired at all. On the contrary, they were incredibly excited. College has so many activities, free time, and no endless exams. Everyone discussed what they had seen, all wishing that their college life would be just as rich and colorful. Liu Ruyan tilted her head and looked out the window. Through the hazy glass of the bus window, she could see the peaceful side profile of the sleeping boy. The beautiful sunset illuminated the smoothly running school bus. The surrounding sounds seemed to automatically fade away. She stared for a long time until she heard someone shout that we had arrived and to get ready to get off. I was sleeping very soundly. I didn't know what I was dreaming about, smacking my lips and mumbling something unintelligible. Liu Ruyan leaned in a bit closer and heard it clearly. I groggily called her name, Ruyan. Liu Ruyan's expression froze. Before her eyes could even soften, the next second she heard me continue. You idiot. Liu Ruyan was instantly speechless. My forehead was smacked hard by someone. I jolted awake, groggily looking around. Who? Who hit me? There was no one left in front, behind, left, or right. I only saw a tall figure stepping out of the car. Even from the back, I could practically feel the anger radiating off them. Was it just an illusion? Or did I accidentally hit myself? I read my forehead, which was still throbbing with pain. My head was in a fog as I slowly climbed out of the car. There was no evening self-study session today. The boarding students had already headed back to the dorms. The rest of the students were also trickling out of the school. Not far from the school gate, a black car worth billions was parked by the roadside. The luxury vehicle naturally drew everyone's attention. Liu Ruyan instinctively turned her head to look. I shouldered my backpack and walked over. The driver got out and opened the door for me. I accepted this attentive service with total nonchalance. I slowly stepped into the car. The black car pulled away, quickly disappearing from everyone's sight. That was the Mu family's car. Someone remarked in surprise, remembering it wasn't this one last time. But then again, they're all luxury cars anyway. Did you think the title Young Master Mu was just for show? He's a real deal, genuine rich heir. Ha ha ha, you've got that right. Whoever becomes the Mu family's daughter-in-law. Forget about skipping 10 years of hard work, less than greater than. They probably won't have to lift a finger for the rest of their life. Less than greater than. Liu Ruyan heard the whispered rumors and the sarcastic tones of those around her. Her expression didn't change at all. Her long lashes cast shadows, hiding the emotions in her eyes. For a fleeting moment, she remembered that night. The bread they shared together, the candle being blown out, the rose, and the way their eyes met, making her heart skip a beat. Liu Ruyin couldn't lie to herself. Her heartbeat was far more honest than her logic. But the distance from the luxury villa district to that old alleyway was just too vast. He had lived through it, so he knew exactly how difficult it was. The admiration from a teenager's mouth is often exaggerated, and my own feelings felt even more like a pipe dream, vague and ethereal. What you can't have is like the moon in the sky. But once you have it, it's just a plain white plate, not even worth mentioning. Liu Ruyin knew this all too well. If I were what I wanted, that would be the moment he started to lose everything. Liu Ruyin stood at the school gate amidst the crowd. It was a long time before a teacher called out to her and she finally started walking. For New Year's, the 10th and 11th graders had prepared performances in advance. They were all celebrating together in the grand hall. Meanwhile, the 12th graders were in the middle of intense exam prep, so they just had a simple gathering in their classrooms. Day students didn't have to attend. But the boarders tried to find joy in the grind within their classrooms, blowing up balloons, hanging ribbons, trying their best to create a festive atmosphere. Liu Ruyin was tall, so she was in charge of hanging the balloons and ribbons up high. The weather today was exceptionally cold. She hadn't checked the forecast before leaving home, so she was still wearing yesterday's clothes. Now her throat felt parched and sore. It was a clear symptom of the flu. She forced herself to endure the discomfort, taking a balloon to hang on the ceiling. Just then she heard someone at the door call out, "Academic God." "Someone's looking for you. Someone's here to see you." Who would come looking for her? A certain figure flashed through Liu Ruyin's mind. The next second, she was already rushing outside. As she stepped out of the lecture building, the freezing night wind hit her, snapping her back to reality. She felt her inexplicable expectation was truly foolish. Any student who could go home for the holidays would surely be spending it with their family. As for me at this moment, less than greater than. I was leaning against a pillar in front of the lecture building to hide from the wind. Less than greater than. The Mu family didn't have many close relatives. Most were distant ones who only showed up to suck up to us, the kind of people you wouldn't know even if you tried. They gathered together, spouting hypocritical flattery. I barely managed to escape the Mu family gathering and went out for a stroll on the streets. The trees along the road were covered in festive lights. A happy family walked past me, chatting and laughing together. The whole city was decked out in lights and flowers. I suddenly felt it was all so hollow. I just kept walking and walking, not knowing where I was going. When I finally looked up, I found myself standing in front of the school gate. The security guard recognized me, knowing I was a student there, so he let me in. Standing under the lecture building, I started to feel regret. Just as I was about to turn and leave, some classmates coming back from the school canteen spotted me. They curiously asked why I was back. I blurted out that I was looking for someone. One guy looked like he just had an epiphany. "Oh, a student. Let me go get her for you." He was so enthusiastic that I didn't even have a chance to say no. After a while, sure enough, I saw Liu Ruyin coming down. Ah, the vitality of youth. It's this cold, yet she's wearing so little. I sighed, huddling deeper into my thick puffer jacket, and jogged over to her. From a distance, Liu Ruyin saw a round, puffy figure, running toward her, making quite a bit of noise. When Ruyin saw the face clearly, which was flush red from the cold, Liu Ruyin froze in her tracks. "Mu Chen, why are you here?" Before she could finish her sentence, someone suddenly crashed right into her chest. Liu Ruyin's pupils constricted, and her heart skipped a beat. It's so cold. It's freezing. I didn't notice her shock as I snuggled into her chest, grumbling frantically. "Why are you wearing so little? Aren't you cold? Why are you wearing so little? Aren't you cold?" I'm wearing all this and am still shivering. I kept burrowing into Liu Ruyin's arms. I wonder what detergent she uses. It smells so good, even better than perfume. I want a bottle of that for myself. I made a mental note to ask her about it later. A warm ball of fluff in her arm, crashing straight into her like that, made her freezing body gradually warm up. Liu Ruyin's hand, which she had raised to push me away, froze in mid-air for a long time. Then, as if resigned, she let it drop to her side. Not bad. She didn't push me away. My eyes darted around, my big clear eyes crinkling into a smile. "Well, you're actually pretty good." Liu Ruyin's fingers, hanging by her side, suddenly stiffened. "What nonsense are you talking about?" "It's not nonsense at all." "Ruyin, are you shy? You're just talking more and more nonsense." Liu Ruyin made a show of pushing me away. "Shut up." But I was worried sick, so I stood on my tiptoes to touch her face. Liu Ruyin didn't have time to dodge, and I touched her right on the mark. The warmth radiating from her cheek made Liu Ruyin's breath hitch,
and she froze again. I stood back up straight, creating some distance between us.
My delicate brows furrowed.
Ruyen, do you have a fever? What? Liu Ruyen seemed like she didn't understand what I was saying. A flash of confusion crossed her quiet eyes. I reached out again to touch her forehead. The heat radiating against my palm made me grit my teeth. Do you even realize you're burning up? This time, Liu Ruyen finally understood. Her muddled brain forced itself to function. She pursed her unusually red lips. It does feel a bit uncomfortable. She had thought it was just a common cold. I was honestly about to laugh from pure frustration. If I hadn't come, with Liu Ruyen's current reaction speed, she might have literally fried her brain into becoming an idiot. Then how could she ever become the powerhouse woman she's meant to be? I took a deep breath. We're going to the hospital. Liu Ruyen didn't resist and followed me obediently. She looked down at our intertwined hands.
An untimely thought suddenly popped into her head. Wu Chen's fingers are so long and slender, just like someone who's been pampered since birth. But his temper, it explodes at the slightest touch, just like a little firecracker. The doctor at the school clinic had already gone home. I called our homeroom teacher to explain the situation, then took Liu Ruyen to the nearest hospital. Once we got there and checked, her body temperature was nearly 102 degrees, and it was still trending upward. I looked at Liu Ruyen, who was pale and breaking out in a cold sweat, and asked the doctor, "Why does she look so miserable?" A high fever is naturally miserable. The doctor seemed rather indifferent. To an outsider, seeing a face like this wasn't unusual, but Liu Ruyen wasn't the type to show weakness easily. I frowned. "Can you do a full body check on her?" My gaze swept over Liu Ruyen's pale face and stopped at her left ear. After a moment's thought, I told the doctor her left ear had been injured before, less than greater than. Her left ear was injured in the past, which resulted in her being unable to hear. I'm afraid the high fever might cause some complications. Hearing the doctor's expression turned serious. There's a pre-existing condition? Dazed and semi-conscious from the fever, Liu Ruyen lay on the hospital bed for the examination while I went to pay the medical fees. Fortunately, the results were fine. Liu Ruyen's constitution was quite strong and the ear injury was from years ago. It was just mild inflammation caused by the fever, nothing too serious. The IV drip required someone to stay and watch. I looked at her lying there all alone on the hospital bed and couldn't help but sigh. Who told me to be so damn kind-hearted? I sat down by the bed, resting my chin in my hand as I stared at Liu Ruyen. Look at this dummy. Usually she's so cold and distant, and her words are always so sharp. Lying there quietly without saying a word, she's much cuter. Her face was delicate. Her eyelashes were so long. Her nose was straight and elegant. Because of the pain and discomfort, her brows were tightly knitted together, and her red lips were pursed shut. I stared at her for a long time, and the more I looked, the more my heart started to itch. I didn't hesitate to reach out toward her face. Pinching it felt amazing. I accidentally used a bit too much force, and the spot I pinched turned bright red. Combined with Liu Ruyen's usual cold demeanor, it looked hilariously out of place. Liu Ruyen was in a deep, feverish sleep, but she seemed to feel it as her lashes fluttered slightly. Feeling guilty, I immediately started rubbing her cheek to soothe it. Outside the window, fireworks were exploding,
lighting up the homes of countless families. The brilliant sparks bloomed and then turned to ash. It was just a fleeting moment of radiance. Liu Ruyen's high fever still hadn't broken. The doctor recommended she stay in the hospital for 2 more days for IV fluids. I took it upon myself to ask the school for 2 days of leave for her. When the school leaders heard their star student was sick, they thoughtfully sent a teacher to visit her. They even had the teacher bring along her books and exam papers. Su Wanning wasn't a core subject teacher, so she had plenty of free time. Thus, the task of visiting fell to her. In the hospital room, Su Wanning placed an exquisite fruit basket and a cloth bag off to the side, then politely asked about her condition. "How are you feeling? Do you feel any better?" Liu Ruyen replied that she was feeling much better. Su Wanning nodded, but didn't say anything else.
The atmosphere suddenly became strangely awkward. As for me regarding the person who would eventually bankrupt me, I truly didn't have a shred of goodwill toward her. So I made an excuse to go buy food and stepped out. Liu Ruyen didn't miss the way this new teacher was scrutinizing her. She asked distantly, "Ms. Su, is there something else?" Su Wanning glanced at the spot where I had just been sitting, then smiled and asked, "Are you two dating?" Liu Ruyen frowned, her pale face turning a bit cold. "Are you asking this from the standpoint of a teacher?" "Not necessarily." Su Wanning smiled and shook her head. "There's no need to be so guarded. I'm only a few years older than you guys, after all." Under Liu Ruyen's blatant, scrutinizing gaze,
She stopped beating around the bush and went straight to the point. Shen Jiayan's feelings for you. I'm sure you've noticed them by now. I want to know what you think.
Liu Ruyan replied indifferently. Shen Jiayan? I don't know her.
Su Wanning's face darkened instantly. I see. She stood up and smoothed out the wrinkles in her clothes. Student Liu, get some good rest and recover well. Liu Ruyan watched her figure as she walked out of the room, then indifferently looked away, turning to gaze out the window. What kind of food takes 40 minutes to buy? Meanwhile, Su Wanning bumped right into me as she was leaving the hospital. I really was out buying food, carrying bags of all sizes. Su Wanning stepped toward me. Student Mu Chen, aren't you going back to school for class? I have to take care of my girlfriend. I said it with immense pride, even adding a touch of inexplicable provocation. Su Wanning burst out laughing. It seems you have quite a grudge against me. Not at all, I said, enunciating every word. Ms. Su, you're the one wearing your discomfort on your face.
Su Wanning suddenly felt like teasing me. Student Liu said she wants to go back. I wonder what's so attractive at school that she's so eager. Su Wanning's gentle face looked incredibly innocent. Do you know? No way. Is this woman crazy? Su Wanning didn't seem particularly interested in my answer anyway. She just walked away after asking, leaving me standing there dazed. It was another half hour before I returned to the room. Liu Ruyan was sitting up in bed reading a book, looking cold and indifferent as usual. A surge of anger flared up inside me. I snatched the book right out of her hands, meeting Liu Ruyan's confused gaze. I growled, eat your food. Liu Ruyan pursed her lips and said nothing. 2 days later, she had almost fully recovered and returned to school. That very night, I received a money transfer. The note said it was for the hospital fees and other miscellaneous expenses. It was sent by Liu Ruyan. According to my character persona, I shouldn't have accepted it. I just wanted Liu Ruyan to keep spending my money, using my wealth to satisfy my desire to take care of her. But I thought about it for a moment and decided to accept it anyway. I wasn't trying to be petty or calculating, but I could clearly see that the amount Liu Ruyan sent me was even more than the hospital fees I had advanced. It was probably her entire salary from working at the cafe for over a month, and she had given it all to me. It had been 2 days since the fever incident, and I finally started to realize that Liu Ruyan's attitude toward me was no longer as hot and cold or as unpredictable as before. Anyone with eyes could see that her demeanor had softened significantly. I muttered to myself in my head, why is Liu Ruyan being so well behaved? The sun must be rising in the west. I finally made it to the end of the school day. I was secretly planning to sneak away, but Liu Ruyan blocked me at the classroom door once again. Get back here. You're not leaving until I explain these wrong answers to you. My face fell instantly. I glared at Liu Ruyan resentfully for a while, but faced with her firm, expressionless face, I had no choice but to compromise. I swear, if it weren't for this damn character persona, I would definitely be walking past her with my head held high right now. But alas, I'm just a pitiful little villainous supporting character. So I could only do as Liu Ruyan said and struggle through that pile of math homework. I kept getting the same essay question wrong over and over, and even I was starting to get annoyed with myself. But Liu Ruyan remained patient, explaining it to me again and again. I watched her intently, staring at her serious profile as she taught. My heart felt a bit complicated. When Liu Ruyan turned to ask if I understood, I quickly adjusted my emotions. I blinked and said with a firm gaze, I get it. Liu Ruyan raised an eyebrow, then explained it back to me. I stammered, I don't think that's really necessary, is it? Liu Ruyan just stared at me blankly. I gave in. Actually, there's still a tiny bit I don't quite understand. I pinched my thumb and index finger together, trying to prove it really was just a tiny bit. Liu Ruyan's lips thinned into a straight line. You just don't want to listen at all, do you? I pretended not to notice her anger and said lazily, just keep explaining. Liu Ruyan set her pen down on the desk with a dull thud. I waited for a moment, but she didn't continue. Confused, I looked up, only to find that Liu Ruyan's face had gone cold. I asked softly, what's wrong? Liu Ruyan called my name and said, Mu Chen, I don't like long-distance relationships. Hearing those words, I was stunned. It felt like something had fundamentally changed. I'm not stupid. I knew exactly what she meant. And because I understood, I started to panic. Actually, from the moment she started dragging me into these tutoring sessions, I had a vague inkling of what was happening. After she spoke, Liu Ruyan just stared at me. I pretended to have a sudden realization and grinned. I know, right? Do you want us to get into the same university together? Is that it? Liu Ruyan didn't say a word. She just stared at me in silence. My heart felt even heavier, but I didn't let it show on my face. I let out a sigh. Your grades are so good.
There's no way I could get into the same school as you. Liu Ruyan said, there's still time. I'll help you study. I shook my head. I don't want to. I still want to have some fun. Seeing Liu Ruyan's face darken, I quickly added, it's fine if we're not at the same school. I can apply to one in the same city as you.
Distance won't be an issue.
After saying that, I looked at her earnestly. Liu Ruyan's expression turned grim. She stared into my eyes for a few seconds, less than greater than, then turned around and walked away. Less than greater than. I was left there alone, less than greater than, sitting in the middle of the classroom, watching her back as she left. Only when she was out of sight did I slowly blink my stinging eyes. After that unpleasant argument, I thought that with Liu Ruyan's cold personality, she would go back to ignoring me like before. To my surprise, Liu Ruyan seemed to have forgotten all about it. When I went to school the next day, she still sought me out to explain the lessons, carrying a grim determination to turn me into a top student. During those days of studying, time always seemed to crawl by. The long winter break arrived quietly before I even realized it. Ever since I started dating Liu Ruyan, I had cut back on hanging out with my friends.
But lately, I started accepting invitations again. From the Red Pavilion to the White House or the Jiangnan Bank, if there was fun to be had, I was there. And I always made sure to bring Liu Ruyan along. Liu Ruyan came with me once, and while I was out of the private room, some spoiled rich kid mocked her. He said she only had a pretty face and was just social climbing. From then on, every time I asked her to go out, Liu Ruyan refused. The pride of youth is always more fragile and intense than at any other stage of life. I've been through it, so I understood perfectly. Suddenly, I had a sinking feeling that the Mu Corporation might go bankrupt even sooner than expected. My eyes widened. I felt a surge of helpless anger. On what grounds are they making me go broke? I could only comfort myself by remembering this was just the fate of a supporting character. Something interesting happened in the city's high society, or rather, a juicy piece of elite gossip. The Su family made a huge scene about welcoming back an illegitimate daughter. They even planned a grand ceremony to officially recognize her, and invited a crowd to witness it. The Mu family, being part of the elite, was naturally on the guest list. At the party, I made an excuse to go to the restroom, just to ditch my parents. I found a sofa in a corner to sit down, and started snacking on a small plate of cake. My eyes scanned the party. Why hasn't Su Yuaning shown up yet? The next second, the entire party suddenly went silent. I looked toward the main entrance of the ballroom. Su Yuaning, dressed in a perfectly tailored gown, walked in slowly. Combined with her gentle, beautiful face, she truly had the aura of a high-born lady. But thinking about how this person was about to bankrupt me, less than greater than, I wasn't in the mood to admire her. Less than greater than. Everything that followed went smoothly. The head of the Su family spoke vaguely, saying Su Yuaning had been lost for many years and had only recently been found. He never once mentioned the words illegitimate child, less than greater than, even though it was clear as day to everyone there. Less than greater than. But everyone just played along and didn't expose the truth. Less than greater than. This kind of thing wasn't unique to the Su family. Less than greater than. Other elite families had plenty of their own secrets. The only difference was whether they had been caught yet. Exposing it would just ruin the mood. The CEO of the Su family chose this moment to bring Su Yuan back, which meant he intended to put her in a position of power. Bringing her back was a clear sign of his favor. Everyone present was a business person. There would be plenty of chances to collaborate in the future, so they all urged their children to go up and strike up a conversation. I just sat in the corner watching Su Yuaning naturally handle one man after another. My mind drifted back to Liu Ruyan. If she were to build her own commercial empire in the future, would she be like Su Yuaning, expertly navigating the social games of the business world? I imagined Liu Ruyan's cold face forcing a fake smile, and I couldn't help but shudder. I couldn't even fathom how terrifying that sight would be. I couldn't watch anymore. I put down the delicate, empty plate and walked out to get some air. Behind the ballroom was a garden. Only the camellias were in full bloom this season, looking like balls of fire hanging amidst the deep green leaves. I was dressed lightly, so I didn't go outside. I just stood in the enclosed hallway, looking through the glass. Steady footsteps echoed behind me. I turned my head and found the very person who should have been busy at the party, the star of the show, Su Yuaning. As for Su Yuaning, from the moment she entered the hall, the first thing she saw was me lounging on the sofa eating cake. She had been keeping an eye on me the whole time. Seeing me finish the cake and head out, she instinctively followed. "Young Master Mu, we meet again." Gave a half-hearted grunt and went back to staring at the scenery, completely indifferent. Su Yuaning raised an eyebrow. You don't seem surprised by my identity at all. I rolled my eyes. Whose daughter you are is none of my damn business. It's not like you're my daughter. Hearing this arrogant remark, Su Yuaning took a deep breath, her fingers nearly crushing her wine glass. Suddenly thinking of something, she said, "Oh, it will concern you." After saying that, she gave me a meaningful smile. I kept a stone face in response to that smile. Su Yuaning didn't seem bothered by my attitude. In her eyes, I was just a fragile weakling pampered in a glass cage, a harmless flower,
just waiting for the glass to shatter. How much longer could this flower possibly survive? As the one who was about to personally smash that glass, Su Yuaning was looking forward to my downfall. If you asked how much she hated me, it wasn't really that much. It was just that I threatened the person she cared about, less than greater than, making that person unhappy, less than greater than. So she felt forced to act, less than greater than. In the ballroom, her father was calling her. Su Yuaning turned around, no longer focusing her gaze on me. I had just been thoroughly nauseated, and now I didn't want to spend another second on Su Yuaning's turf. I sent a text to my parents. Without waiting for a reply, I wrapped my black overcoat tightly around me and walked out of the park. The Mu family car was parked to one side. My father had driven himself today, so the chauffeur wasn't there. I stood by the road and hailed a taxi. The driver asked where I was going. I thought for a moment and gave him an address. The driver looked a bit surprised. He glanced at the massive villa behind me, then at the expensive clothes I was wearing and asked hesitantly, "Are you sure?" It was obvious I was a rich young master. Why go to a rundown old neighborhood? Was I being scammed or something? I was shivering uncontrollably. The cold wind was howling, and I was dressed way too thin. Hearing him, I nodded vigorously. Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through my ankle. The next second, I face planted onto the ground. Of all the luck, I hit my forehead. Today must be my unlucky day. A second before I blacked out, I heard the sound of a bicycle, and the sound of it being tossed aside. When I woke, the dim yellow light above me made me squint. I raised my hand to shield my eyes, and accidentally brushed the wound on my forehead. Damn, that hurts. I groaned in silent agony. I felt around and realized there was a bandage on my forehead. I rolled up my pant leg to check my ankle and smelled the scent of medicated oil. The scrapes on my knees had also been treated. I recalled the last sound I heard. The blurry figure I saw must have been Liu Ruyen. Liu Ruyen must have come home from work and seen me eating dirt like a total loser. I covered my face and flopped back down, feeling incredibly embarrassed. It wasn't the first time I'd lost face, though, so I told myself I'd just have to get used to it. A faint scent of soap drifted from the pillow, making me realize this must be Liu Ruyen's room. Feeling a bit awkward, I got up and walked out of the bedroom. I was met with pitch-black darkness. I fumbled around and finally switched on the light, only to be startled by the person sitting on the small sofa. I looked at Liu Ruyen sitting there in silence and said irritably, "It's the middle of the night. What are you doing sitting here in the dark?" Liu Ruyen lowered her eyes, her expression unreadable. What was she thinking? I acted naturally and squeezed in next to her. My voice unintentionally carried a hint of a pout. "Are you ignoring me?" Only then did Liu Ruyen slowly shift her gaze to my face. "Does it hurt?" I grimaced. "It hurts like hell." On my pale forehead was a glaring purple bruise. My knees were scraped raw, and blood was seeping through. My ankle was so swollen it looked deformed. How could a young master pampered since birth not feel the pain? Under the light, Liu Ruyen's eyes looked a bit bloodshot. Her voice was very raspy. "I didn't know you were coming. If only I had come home sooner. I was so handsome. Yet I was wandering alone in this dingy old alley." Liu Ruyen didn't dare imagine what horrible things might have happened if she had arrived just a little later. I didn't seem to notice her emotional shift. I said huffily, "I'm not done with you yet. It's normal that you didn't know. Tomorrow I'm going to find someone to drag those guys out and give them a beating." I was fuming, trying to think of how to teach them a lesson. Then I remembered with annoyance. I hadn't even seen those thugs' faces clearly. A dump like this obviously wouldn't have any security cameras. My expression kept changing. Then something clicked, and my eyes lit up. "Liu Ruyen lives here. Maybe she knows who they are. Ruyen, you." Before I could finish, I was suddenly pulled into a tight hug. Ah, I was completely enveloped in her warm embrace. She held me so tightly, it actually started to hurt. "What's wrong?" "I'm sorry." Liu Ruyen's voice was low and raspy, as if something was weighing heavy on her chest. I felt a bit breathless. I took a deep breath and said with fake anger, "This is all your fault." The break has been going on for so many days.
And you didn't even bother to come find me, so I had to come find you myself. Clearly, I was the one who had been ignoring her, not replying to her texts, and not picking up her calls. But at this moment, hearing my petulant grumbling, Liu Ruyan suddenly didn't want to argue. It's my fault. I awkwardly told her I forgave her. A long while later, Liu Ruyan heard me yawn. She let out a soft sigh. Go to sleep. It's too late and you're injured. She told me to sleep in her room. I was so drowsy I was barely conscious, but I didn't forget to ask, what about you? This place was so small there was probably only one bedroom. Liu Ruyan nuzzled my cheek and said, I'll sleep on the sofa. I frowned and said, but the sofa is so small. Why don't we just sleep together? Liu Ruyan looked a bit flustered. She covered her face and said, stop messing around. Mu Chen, you're a boy. You need to be more careful. You can't just say things like that to a girl. I pouted. But you're my girlfriend. Still, no. Liu Ruyan tried to look serious, even though her neck was completely flushed. She tried her best to stay calm. I looked down and chuckled to myself, but my words came out sounding defensive. Fine, whatever. I'm going to sleep. The bedroom door slammed shut with a loud thud. Ruyan stared at the closed door, the tenderness in her eyes slowly replaced by a cold chill. The alley was too dark, and he hadn't seen their faces clearly, but thinking about it, she could guess who they were. It had to be those same people. In my half-asleep state, I felt the wounds throbbing painfully. Tears rolled down from my reddened eyes. I buried my head in the pillow, silently enduring the pain. I didn't want to wake Liu Ruyan. A warmth touched my forehead. Someone was gently wiping away the tears from the corners of my eyes. I peeked out.
Liu Ruyan was sitting on the edge of the bed. Her face was expressionless, but her voice was incredibly gentle. What are you crying for? I pouted and said groggily, it hurts so much. Liu Ruyan propped me up and held me in her arms. She picked up a glass of warm water. Open up. I obediently opened my mouth. Liu Ruyan put something in my mouth and gave me some water. Swallow it. It's a painkiller. Go to sleep. It'll take you to the hospital tomorrow. My skin was always delicate. By morning, my knees and arms were covered in bruises, but I felt like for these kinds of bumps, the hospital would just give me some ointment anyway. I didn't want to go, and Liu Ruyan couldn't do anything about it, so she just gently changed my bandages. Luckily, she had been in enough fights growing up to have plenty of experience with bandages. I used the excuse that I didn't want my family to see me like this, so I stubbornly stayed at Liu Ruyan's place. Liu Ruyan took a day off to stay home and take care of me. That evening, I was holding a box of strawberries she bought for me, curled up on the sofa playing on my phone. Seeing Liu Ruyan put on her jacket, I asked, where are you going? Liu Ruyan said she was going out to buy some things and told me not to wander around. I looked up and said unhappily, I'm not a kid. Once Liu Ruyan left, I put down my phone, picked up a bright red strawberry and sighed as I ate it. Sweet, sour, and juicy. A small box like this must have cost a fortune. She's so frugal with herself, yet she's willing to buy all this for me. I suddenly felt bad about eating any more. Meanwhile, in another abandoned factory, a few female thugs were crouching inside playing games. This was their secret hideout. Another beer bottle was smashed against the wall. It fell to the ground and rolled a few times. The blonde thug frowned. Do you guys even know how to play? Forget it. Today's just been unlucky. The girl next to her saw she was upset and quickly laughed along. She glanced around and said, You're right, boss. Games are boring anyway. I heard a new bar opened on the west side. It's supposed to be really lively. The blonde scoffed. How fun could it be? If we're talking about top tier, it's that guy we met the other night. You could tell he was a rich young master at a glance. That pale skin of his. I bet if you pinched it, it would bruise instantly. The others clearly remembered him too, and they started talking trash incessantly. The blonde grinned. Her eyes glazed over, clearly fantasizing. Then she remembered something and started cursing, kicking a beer bottle away. Too bad he belongs to that monster Liu Ruyan. As soon as they heard that name, the others stopped laughing, exchanging wary glances. One of the new recruits who didn't know much about Liu Ruyan said arrogantly, So what if he's Liu Ruyan's? If the boss wants him, even if he's Liu Ruyan's little pet, less than greater than. I'll snatch him for you. Less than greater than. A kick flew straight into her face. Less than greater than. The thug who just spoke was sent flying. Less than greater than. The others were terrified by this sudden turn of events. Less than greater than. They jumped in shock and huddled together, staring in fear at the newcomer. The blonde was the first to react. Liu Ruyan, what do you want? Liu Ruyan's usually calm face was now terrifyingly dark. She took a step forward, and the group across from her took a step back, until they had nowhere left to run. The others didn't dare to charge. Intimidated by Liu Ruyan, they didn't even fight back. Only shouting from a distance, Liu Ruyan, hitting people is wrong. The blonde caught her breath. She wasn't afraid anymore. She let out a scoff. I know why you're here.
I'm going to win that guy over sooner or later.
You're asking for it, Liu Ruyan hissed. She coldly shoved the other person aside. I had rushed over to find her, only to witness this scene. I had never seen Liu Ruyan like this before. Her gaze was chillingly terrifying. I stood there, completely stunned. I reacted quickly. Ignoring the sharp pain in my ankle, I ran over. I wrapped my arms around her from behind. Stop it, Ruyan. It's not right to hit people. A fear in my voice seemed to snap her out of it. My arms were small and weak, yet she couldn't bring herself to break free. She asked hoarsely, "Who told you to come here?" "Go home. And not going back. You have to come with me." Liu Ruyan didn't budge. My heart was racing with anxiety. My eyes began to well up. "Ruyan, I'm scared. Can you please just come with me?" My pleading voice was laced with sobs. It hit her heart like a sledgehammer.
Liu Ruyan's clenched fists slowly relaxed. She took my trembling hand. Her cold gaze slowly swept over the terrified thugs standing nearby. This isn't over. Later, in a secluded spot on a dark, narrow path, the two of us walked in silence. My mind was full of questions. Why was Liu Ruyan being so impulsive? Was this really the same cold, aloof student? I asked angrily, "Didn't you say you were going out to buy something? What exactly were you buying?" The fact that she went to pick a fight made me furious. My face flushed red with anger. I must have looked quite animated. Liu Ruyan remained silent. She had no way to defend herself, so she chose to say nothing at all. That silence only made me angrier. I shoved her hand away and stormed ahead. Only then did Liu Ruyan seem to snap out of it. She took 2 quick steps to grab my hand again. "Mu Chen." I shoved her away again. I had to make Liu Ruyan understand the consequences. Getting into fights is incredibly dangerous.
I arrive in time today, but what about next time? Thinking of this, I bit my lip. I suddenly felt a sense of helplessness. I stopped struggling. "You only did that because of me. I should be thanking you instead." A flicker of disappointment crossed my eyes, making her heart tighten. A sudden panic, as if she were about to lose something, overwhelmed Liu Ruyan. She instinctively gripped my hand tighter. She pulled me close. We were pressed tightly against each other. "I'm sorry." Liu Ruyan's voice was low, raspy, and flustered. I looked up at her and asked, "Why are you sorry? What did you do wrong?" Confusion flickered in Liu Ruyan's eyes. She had only gone to teach those bullies a lesson. Even if she didn't know what she did wrong, she knew she had made me unhappy. To her, that meant she was in the wrong. Therefore, she had to apologize. She was begging me not to be mad at her anymore. I closed my eyes halfway. I tried to suppress all the thoughts I shouldn't be having. After Liu Ruyan apologized, she held her breath, waiting for my judgment. On that usually cold and indifferent face, a rare look of tension appeared. I acted spoiled and forced out a couple of tears. They were bullying me. "Why didn't you take me with you to teach them a lesson? It would have been so satisfying to hit them. But you went off and did it all by yourself. Now look what happened. You beat them up so badly that I don't even get a turn." So that was it. A faint sense of disappointment flickered in Liu Ruyan's heart. Even she didn't quite understand where this feeling was coming from. She tucked my messy hair behind my ear. Her voice was very soft. "My mistake." I turned my face away. Liu Ruyan couldn't see my expression. Her fingers froze in midair. It wasn't until she heard my playful, spoiled tone that she breathed a sigh of relief. "Ruyan, my feet hurt so much. Can you carry me?" A young master who knew nothing of hardship, doing whatever he pleased, arrogant and reckless, spending his days thinking of ways to torment others. It was exactly the kind of person she despised most. Yet now, because of a single word from me, she knelt down, completely of her own free will. At the end of December, heavy snow fell. The entire city was buried in white. Just the night before, I was still sitting comfortably, enjoying life in a grand mansion. But now, bank officials had suddenly stormed in. And from that very mansion, they kicked me straight out. The Mu Group was bankrupt. My father took the money and fled the country. My mother jumped from a building and ended her life. The villa and the company were both sealed off. Even the bank cards in my hand were frozen. A wealthy young master, once pampered and precious, had fallen from heaven to hell overnight. So many people were waiting to laugh at my misfortune.
Many whom I had offended even wanted to find me and settle scores. A few worried friends tried to contact me. Despite the search by many different parties, no one could find a trace of me. Overnight, it was as if I had never existed. I simply vanished. At a remote homestay far from the city center, I still slept until noon as usual. After washing up, I slowly made my way to the homestay's small dining area for a bite to eat. This place was run by an elderly couple. Lunch was quite simple, 4 dishes and a soup. There were also some sliced salted duck eggs. It was delicious and hit the spot. Besides me, there were 4 other guests staying here. 2 art students who came for field sketching, and 2 girls on vacation. We all sat together to eat. As soon as I finished, I headed back to my room. I moved quickly, giving them no chance to talk to me. I didn't pull back the curtains. The room was quite dark. Ever since I arrived at the homestay, my phone had been turned off. I lay back on the bed. I turned on the TV, but I wasn't really watching. I just wanted some background noise. I let out a melancholy sigh. There wasn't much money left in my account. Had I really become this poor? I blamed myself for not saving more money before. I only had a little over 3 million dong left. I still had to stay in this place for 6 more years. I pondered silently, thinking Liu Ruyan probably wouldn't find me here. But then again, why would she even look for me? I gave a bitter smile. In a moment of pure narcissism, I thought, it's because she likes me, of course. But 6 years can change a lot of things. As time passes, she'll realize someone else is her true love. I didn't show any sadness. Instead, I turned on my phone. As soon as the phone booted up, a flood of messages and missed calls came pouring in. Most of them were from the same person, Liu Ruyan. I stared blankly at the messages on the screen. A few seconds of silence made the air feel suffocating. A knock at the door startled me. I snapped out of it and went to open the door. It was the 2 girls living downstairs. A girl with a cute round face spoke up. "Hey little brother, you want to celebrate New Year's Eve with us?" Her name was Yuan Tutu. Beside her was her childhood friend, Ling Min. Neither of them had parents. They had grown up together in an orphanage. Every year during the Lunar New Year, when families reunite, the 2 of them would find somewhere to travel together. Ling Min was the shy type. She just gave me a small smile. I didn't refuse. I followed them downstairs. I'd almost forgotten that it was already New Year's Eve. The 2 guys weren't going home either. We all went to a small supermarket nearby. We bought a ton of snacks, drinks, and a lot of fireworks, all different kinds. When it came time to pay, the pain in my wallet was written all over my face. Are fireworks really this expensive now? Just a few sparklers cost 35,000 already. Luckily, they knew I had just turned 18 and was still in high school. To these 4 adults in their 20s, I was someone to be pampered. They all insisted that the kids should just tag along and have fun. They wouldn't let me pay. I was thick-skinned enough to accept. Kept thanking them, calling them big brother and big sister. My sweet talk and sudden change in attitude left the 4 of them stunned. The owners had made dumplings. We all gathered around, eating dumplings and sharing some drinks. The sky began to grow dark. I happily carried a bag of fireworks out to the yard. I had intentionally changed into a long black puffer coat. With the hood up, I was completely bundled up. Only my pale, bare face was visible. Lanterns were lit in the courtyard. I held a lit sparkler in my hand. The colorful, bright light reflected in my eyes. Once again, I found myself thinking of Liu Ruyan at the wrong time. How was she spending tonight all by herself? She probably wasn't eating dumplings. She likely just had a simple meal like any other day. Then she'd sit at her desk and work on practice exams. Surely she wasn't still working her part-time job at this hour. That would be way too heartless. Yuan Tutu called me over to light the big fireworks, the kind that shoot up into the sky and explode. I excitedly tried to light the first one, but it was a dud. The second one soared into the air, followed by a loud bang. The firework bloomed in the sky. It burst into crackling sparks, lighting up the entire sky. It also illuminated the faces of everyone on the ground. Everyone was smiling brightly, except for one person standing silently. A tall, slender figure not far away. The girl's gaze was elegant yet cold. Emotions were swirling in the depths of her eyes. Her lips were pressed into a firm line. She walked very slowly, like a weary girl who had finally found her way home. The laughter around me gradually faded. One firework after another bloomed in the sky, creating a rain of golden sparks. Then they vanished behind her. My smile completely froze. A flood of emotions surged in my heart, but in the end, they were suppressed by an even stronger sense of doubt. How on earth did Liu Ruyan find this place? My heart was filled with pure shock. There was no way to answer that question, but I couldn't worry about that right now. My heart was pounding. As Liu Ruyan stepped closer and closer, I began to feel a sense of guilt and panic. I wanted to run, but my feet felt like they were rooted to the spot. I couldn't move at all. What should I do? I tried to steady my emotions. That frozen smile was still on my lips, but my eyes betrayed a ridiculous sense of guilt. As she got closer, I saw the bloodshot streaks in her eyes, a sign that she hadn't rested for a long time. Liu Ruyan stopped. She swallowed hard twice. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but then swallowed the words back down. Her hands, hanging at her sides, were trembling slightly. Yet with a hint of hesitation, she reached out and tentatively touched my cheek. Her touch was cold, but it felt incredibly real. Under the light of the fireworks, Liu Ruyan pulled me into a tight embrace. She lowered her head, burying her chin in the crook of my neck. I could feel her heavy, labored breathing. I was startled and instinctively shivered, but she only held me tighter. A few seconds later, she asked hoarsely, "Why didn't you answer your phone?" It wasn't an interrogation. It seemed like a genuine, simple question. I answered dryly, "I didn't see it." Liu Ruyan said, "I called you so many times. I sent so many messages. You never answered me. I still wanted to find her." Liu Ruyan said bitterly, "Mu Chen, have you been lying to me all this time?" My eyes widened slightly. My eyelashes trembled. "You never really liked me that much, did you? That's why you didn't say anything when things went wrong at home. You'd rather run off to a place like this alone, watching me search for you like a headless fly. And you didn't even care." I panicked, breaking out in a cold sweat. I hurriedly said, "No, I didn't. I do like you. I just. My face turned red. I said with a choked voice, "I was just afraid of losing you." Liu Ruyan was stunned. My voice carried a sob. "Ruyan, my family is bankrupt. I have no money left. I was afraid you'd use this as an excuse to leave me. I know you never really liked me anyway. You were only with me because I threatened you." Liu Ruyan wanted to argue, but the words got stuck in her throat. "I know I'm a terrible person, and now I don't even have a home anymore." I was still crying. My voice trembling and hurt, I said, "Ruyan, please don't leave me, okay?" I was crying piteously, but deep down I was actually hoping she would reject me, until Liu Ruyan's emotional voice whispered in my ear, "Chen, okay." I even stopped crying for a moment. What did she just say? Liu Ruyan thought I was just feeling insecure. Her heart ached even more for me. She gently pressed a kiss to my forehead. "Mu Chen, don't worry, I won't leave you." Liu Ruyan's appearance was unexpected, but she was welcomed with surprising warmth. I think it was mostly thanks to her beauty. The others stopped setting off fireworks and crowded around her, gossiping about our relationship. Yuan Tutu exclaimed in shock, "Oh my god, you're only 18 too. I thought you were around our age." Yuan Tutu realized she'd misspoken as soon as the words left her mouth. She quickly explained, "I didn't mean you look old. You just seem very mature." Yuan Tutu gave up on explaining. "It's not about looking older, you know what I mean?" Liu Ruyan gave a polite smile. Yuan Tutu went quiet and stopped talking. I had to hold back a laugh. I could understand how Yuan Tutu felt. Just like the first time I saw Liu Ruyan, I felt she was different from all the other high school students around her. It wasn't just that she was exceptionally beautiful. It was that Liu Ruyan always carried herself with such poise, a calm and quiet aura. Growing up in a complex and poor environment had forced her to mature far too early. Before she could even enjoy a carefree youth, she was pushed by the harsh realities of life to stumble into adulthood. There were no vacant rooms left at the homestay. The two college girls proactively invited Liu Ruyan to stay with them for the night. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. I couldn't help but sigh. What on earth was I going to do? I'd just have to go along with her for now. Then I'd find some random excuse to make her leave on her own. The next morning, Liu Ruyan silently helped me pack my things. I followed her around like a lost puppy, like a child who had done something wrong. Liu Ruyan helplessly told me to sit aside and wait. After saying goodbye to the others, I followed Liu Ruyan onto the bus to head back. Buses weren't running on New Year's Day, but luckily there were still a few taxis out trying to make a living. The ride from the homestay back to the old alley cost over 700,000. Watching Liu Ruyan scan the code to pay, I looked down, thinking back. Even when I was still the young master of the Mu family, Liu Ruyan never let me pay for a single thing. Those expensive gifts I gave her, she had returned them all, untouched. I suddenly felt a pang of regret. If I'd known, I would have forced her to keep them. Maybe I could have sold them for some cash now. Liu Ruyan had no idea about my petty thoughts.
Seeing me standing at the door with a frown, she thought I didn't want to go inside. She suddenly spoke up. Muchen, just bear with it for a little longer. I won't be poor forever. Her gaze was incredibly serious. I snapped out of it and let out a sigh. I didn't actually look down on her for being poor. After all, anyone with eyes could see that Liu Ruyan had a brilliant future ahead of her. But I still had to act like a spoiled brat. Your bed is so small, and the mattress is so hard. Liu Ruyan felt the mattress. It didn't seem hard to her. She looked at my fair, delicate face, which still had a hint of baby fat, and felt that I was too much like a child, wanting everything my way, and running away the moment things got tough. Time seemed to have left no mark on me. I hadn't matured at all. I still had the habits of a rich playboy, complaining at the slightest inconvenience, unable to endure any hardship. Liu Ruyan remained silent. She took a thick duvet from the closet and laid it down. The bed became soft and cozy. Finally, I stopped grumbling. I sat down and even bounced on it a couple of times, looking up with a wide, beaming smile. And just like that, I actually moved into Liu Ruyan's tiny apartment, brazenly taking over her bed. Meanwhile, the owner of the house had to sleep on the sofa in the living room. Liu Ruyan was quite tall, so when she slept on the sofa, her long legs had to dangle awkwardly toward the floor. One night, I woke up feeling thirsty, and that was the sight I saw. I stood there frozen, watching her for a long time, until the water in my cup turned cold before I finally went back to the room. Liu Ruyan continued her part-time jobs as usual. Because she had to support a picky young master like me, she went back to work at the Red Pavilion. She'd cook breakfast in the morning, then head to the cafe. At noon, she'd come back to bring me lunch. In the afternoon, she was back at the Red Pavilion. Then she'd come home at night to cook dinner and tutor me. No matter how thick-skinned I was, I knew exactly how much trouble I was causing her. I started taking the initiative to do chores like cooking and sweeping. When Liu Ruyan came home that day, she saw the hot food on the table and thought she'd walked into the wrong house. She actually stepped back outside to double-check before coming back in. She asked if I had ordered takeout. I rolled my eyes and said, I made it. It was just simple stir-fried eggs with tomatoes, some greens, and plain congee. It definitely didn't look like professional takeout. Liu Ruyan took a bite under my expectant gaze. The moment she tasted it, I asked impatiently, well, how is it? It's a bit bland, and it needs more oil. It actually tastes more like boiled vegetables. But facing my wide, sparkling eyes, she still nodded slowly and gave me a polite compliment, saying it was good. Hearing that, I quickly took a bite myself. My face immediately fell as I grumbled, Ruyan, you're a liar. Liu Ruyan insisted, it really is good. I told her there was something wrong with her taste buds. Liu Ruyan's cold gaze softened slightly. She didn't say anything else. Her parents had passed away too early, and she had grown up eating whatever she could get from neighbors. Back then, her only concern was filling her stomach. She couldn't afford to care if food tasted good or bad. Later, as she grew up and could earn her own money, she mostly lived on plain buns and fast food. For many years after that, her definition of a home-cooked meal was bland stir-fried vegetables and tomato egg stir-fry with way too much soy sauce. As the first day of school approached, Liu Ruyan noticed my mood was off. I spent every day dazed, my mind wandering elsewhere. I wasn't even doing the assignments she gave me properly. During another tutoring session after dinner, less than greater than, Liu Ruyan asked me several questions, less than greater than, but I just stared at the exam paper without reacting. Liu Ruyan suddenly set her fountain pen down on the wooden desk with a sharp click. I snapped out of it and blurted out, I wasn't daydreaming. Under Liu Ruyan's silent, steady gaze, my guilt got the better of me. I looked down and muttered, I'm just a bit tired today. Can we continue tomorrow? Liu Ruyan didn't buy my excuse. She pressed further, what's really going on? I mumbled back, it's nothing. The thing Liu Ruyan could tolerate least was being lied to. Her face went cold as she demanded, tell me the truth. She looked determined to get to the bottom of it. I closed my eyes, steeled my resolve, and finally said it. I don't want to go to school anymore. Those were my honest feelings, not some act I was putting on. I really didn't want to go. Besides, school meant tuition and living expenses, and even food would become an issue. Liu Ruyan was already struggling to take care of herself, and now she had to carry my weight too. I lowered my eyes, my long lashes hiding my true thoughts from her, which only made her think I was falling back into my old ways, that lazy, pleasure-seeking habit of mine. Liu Ruyan asked, if you don't go to school, what will you do with your life? I could hear the suppressed anger in her voice, so I decided to add fuel to the fire and said dismissively, You can just take care of me, just like you're doing now. Given Liu Ruyan's circumstances, this was the first time anyone had ever told her they wanted her to provide for them. If anyone else had heard me say that, any normal person would have advised Liu Ruyan to immediately kick me out. Taking things for granted like that, demanding to be taken care of without seeing how much the other person is suffering or struggling. How much of that kind of affection could possibly be sincere?
The silence in the air was suffocating.
After a long moment, Liu Ruyan finally spoke. No. After saying that, ignoring my shock, she turned and walked out. She had never been an impulsive person. She carefully considered the consequences of everything she did. Once she let me move in, less than greater than. She had already decided she would look after me for the rest of her life. Less than greater than. But her idea of taking care of me wasn't the same as mine. Less than greater than. She wanted me to be like any other normal kid. To study, get into college, and find a job I enjoyed. I didn't need to be a genius, but I at least needed the ability to protect myself. So I could live well even without her. Life is long, and no one could guarantee she would always be by my side. She hoped that even if she wasn't there, I could still live a happy life. Liu Ruyan had her own brand of selfishness too. Having me as a useless little thing relying on her forever sounded nice, but she hoped even more.
That I stayed by her side because I wanted to, not because she was my only safe harbor.
Liu Ruyan had made up her mind. In the days that followed, no matter how much I acted spoiled, threw tantrums, or even got angry, Liu Ruyan didn't budge an inch. On the first day of school, I finally had no choice but to go with her. I sat on the back of Liu Ruyan's bicycle, too annoyed to even wrap my arms around her waist. My head just bumped rhythmically against her back with every jolt. When we were still a few hundred meters from the school, Liu Ruyan stopped and told me to get off and walk the rest of the way. Just take me a little further. Do you have to be this stingy? I asked crossly. Liu Ruyan glanced at me but said nothing, then pedaled away. Left behind, I frustratedly punched and kicked at the air. I grabbed my backpack straps, slumping my shoulders as I trudged toward the school.
From a distance, I heard someone calling my name, followed by the sound of heavy breathing from running.
Muchen, you little brat, where the hell have you been this past month? Do you have any idea how many times I called you? You're seriously heartless. Wen Xiaobei rattled off like a machine gun, but if I listened closely, his voice sounded a bit choked up. It was a rare moment where I actually felt guilty. I flusteredly tugged at Wen Xiaobei's uniform. Hey, don't cry. Who's crying? Fine, fine. I'm the one crying, okay? When it came to coaxing my friends, I had a lot of patience. Wen Xiaobei wasn't about to show his sadness in front of someone as heartless as me. He blinked back his tears and said, "What do you have to cry about? You weren't the one who got ghosted." No, wait, when did I ever say we were cutting ties? I said with a headache, "Xiaobei, oh Xiaobei, I didn't mean it like that."
Then why didn't you answer any of my calls or texts? Why did you just ignore me? Boys can be sensitive too. Wen Xiaobei took a deep breath. Is it because you feel like you're no longer the young master of the Mu family? So you think I won't want to be your friend anymore? In your heart, is Wen Xiaobei really that kind of shallow person? I really didn't expect him to think so deeply into it. At this moment, my perception of Wen Xiaobei went beyond the surface. I felt a complex mix of emotions. After pulling him aside and coaxing him for a while, I finally managed to calm Wen Xiaobei down. The two of us walked toward the classroom together. Wen Xiaobei, who had been looking tense, suddenly remembered something and asked with a frown, "Where have you been staying lately? Do you still have any money?" "I'm staying at—" My words came to a sudden halt as I realized something. Facing Wen Xiaobei's suspicious gaze, I forced myself to lie. "I'm staying at a hotel." Wen Xiaobei didn't doubt me for a second and continued, "Is your money holding up?" "I still have a bit left. I'll transfer some to you later. Just take it and use it for now." Feeling guilty, I shook my head and replied, "No need, I have enough money. If I run out, I definitely won't be shy about asking you." Only then did Wen Xiaobei's expression soften. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, but at the same time, an indescribable bitterness welled up inside. I had been blaming Liu Ruyan for being petty, but she was actually doing it for my sake. The Mu family scandal was all over the news. I had become a pathetic person with no home to return to. If people saw me and Liu Ruyan together, rumors would definitely start that we were living together. And there would be no way to deny it we were living together. And there would be no shortage of even nastier comments. If word of this got out, I would be the one most severely affected. That silent idiot. Couldn't she have just said it directly? If I weren't so smart, someone as tight-lipped as Liu Ruyen would have just suffered in silence. Once I got to class, I shot a resentful glare in her direction. But Liu Ruyen acted as if she didn't even see me. Fine, ignore me then. I opened my book. Amidst the echoing sounds of students reading aloud, half-heartedly tried to memorize English vocabulary. The Mu family had fallen. I used to be so arrogant and overbearing, offending quite a few classmates. I had a feeling someone would intentionally come over to mock me. But I didn't expect the first person to show up would be Shen Jiayan. After morning self-study ended, the homeroom teacher called me into the office. I don't know what was said, but when I came back, I started packing my books. The other students in the class began whispering. What did the teacher say to him? Why is he suddenly packing his things? What else could it be? He's definitely being transferred. With those mock exam scores of his, he should have been moved down to class 4 a long time ago. If it weren't for his status as the Mu family's young master, how could they have let him stay in our class for so long? Now that his family is bankrupt, the school obviously isn't going to give him special treatment anymore. The gossip came from all directions, and they weren't even trying to lower their voices. Less than greater than. Almost as if they wanted me to hear. Less than greater than. Liu Ruyan watched me. Less than greater than. And my movements to pack my books quickened. With my head down from her angle, my long eyelashes were trembling slightly with unease. The pampered young master had taken a hard fall, tumbling from the heights into the mud, surrounded by people laughing at him without mercy. If no one helps, will I just be bullied by everyone from now on? Since I'm so good-looking, someone will probably take this chance to trick me and take advantage of me, right? Liu Ruyan's gaze grew darker and darker. As for me, the main character of all this mockery. While I was quickly packing my things, I was thinking that Class 4 was just an average class, so the management would probably be more relaxed than Class A. Hopefully, the study atmosphere isn't too intense. I really can't handle that. I quickly suppressed the smile on my lips and rubbed my face, refusing to admit I was actually happy. But to everyone else, that face rubbing looked like I was trying not to cry. Suddenly, a hand grabbed my wrist as I was packing. I looked up along those long, slender fingers and met Liu Ruyan's deep, quiet gaze. For some reason, I could tell she was a bit upset. Let me walk you over there. Liu Ruyan let go of my wrist and started helping me pack my books. I didn't quite understand what was happening, but having someone help me move my stuff made me more than happy. Liu Ruyan's movements were much more efficient than mine, and she looked quite graceful doing it. I sat back casually, resting my chin on my hand and smiling as I watched her. That was when Shen Jiayan walked over. She spoke in a gentle voice. Ruyan, the English teacher wants you to go to the office to pick something up. The first period was English. Liu Ruyan was the class academic rep, so the teacher probably wanted her to get some materials, but usually the teacher would just ask the English subject rep for that. Liu Ruyan frowned and asked, did the teacher specifically ask for me? Shen Jiayan's eyes darted away, and she gave a tense nod. Liu Ruyan was about to refuse and suggest the subject rep go instead, but I tugged on her sleeve and said, just go. I can handle this myself. Ruyan said in an indisputable tone, less than greater than. I said I'd take you there, less than greater than. You can't carry all this stuff by yourself, less than greater than. Shen Jiayan quickly chimed in, I'll help him. Shen Jiayan quickly chimed in, I'll help him. Meeting my knowing and unreadable gaze, she quickly looked away and said to Liu Ruyan, classmates should help each other out. I'll help Mu Chen carry his things over. Shen Jiayan had gone that far, but Liu Ruyan still had no intention of leaving. It was actually because I wanted to see what this girl was up to that I urged Liu Ruyan to go. Moving things from here to Class 4 required going up a floor. Many students saw us along the way, whispering and wondering what was going on. I just acted like I didn't see them. Shen Jiayan stared at me for a while, and seeing that my expression was normal, she felt a bit annoyed. She couldn't help but ask, aren't you embarrassed? I looked at her, confused. Why should I be embarrassed? Plenty of people were assigned to Class 4 during the last reshuffle. I didn't see any of them feeling embarrassed. Why should I? The thing is, they were assigned there properly. But you're being kicked out of Class 1 and sent to Class 4 midterm. How can you even compare the two? I was trying my best to keep my face looking calm. Why aren't these people in class studying? What are they staring at? Fortunately, once Shen Jiayan realized I didn't care, she stopped intentionally slowing down. The two of us reached Class 4 very quickly. Shen Jiayan set my things down at an empty spot in the back row, then put on a thoughtful act and said a few words of comfort. Basically, she told me not to be too sad about being kicked out of class 1. I watched her leisurely walk away about to be sad. I watched her leisurely walk away thinking how truly strange this world is.
Since when did Shen Jiayan become less than greater than? So reasonable and understanding. Less than greater than. Class 4 was mostly made up of middle-class kids from well-off families. They didn't have much of an obsession with studying. After all, they could just pay to go study abroad later to pad their resumes. Normally, these people never had a chance to talk to me. Even if we happened to run into each other at parties, I'd act like they didn't exist. But now, the Mu family scandal had spread throughout high society. People had been skeptical at first, but seeing me get kicked out of class 1 confirmed that the rumors were true. I really wasn't the young master of the Mu family anymore. The teacher was lecturing at the front. I kept feeling like several pairs of eyes lingering on me, especially staying on my face for a long time. I got so annoyed by the staring that I couldn't take it anymore, so I frowned and glared back. It was a girl with dyed red hair looking very rebellious. I didn't know her. When she saw me look over, she was stunned for a moment, less than greater than. Then she gave me a reckless, nonchalant smile. Less than greater than. I had to admit she looked pretty bold. Less than greater than. Too bad she was just a wannabe rebel. Lin Xiaotang didn't miss my gaze, nor the undisguised disdain in it. Still the same as before, huh? She brushed her red hair back, the corner of her mouth curling into a wider smirk. After class, I took my water bottle to get a refill. This bright yellow bottle was something Liu Ruyan had just bought for me. Back when I had money, I'd just buy bottled mineral water whenever I was thirsty. Now that I'm broke, to keep from dying of thirst, I obviously have to go get water myself. The water dispenser was against the wall near the door. I hadn't even taken 2 steps when a human wall appeared in front of me. I moved to the left. The human wall moved to the left too. I went right, and the wall blocked me on the right. After this happened a couple of times, I got annoyed and glared up. It was that red-haired girl. I said angrily, "You're in my way." Lin Xiaotang seemed amused by my irritation. "I know. I'm doing it on purpose." I gave her a dirty look and said, "You're so boring." Lin Xiaotang laughed and said, "Not at all. Thirsty? How about I go get the water for you?" I hid the water bottle behind my back, dodging her reaching hand. "No thanks." "Don't be like that, young Master Mu. I don't mean any harm. I just want to get on your good side a bit." I'd be an idiot to believe her nonsense. My face went cold as I turned to walk away. Lin Xiaotang refused to move. She stepped forward, seemingly wanting to say something else, but the bell for the next class rang just in time. I hadn't even gotten my water yet. I gave her one last fierce glare before heading back to my seat. Halfway through the period, I was starting to lose it. My mouth was bone dry and incredibly uncomfortable. I glanced into the desk of the girl sitting in front of me and saw a bottle of mineral water. I nudged my desk forward a bit and gave her back a light poke. The girl turned her head around. I shyly asked, "Can I have a sip of your water?" After saying that, I quickly added, "I'll buy you a new bottle after class." My classmate hesitated for a moment before handing it over. My face lit up. I smiled so wide my eyes turned into crescents. "Thank you," I replied. She shyly said it was no problem. After taking a few sips of the sweet mineral water, I hurried out through the back door. I didn't stop until I reached the supermarket. I grabbed an identical bottle of mineral water from the shelf. After paying, I headed back to class. Just as I stepped out of the supermarket, I saw Liu Ruyan standing under a tree not far away. I had no idea how long she'd been waiting. All the girls passing by were stealing glances at her. Liu Ruyan's gaze lingered on the bottle in my hand for a brief second. Then she walked over slowly and asked, "Thirsty?" I shook my head. "No, I bought this to pay someone back." Liu Ruyan frowned and asked what happened. I immediately made a face. I started venting to her like I was tattling. I even cursed that red-haired guy a few times, calling him a psycho. It was all his fault I couldn't get any water. I was so thirsty I couldn't take it, so I had to borrow some from someone else. Hearing this, Liu Ruyan's expression suddenly soured. But before I could get a good look, she returned to her usual calm self. "I see." I didn't quite understand what she meant by that. Before I could ask, she had already turned and walked away. I didn't think much of it, and went to return the water to my creditor. The girl who lent me the water probably didn't expect me to actually bring her a new one, so she looked a bit surprised. "Oh, you don't have to. It's just a bottle of water. Just keep it." I insisted, No, I can't do that. This costs 10,000 dong." Hearing me say that, the girl's expression became a bit complicated. To think a wealthy young master who never looked at price tags would actually say something like this. Times really have changed. Fate is a cruel joker. It wasn't until school let out in the afternoon that I understood what Liu Ruyan meant by I see. I was about to go find her for dinner when that red-haired guy blocked my path again. While he was bothering me, I found out his name was Lin Xiaotang. His family was in the jewelry business. Lin Xiaotang insisted on treating me to a meal. "Young Master Mu, give me some face. You can pick any place you want. Pick my ass."
Losing my patience, I tried to push him aside. Lin Xiaotang was quick and tried to grab my wrist. Suddenly, a powerful force swiped his arm away. The impact was so hard it actually hurt. Lin Xiaotang let out a cry, clutching his arm. He looked up to see who had the guts to cross him, who dared to stand against him. But he was met with a dark, chilling glare. Lin Xiaotang instinctively took a few steps back. By the time he regained his composure, the newcomer had already pulled me far away. Lin Xiaotang was fuming, shouting curses at our backs. Liu Ruyan pulled me along with a grim expression. I couldn't keep up with her pace. I kept telling her to slow down, but she completely ignored me. Finally, at a corner in the hallway, I yanked my hand out of her grip. Facing her dark expression, less than greater than. I felt both hurt and angry. "I told you slow down." Less than greater than. "Why are you walking so fast?" Less than greater than. "Are you actually mad at me?" I'm the one who should be mad here.
My voice was full of grievance. Liu Ruyan's expression softened slightly, but she still kept a cold face. "Why didn't you tell me?" Meeting her pitch-black eyes, it suddenly clicked. "Are you talking about Lin Xiaotang? So you even know his name now?" Liu Ruyan's gaze grew even colder. I pouted. "That guy just has a big mouth. I'll just ignore him and that'll be that. Besides, you're not in my class. What good would telling you do? Plus, Lin Xiaotang's family has some money. If Liu Ruyan clashed with him, she'd definitely be the one to suffer." Liu Ruyan stared at me in silence for a moment. Then she spoke. "Let's go eat first. After that, go back to class and pack your things." I froze for a second. Then I looked up and asked, "Pack what things?" Liu Ruyan only said, "Let's eat." Then she took off toward the cafeteria with her long strides. How am I supposed to have an appetite now?
Why leave me hanging like that? I jogged after her. I anxiously whispered in her ear, "What do you mean by pack your things?" "Ruyan, talk to me." Liu Ruyan kept her eyes fixed forward. She didn't stop walking. "Eat first. If you keep asking, I won't tell you." I stopped my foot and shut my mouth, feeling wronged. I followed behind Liu Ruyan. As soon as we entered the cafeteria, it caused the usual small stir. I hadn't eaten much this morning, and the smell of the food from the large pots was so rich it hit me right in the face. I swallowed hard, whispering into Liu Ruyan's ear, "I want to eat those noodles." Liu Ruyan went over to buy the food, telling me to find a seat first. I looked around and sat down not far from the counter where Liu Ruyan was. A crowd of students was lining up for food, and Liu Ruyan stood in the middle of the line, slowly moving forward. She was wearing the same school uniform as everyone else, but she still stood out instantly, even from behind. She's gotten quite tall now, hasn't she? I suddenly remembered the first time I met Liu Ruyan. She was a tall girl, but because she grew so quickly, and her nutrition couldn't keep up, she was excessively thin. It made her already cold facial features look even more sharp, giving off an aura that pushed people 1,000 miles away. The current Liu Ruyan is even taller, but she's still just as thin. Compared to 2 years ago, she's added a layer of polite but distant armor. That polite and distant Liu Ruyan scanned the crowd and found me in a single glance. She walked over, effortlessly carrying 2 trays of food, and sat down across from me. Liu Ruyan took the noodles and a container of steaming hot braised chicken and potatoes, less than greater than, pushed them right in front of me, less than greater than, and then tucked a pair of disposable chopsticks into my hand. I didn't feel the least bit awkward being pampered like this, nodding my head eagerly like a chick pecking at grain. I picked up the chopstick and was just about to dig into the noodles when I caught a glimpse of the large portion of plain white rice and a few stalks of green vegetables in front of Liu Ruyan. I couldn't help but ask, "Why did you only buy vegetables for yourself?" Hearing that, a strange expression flickered across Liu Ruyan's face for just a split second, but for some reason I saw right through it. These greens are better than just being boiled in plain water anyway. Liu Ruyan simply replied indifferently, "I don't have much of an appetite." I lowered my head to eat my noodles, but for some reason when I bit into the braised chicken, it didn't taste as good as that first bite anymore. Liu Ruyan ate very quickly, and she was completely silent. One bite of vegetables, then one bite of rice. It was impossible to tell from her face if it tasted good or not. Suddenly, a piece of chicken dripping in sauce appeared on top of her rice. Liu Ruiyan's movements froze, and she looked up at me. I quickly looked away, burying my face in my noodles to hide my expression. The air around us seemed to thicken. A quiet understanding spread between the two of us. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Liu Ruiyan pick up the piece of chicken. A faint smile curled onto my lip, and even the noodles started to taste better. Throughout the meal, a piece of chicken would occasionally appear in Liu Ruiyan's bowl, or maybe a piece of potato, and even a slice of ginger disguised as a potato. Liu Ruiyan quietly spat the ginger out. The sound of vegetables being chopped filled the air. For stir-fried tomato and eggs, you have to scramble the eggs first, then toss in the tomatoes and stir them around. Mix it all together, and finally, add the seasoning. I looked at my handiwork with satisfaction. It looked pretty appetizing. The old duck soup was simmering on low heat, and the multi-grain rice was finishing up in the pressure cooker. Just 2 more dishes and we're set. Lotus root is very healthy this time of year. I took out the lotus root and prepared to wash it in the sink. I was only halfway through when the doorbell rang. It had only been a few minutes since I sent the text to Liu Ruiyan. Is she back already? In the few seconds it took me to get to the door, the doorbell kept ringing incessantly. It seemed like whoever it was wouldn't stop until the door opened. Who could be so annoying? The moment the door opened, the woman outside didn't even bother to look before casually saying, "Auntie, is there anything to eat? Give me a bit." Looking up from her long, fair legs, Liu Wanwan slowly raised her head, and then her eyes widened in shock. "What are you doing here?" It was probably because I had just showered and was wearing loose, simple loungewear, looking as if I had lived here for years. Wait, are they living together? Liu Wanwan was stunned, speechless. I also didn't expect the visitor to be Liu Wanwan. Thinking about the fact that she was my boss, I originally intended to politely invite her in. But seeing her face full of shock, I couldn't keep up the fake smile anymore. I rolled my eyes. The maid is on leave. There are snacks I just bought on the table. And there's cake in the fridge. Help yourself to whatever you want. Thanks. Liu Wanwan blurted out before she could even process it. Seeing me head back toward the kitchen, she followed right behind and asked, "Are you really living with Ruiyan?" I turned to look at her and said, "My name isn't He, and why should I tell you?" Liu Wanwan thought to herself this familiar sarcasm. It's exactly like a certain someone. She gave a cold snort. Fine, don't tell me then. This young lady doesn't even care to know. I didn't bother with her. I just turned my back and gave her a thumbs up. My attitude was completely dismissive. Then I asked, "Boss Liu, what are you actually doing here?" Liu Wanwan crossed her arms huffily, mimicking my tone. "And why should I tell you?" My face remained expressionless. After a moment, seeing that I really wasn't going to ask again, she was the one who got impatient. She coughed twice and said, "The day after tomorrow is my grandfather's birthday gala. I came to give Ruiyan the invitation." With that, she pulled a red, gold-embossed invitation from her bag and said in an arrogant tone, "You can come along with Ruiyan when the time comes." I wasn't about to fall for her trap. The invitation isn't for me, so I'm not going. Liu Wanwan rolled her eyes, found a black pen on the TV stand, opened the invitation, and scribbled 2 more words after Liu Ruiyan's name. Mu Chen. Then she shoved it in front of me. "Is this good enough? Why are you so petty? I'm your boss, you know." All right. I looked at the messy handwriting added there, and couldn't help but chuckle at those 2 words. Seeing Liu Wanwan glare at me, I immediately straightened my tone. "I'll make sure to pick out a gift very carefully." "Thank you, Boss Liu." Only then did Liu Wanwan nod in satisfaction. She's clearly the heiress of a prestigious family, yet she always acts like such a ditz. How on earth did she become best friends with Liu Ruiyan? I was genuinely curious, but I didn't dare ask. My cooking was starting to look the part. Liu Wanwan glanced at the time and announced that she would be eating here too. As if afraid I'd refuse, she immediately left the kitchen and headed straight for the living room. On the living room table sat a grocery bag filled with all sorts of snacks. The fridge was also packed with food, including cakes and colorful soft drinks. Out on the open balcony, the golden glow of the sunset spilled inside. A snow-white kitten was fast asleep with its belly exposed. From the kitchen, the mouth-watering aroma of home-cooked food wafted out from time to time. The whole place was filled with the warmth of a normal, everyday life. Liu Wanwan's expression briefly turned complicated. She almost doubted if she had come to the wrong place. I finally finished the last stir-fry. Afraid the food would get cold, I decided to wait a bit before setting the table. I sent another text asking Liu Ruiyan where she was. I waited for over 10 minutes, but there was no reply.
I figured Liu Ruyan must be busy. 6:10 p.m. The sound of a car engine echoed in the villa's courtyard. My eyes lit up, and I jogged outside before she even appeared. Before she could even step out of the car, I started whining playfully. Less than greater than. Before she could even step out of the car, I started whining playfully. Less than greater than. Before she could even step out of the car, I started whining playfully. You're so slow. The car door opened. The first thing that caught my eye was her long, slender legs. I took a good look, enjoying the view. Then I looked up. I was just about to brag about how many dishes I had cooked, but I didn't expect to meet her cold, dark, and lifeless eyes. I froze for a moment. Instinctively, I asked, "What's wrong?" Liu Ruyan. Countless images of her time with me flashed through her mind. Every single moment was crystal clear. Falling in love, being apart, reuniting clearly. She was the one who lived it, but now she looked like a complete outsider. There wasn't a single ripple of emotion in her heart. He knew this wasn't normal. Liu Ruyan lowered her gaze, not answering his question, and said in a flat tone, "Let's go inside." Only after Liu Ruyan brushed past him did he snap out of it, frowning as he followed her in. "Ruyan, you're finally back. If you took any longer, I would have eaten all the food your Mu Chen cooked." Lu Wanwen's joke, upon seeing Liu Ruyan's cold expression and the heavy silence behind her, came to an abrupt halt. "Did you two have a fight?" She winked at him, signaling for an answer. He waved his hand, indicating he had no idea what was going on either. The atmosphere at the dinner table was bizarre. Lu Wanwen really couldn't take it anymore, even regretting staying for a free meal. She mentioned the birthday gala one more time, then hurried to leave. Only the two of them were left at the table, and it was so quiet it was almost eerie. The silence was almost eerie. Only the sound of chopsticks hitting the plates could be heard. He couldn't help but speak up. "I worked really hard to cook this following a recipe. Aren't you going to say anything?" His voice was a bit sullen, carrying a hint of hurt that was hard to miss. Liu Ruyan looked up at me for a moment and quickly looked away. Recalling her past self, she thought about what she should say. After a long silence, she finally spoke. "You're the best." Liu Ruyan was clearly saying almost the exact same things as before, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It sounded so forced. I frowned. Did something happen today? Something feels strange, though I can't quite put my finger on it. I just have this feeling that Liu Ruyan is hiding something on purpose. What could have happened? I got your text, went to the parking lot, and drove home for dinner. Everything was perfectly normal. Liu Ruyan shook her head and replied, "Nothing. I'm probably just a little tired." I acted like I understood, letting out a sigh of relief. My voice softened. "Then take a hot bath in a bit and try to get some rest." Liu Ruyan gave a faint mm-hmm. From beginning to end, she never once looked me in the eye, and of course, I didn't see the coldness that had been in her eyes the whole time. That dinner passed in an incredibly suffocating atmosphere. After Liu Ruyan went to shower, I curled up on the sofa, listening to the sound of running water, and a sudden, inexplicable sense of panic rose in my heart. I remembered her dark, still, emotionless eyes tonight, exactly like they were many years ago, when we first met in that old alleyway. The way she looked at me was cold and without a single ripple. It was as if over the past few months, the days we spent relying on each other from dawn till dusk were nothing more than a wild dream I had all by myself. I pulled my knees to my chest on the sofa, and without realizing it, I drifted off into a light sleep. In my half-awake, half-asleep state, I felt someone gently picking me up. The movement was incredibly tender, carrying a faint, familiar, and comforting scent of soap. Longing for that warmth, I nuzzled into the crook of her neck, mumbling her name, Ruyan. In the pitch-black night, I felt a few tears softly fall onto the corners of my eyes. Immediately after was a deep and passionate kiss. Mu Chen, her raspy voice whispered in my ear, carrying a tone I had never heard before, a trembling sob as if she were about to break. Until the next morning, I was woken up by a persistent ringing phone. I snapped my eyes open. The spot beside me was cold and flat. Liu Ruyan wasn't there. I answered the phone in a panic. It was Liu Yumyun calling. Her voice was filled with unmistakable joy and utter disbelief. "Mu Chen, have you seen the news? The Su group is finished. Shen Jian is in prison." My head felt like it was exploding. Completely blank. "What did you say?" "It's the breaking news from early this morning. A mysterious capital source launched a hostile takeover of all the Su group's outstanding shares. At the same time, they released ironclad evidence of the Su group's tax evasion and commercial fraud. The old man of the Su family has been taken into custody. The old man of the Su family has been taken into custody. The old man of the Su family has been taken into custody. Su Yuaning is suspected of economic crimes and has been banned from leaving the country. Shen Jiayan, as Su Yuaning's accomplice, has been taken away by the police. Lu Yunyun screamed excitedly on the other end. Mu Chen, you won. All the former assets of the Mu family
have been separated by that capital source and are undergoing restructuring. I didn't even have time to put on my shoes. Stepping barefoot onto the cold wooden floor, my heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would burst out of my chest. Who does that capital belong to? There was a moment of silence on the other end. Lu Yumyan's voice became incredibly complex. It even carried a hint of awe. You are the legal representative, but the one pulling the strings is Liu Ruyan. She's gone mad, Lu Yunyan muttered. Mu Chen, do you know how she's survived this past half year? She turned herself into a soulless machine, going undercover and setting traps, utilizing every resource, obsessively navigating this cutthroat world, to carve out a path of blood. Last night, she cut off the Su Group's final capital chain and completed all the share transfer transactions overnight. I hung up the phone. A craft paper envelope sat on the dining table. I walked over, my hands trembling so much I could barely open it. Sliding out from the envelope was a thick stack of documents. Share transfer agreements, unconditional real estate gift contracts. In the bottom right corner of every document, that sharp, cold name was already signed. Liu Ruyan. And the beneficiary of everything was me. Tucked into the last page was a thin sheet of stationery. There was only one line written on it. The handwriting was sharp, but clearly showed exhaustion. The Mu Group belongs to you. Go live the life you were meant to live. Tears suddenly began to fall onto the letter, blurring the ink. What do you mean the life I'm meant to live? What kind of life is it without you? I finally understand now. All those times you left early and came home late. I understand the bloodshot veins in your eyes. I understand your intentional coldness during dinner last night. You were afraid that if you lost, you'd drag me down with you. You were afraid of being covered in blood. After walking this path of revenge to the end, that you would tarnish a fragile young master like me. From beginning to end, you were always trying to push me back into that clean and bright world. Liu Ruyan, you're such a fool. I cried and cursed at the same time. I grabbed my coat in a hurry and rushed out the door like a madman. I searched the cafes. I searched Hongguan. I searched every place we had ever been, but there was no sign of you. Finally, gasping for air, I stood at the entrance of that old alleyway. That shabby rented room used to be your home. It was also the place that, after I lost everything, became my only peaceful harbor. I ran all the way upstairs and violently pushed open the thin wooden door. The room was dark and silent, with no lights on. On the small, cramped, and worn-out sofa, Liu Ruyan was leaning there. She was wearing her familiar black coat, her long legs awkwardly tucked in because the space was too small. She had fallen fast asleep. There were dark circles under her eyes and her jawline was so thin it looked sharp. Her entire being radiated an extreme exhaustion, as if she had drained every ounce of her soul. I tiptoed toward her and slowly knelt down in front of her. Looking at this elegant yet cold face, I couldn't hold it back anymore, and tears began to stream down my face. I reached out and gently stroked her furrowed brows, wanting to smooth away the lines there. As if sensing movement, her eyelashes fluttered slightly. Those pitch-black eyes immediately snapped open, filled with a lingering defensiveness and coldness. But the moment she realized it was me, the ice in her eyes shattered. Liu Ruyan's voice was terrifyingly raspy. She instinctively tried to stand up, but because she had stayed in one position for too long, she stumbled and almost fell. I lunged forward and pulled her into a tight embrace. I held her waist firmly. Where did you go? Don't you want me anymore? I didn't care about anything and just sobbed loudly, like a child who had finally found his way home, wiping my tears and snot all over her coat. Who cares about the Mu Group? Who cares about those worthless shares? What gives you the right to decide for me? What gives you the right to abandon me? Liu Ruyan was stunned. Pushed back by my sudden lunging, she fell against the back of the sofa, her hands hanging awkwardly in the air. A long time passed, so long that my sobs began to subside, before she slowly, tentatively placed her hands on my back. Mu Chen, she sighed softly, her voice filled with helpless resignation. You're now President Mu, owner of tens of trillions in assets. Can you stop crying at the drop of a hat? I'll cry if I want to. If you don't care about me, I'll cry forever. I looked up, my eyes red as I glared at her fiercely. Didn't you tell me to go live the life I was meant to live? Let me tell you, Liu Ruyan,
The life I'm meant to live is one with you by my side. Liu Ruyan looked at me silently. Those eyes that always held too many secrets finally shed every layer of disguise at this moment, leaving only a deep, unreserved tenderness. My reputation is terrible now. She spoke softly, as if wanting to confirm one last time. Everyone in the circle says I'm ruthless and cruel, a mad woman who would use any means to climb to the top. Maybe I'm no longer the innocent student you once thought I was. I don't care. I cut her off decisively, cupping her face in my hand, forcing her to look me in the eye. My young master temperament flared up again, carrying a touch of wild arrogance. I don't give a damn what others say. All I know is that you're the one who took a hit from me in that old alley, when I was being bullied. You're the one who, when I had a high fever and no money for a doctor, worked all night to buy me medicine. You're the only one who took me in when I had nothing. I leaned in until our noses touched, feeling her warm breath. Liu Ruyan, listen closely. Before, I lived a life of luxury and didn't understand the hardships of the world. Now that the Mu group is back, I'll be the one to take care of you from now on. I declared bossily, you can only be mine. Liu Ruyan suddenly burst into laughter. Since the day we met, it was the first time I had seen her laugh so freely, so beautifully. It was like the first snow of the season melting, as if everything were returning to spring.
She leaned in proactively and pressed her lips against mine. Unlike the desperate and resigned kiss of last night, this kiss carried the passion of something lost and found again. Less than greater than. The determination of finally being able to less than greater than belong to each other openly. 2 years later, less than greater than. In a luxury apartment with the best view in the city center, sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, spreading across the soft sheepskin rug. Wearing loose loungewear, I hummed a tune while busying myself in the open kitchen. Duck soup was simmering in the pot, and unevenly sliced tomatoes lay on the cutting board. Although I am currently the nominal chairman of the Mu Group, all actual operations had long been handed over to the CEO, Liu Ruyan. My greatest joy now is researching how to cook a delicious plate of stir-fried eggs with tomatoes. A plate of stir-fried eggs with tomatoes. The sound of the digital lock came from the door.
Ruyan! My eyes lit up, and I immediately dropped the spatula and ran out. Liu Ruyan's aura was more composed than it was 2 years ago. She steadily caught me as I lunged at her. Why are you home so early today? Besides the faint scent of soap, there was a hint of mature, woody perfume. There were no meetings today. Liu Ruyan naturally wrapped her arms around my waist and leaned down to kiss my forehead. Smells good. What are you cooking? Stir-fried eggs with tomatoes. I definitely used enough salt this time. I lifted my chin proudly, and a glint of amusement flashed in Liu Ruyan's eyes. She reached out to ruffle my hair, her voice holding a tenderness and indulgent reserve only for me. All right, anything you cook is delicious. The sunset outside the window was beautiful and a gentle breeze blew. The little white cat on the balcony was lazily stretching. I leaned into Liu Ruyan's chest, listening to her steady, powerful heartbeat, feeling that in this world there could be no ending more perfect than this moment. Even though we once fell into the mud, even though we were once covered in wounds, as long as I turn around and she is still here, that's enough.